This story begins in the heights. At the top of that place, there was a man sitting. He was the 10th strongest angel, and his name was Ramiel. Looking to the side, the boy seems to notice something, not believing what he was seeing in front of him, for a human was coming towards him. Drawing his sword, the man orders the boy to stop, saying that this was not a place for him. However, in a matter of seconds, the boy calmly passes by that angel, calling the boss to come up. Meanwhile, a group of people questions if the doorman Ramiel had really been attacked. Observing that boy, the angels order him not to move, saying that this was a place for immortals called the Celestial World, and the humans who came to that place should be killed. But the angel takes only one hit and goes flying. His other friend even tries to shoot an arrow at the boy, seeming to be successful at that. But when he looks, that kid had already disappeared, and in a matter of moments, that crazy one was already on top of the angels. While falling, a portal opens beside him. From it, another angel comes out attacking the boy. Even so, he easily dodges, striking that angel. The other one, who seems to be a mage, starts casting a spell. Speaking in some strange tongues, he says he would kill him, but the man just hits him on the head, breaking the angel's mask. Reaching the ground, the very confident boy starts climbing some stairs, saying he had already told the boss to come out. Then several soldiers start coming down those stairs. Along with them, a gigantic angel was behind. That giant, observing the protagonist, asks if it was him who was running like a savage in the sky. Going towards the boy, the angel says he couldn't just watch that. But when he attacks the boy, the giant seems to get confused, because that crazy kid simply grabbed his foot with his hands. Surprisingly, he starts pulling that giant, and with incredible strength, he throws him at those soldiers. An angel in the background says that the boy fought well, and for a mere human, he had incredible skill. Then another blonde-haired angel appears. That was the 5th strongest angel called Rogariel, saying that as he was a human, he could only reach that place, questioning if he could get closer by any chance. Then the protagonist seems to use some ability. As a consequence, a green aura begins to surround his body. Observing that, the angel is surprised, because in a matter of seconds, that kid was already behind him. Then, with just one finger, the boy flicks his forehead. Rolling like a basketball, the angel falls to the ground, knocked out. The angel mentions that the legend was true, affirming that the boy could indeed be called a hybrid, saying that if he wanted to move forward, he would have to go through him. So without any compassion, the boy begins to step over the angel. However, that guy wanted to ask the young man something else, questioning why he was using that incredible power against the sky. Then with a threatening look, the boy says that it was just the beginning because he would completely destroy that celestial world. Again, the angel asks why he was doing all that, and the boy says they had taken everything he had. As a consequence, that was the right thing to do. Then we return to some random building. Next, the protagonist seems to wake up scared, wondering what he was dreaming about before, mentioning that lately he had been having very strange dreams because it seemed like he was fighting against angels. Shortly after, a kind of electricity starts coming out of the boy's hands, wondering why his whole body was tingling. That sensation was like electricity running through his body. Then his mother appears, questioning if the boy was awake, asking if there was anything wrong with his body, or if he suddenly felt any secondary characteristics in his body. Then the boy says everything was fine. As he gets out of bed, his mother asks him to go take a shower and eat. Reaching the kitchen, he sees his father doing something. Coming from behind, the boy says good morning. Desperate, his father asks him never to do that again. Then the boy asks why he was acting that way. Then when he looks back, he realizes it was the protagonist, questioning if the boy wanted a toast for breakfast. Shortly after, the protagonist gets ready to go to school. His father says he should have breakfast before going to school, but the boy says he would be late. Then his father mentions that today was the boy's birthday and that there would be a party at night. A while later, the boy is on his way to school, wondering why his parents were acting that way. His parents had never said anything unpleasant, but now he was 19 years old and still in high school, so they should be trying to pressure him to study. Therefore, that day he should stop playing and study hard. Looking at the clock, he realizes it was already time. If things continue like that, he could end up being late, so he decided to take a shortcut. Starting to run, the young man notices that his body felt lighter. Meanwhile, in the alley, there were 2 hefty guys walking. Between them, the protagonist appears running. Passing by the 2, he ends up spilling the coffee of one of the hefty guys, who ends up breaking the wall of his weight. Confused, the hefty guy wonders what had happened, why he was suddenly thrown far away. Observing the protagonist, the other hefty guy calls out to him, asking if there was anyone else with him and if it was the boy who hurt his friend, he should apologize. Getting close to the hefty guy, the boy apologizes, saying it was not his intention. Surprised, the protagonist asks why he was bleeding since it was just a small collision. Then a light starts descending from the sky. From within it, an angel appears. Meanwhile, the boy was handing money to that hefty guy, saying if he saw the protagonist there again, he would kill him. Shortly after, the young man tries to leave that place, and the hefty guy kicks him. Surprised because the boy's body was as hard as a rock. The protagonist, in turn, ends up falling on someone. That girl says she finally found him, and that was the angel from before. Then the other hefty guy asks who that girl was because she seemed to be a cosplayer of an angel. Then that girl says she was his guardian angel and therefore she couldn't forgive the person who had hit him. and from what she had seen, those people were bad. Therefore, they should be punished. Quickly, the girl jumps, landing behind those two hefty guys. In a matter of seconds, she kicks one of them, quickly punches the other one, then gives an uppercut to the other man. Finishing what she had to do, the girl tells them to leave that place, asking if the protagonist was okay, and the boy asks if she knew him. And the angel says her name was Ja, mentioning that she could say all that just by his name on his school uniform. Observing the boy's statistics, she says they were average. Ja in turn asks if they had met in that game Canyon, and if they did anything together. Then the girl says she was there to support him because she was an angel. However, the protagonist says he had stopped playing that game because he should have another hobby besides playing, mentioning that there were differences between games and reality. Even so, that girl continues to talk, asking if the boy remembered what had happened in the Celestial Kingdom battle in Valhalla. But Jay says she had to go because she might end up being late. The girl in turn says that the protagonist seemed quite irritated. Transforming into a schoolgirl, she affirms that he had the virtues of an angel. Sometime later, a teacher at the protagonist's school was introducing that angel from before to his class. Introducing herself, the angel says her name was Park while looking around the room choosing her seat. Observing where the protagonist was, the girl prefers to sit near him. As she was going to her seat, people around admired her beauty. Talking to our boy, the angel is happy to have finally found him again. However, the protagonist continued to ignore the poor girl. Looking at the girl, he realizes she was the angel from before, asking if for some reason she was following him. But the girl responds that the boy was one of the people who appear once in a million years destined to be the most powerful hybrid. The protagonist, hearing what the girl had said, is surprised. Stagic, a term used to refer to a hybrid who surpasses even the power of a god. Showing that card to Jai, the girl affirms that it was very difficult to get a card like that. Then the young man asks if she was addicted to games, but she says the boy's body was gradually awakening and she could prove it. No matter what he did, he would always have incredible abilities like never before. Ignoring what the girl was saying, the protagonist starts drawing. Observing the boy's drawing, the teacher says he should draw seriously when he could. Sometime later, the boy was in a field playing ball. Grabbing the ball, he kicks it incredibly hard, managing to hit the basketball hoop. Surprised by what he had done, then another teacher appears asking how he could play basketball with a soccer ball. Sometime later, inside the classroom, the young man notices several people sleeping after lunch, but he was different and would keep studying. Then his teacher appears saying he was working hard. Questioning why he was studying English in a class about the history of Korea, the boy says that he felt something had changed since before, asking why he felt a lack of something in his abilities. The other girl says it was because his powers were not fully awakened yet. Observing the activity, the protagonist mentions that everything was wrong, and the girl says that even if he were a hybrid, he should gain knowledge on his own. Once the power of a hybrid was properly awakened, the boy could overcome all his obstacles, and thus could become an Abraxas, a being that transcends the gods of the human world, and especially because the protagonist was a hybrid, you could even surpass an Abraxas. And you would definitely become that type of person because the girl had come to that place to help him awaken that power. At the same moment, something comes towards the protagonist who easily dodges it. Surprised, a mysterious man says the young man managed to dodge, asking if the boy had started training. The girl asks who that idiot was, then Jay questions if it was okay to speak like that even being an angel. Then the angel says that idiot was daring to challenge, asking the protagonist to help her. And to help her attack, he should think of catching a fly with his fist. All he needed to do was hit the man until he didn't die so he could learn. But the boy says there was no chance. But the angel says he should believe in himself because he could do it. Then that guy advances towards the protagonist. Quickly, he manages to dodge, giving a push to the man, asking him to stop. But that push was so strong that it threw the guy far away. The other guy asks if he was okay, because he had suddenly flown into his room. Meanwhile, the protagonist, surprised, was looking for where that guy was. That hefty guy asks if it was Sheev who had done that to his friend. But quickly the girl approaches the man using a healing spell. Shortly after, that guy gets up, very angry, saying he wouldn't let the protagonist get away with it. Even so, the boy asks him to stop. Then the man punches the protagonist. In a matter of seconds, that man is thrown far away. Again, the angel heals that guy, who once again goes like an idiot towards that young man. The protagonist, with a threatening look, observes the man approaching, saying he had already told him to stop, punching the poor man. Quickly, the angel grabs the man, using her healing magic again. Then that guy manages to regain consciousness. Looking at the protagonist, the angel asks if the boy was okay, but the young man asks why his body was tingling. Surprised, the girl can't believe the boy already had red eyes. Meanwhile, the other guy questions how he dared to touch his friend. Then the angel uses the healing ability again. Looking at the two, those guys seem to be in a daze. Turning back to the angel, the girl uses magic to restore the broken wall. Meanwhile, Jay asks why the wall was like that. Then the girl says it was because he had awakened too quickly. Grabbing the protagonist's shoulders, the girl asks him to listen carefully, mentioning that soon the forces of evil would come after him because he had awakened the evil vibrations. So they must have already sensed the hybrid's awakening, affirming that she never expected to have an evil wave so quickly. Meanwhile, an unknown figure asks who made the sound of the evil wave, mentioning they were not far away. Near that man, a group of people was talking about that woman going to that school to get a high school student. Looking back, the woman asks who that guy was. And the man, with a piercing look, observes the woman saying she was in the right place. Looking at that boy, the other man says he seemed to be a demon. The man, in turn, asks if that school was purgatory, and the other guy questions who he was. Responding, the man says he was what they called a demon, and his name was Aaron. Laughing, that woman, who I don't know if she is really a woman, asked if he was also a demon, mentioning that she was the authority for loans in that area and was called Wu, who was also a demon. Observing the woman, Aaron asks if she was perhaps an idiot, but she says it didn't matter how long she made money in that life. That fact remained true, questioning if he was upset at their first meeting. Mocking her, the man asks if she was from the lowest class of demons. Irritated, the girl says she really had to use her method. However, her subordinates didn't want that to happen because even they couldn't control her in that form. Then the girl starts casting a spell, saying that the boy would be so scared that his body would become completely paralyzed. Observing the situation, the demon supposes that she was trying to transform, saying that it seemed fun. Next, a completely embarrassing image appears with that girl asking if he would hit her. But that was the woman's intention, thinking that anyone who saw her face would want to punch her, and if they touched her even lightly, they would be guilty of assault and have to pay a fee accordingly. Meanwhile, one of her subordinates was acting crazy, wanting to hit her, and the woman thinks she was a demon who sucked people's money through that method, and that no one had ever not hit her after seeing that face, asking if the demon would happen to hit her, and the demon coldly observed the situation. Shortly after, we return to the protagonist who seems to be running from someone. The angel, in turn, asks why he was running like that. And the boy mentions that until yesterday he was an ordinary student, but now a strange game addict appears, and because of her, his life changes completely. But the angel says she was his guardian angel, but the protagonist doesn't seem to care about that. An angel in an ordinary school made no sense at all, and even more so for him to be a hybrid, so he was finding it completely scary. Then the girl says that such quick changes can be difficult for anyone, and that was why she was there to help him. That fate could not be changed. Mentioning that now they were friends, leaving the boy surprised by what he had heard. And the girl says that was what humans always said when they were in the same class. Frustrated, our young man starts to leave, but the girl stops him again, mentioning that today was his birthday, asking if she could at least wish him a happy day. So the boy asks how she knew that today was his birthday. The girl in turn says that she was his guardian angel not only in name and appearance, so it was not strange to know those things. And if an angel blessed him on his birthday, he could end up getting everything he wished for. Accepting the girl's offer, Jay says he had a condition, mentioning that if his parents found out she was an angel, they might end up being shocked, and that would be the first time he would invite someone to his house. Quickly, the angel accepts the boy's condition, saying that they should go to his house at that very moment. In a matter of seconds, the two jump into the air. The girl says she would be quick, and no one would notice. Meanwhile, that demon was still with those three, saying that it was fun, saying that the girl was very cute. Surprised, she thinks a hot dagger would stab her body, managing to hurt her. Irritated, the other man asks what the demon had done to his brother. However, the demon says he wouldn't attack him. Shortly after, those two end up falling to the ground. The demon says he hadn't done anything serious to them. Looking up, Aaron sees a lightning bolt crossing the sky. Starting to fly, the man says the angel's bid was exposed, mentioning that hiding tracks on the battlefield was an extremely basic rule. Shortly after, the angel, along with the protagonist, seems to reach their destination. Then Jay asks if he would let people see that ability, but the girl says she was very excited because it had been a long time since she was invited to a birthday party. Opening the door, the boy says again that she shouldn't use her ability inside the house. Entering his house, his father notices that the boy had already returned from school. Shortly after, the angel appears, introducing herself to the protagonist's father. Looking at the girl, the man seems to recognize who she was, asking what she was doing, but the girl just tells him to be quiet. His father, in turn, questions if it was the first time he had brought someone for his birthday, and the boy responds that it was all he wanted. Surprised because his father had bought a cake for his birthday since he usually only gave him regular food. Then the man says that his birthday that year was special. Looking to the side, the protagonist asks who that person was, asking if his father had ordered some food. Then that demon from afar appears, saying that he was planning to transfer to a new school and his friend had told him that today was the protagonist's birthday, so he had come to congratulate him. Then the angel and the protagonist's father seem surprised by the presence of that man. Jay asks if he had come to congratulate him without even knowing his name. But the guy says that in the coming days they would be friends and thus should get to know each other first. Apparently afraid, the boy's father says he would check the oven and therefore should leave with his friends. But the protagonist says he would change clothes and then come back. In a matter of seconds, that angel attacks the demon, saying that the boy was only 19 years old, asking if it wasn't too difficult for him since demons were already after him. But the guy says that was nonsense because 19 was already a very important age. Although that day was his first awakening, he asks if the cause of that was not due to that evil wave that made him exhibit extremely powerful abilities. Shortly after, the protagonist returns to the room. Noticing that part of his house was broken, the boy calls the angel. Then the boy says that if the demon was there to congratulate him, he shouldn't cause trouble, and the man says he would fix everything, transforming that hole in the boy's house into a cage. As the protagonist didn't like that, the demon restores it to how it was. The angel, in turn, says that the young man still had a good heart and therefore shouldn't do anything unpleasant. But the guy says she was thinking of the old ways of demons and that nowadays they didn't force anything, mentioning that he had prepared a birthday present for the protagonist and that it was the most basic thing to do for a birthday boy. Opening the present, the contents of the box were a shining sphere, and the demon asks if the boy wanted to know how he would fare in the future. Accepting the offer, the demon begins to predict his future. Predicting the future, the demon says he would become a terrifying demon or could end up becoming the most merciful angel existing. Approaching the sphere, the boy seems to try to see something. Noticing a reflection in the sphere, the boy says it was very clear. Then the demon seems to use a spell, telling him to look again because his silhouette was stained with a black evil. Shortly after, the angel punches the demon, asking how he dared to use those kinds of tricks to deceive him. The demon in turn mentions that even angels tried to re-inaugurate those who were not yet fully awakened. The girl says that Jay should be on the angel's side and couldn't allow the demons to have such great power as that. But the man says if the girl attacked him again, he wouldn't have mercy. Turning back to the protagonist, the boy tells them to stop that inside his house, asking what they would do if his father saw everything they were doing. At the same moment, the protagonist's mother seems to arrive at the house. Shortly after, the boy's mother arrives. Jad in turn says she was late. Then his mother seems surprised because she apparently knew that demon. Then the woman welcomes the protagonist's friends, and his father says they should start the boy's party. Sitting at the table, an uninteresting aura surrounds the poor boy. Standing up, the protagonist's father says he would light the candle, asking if his wife had any kind of fire. Hearing what the man had said, that demon uses magic, enveloping his hand in flames. Jay, in turn, asks why a student would carry a lighter around. Meanwhile, the angel thinks she should start playing some birthday music, starting to wish the boy a happy birthday. Talking to his wife, the boy's father mentions that it was already the protagonist's 19th birthday, and that was expected because both angels and demons came for his birthday, saying that their son could never discover their identities. Then the boy calls his parents, thanking them for the birthday, not believing it had been 19 years since he was born, saying that now he would make a wish. And the angel asks what he wanted in his future, thinking that the protagonist had all the qualities of an angel, and that was impressive in a world like that. Shortly after, the young man finishes making his wish, saying he would blow out the candles. With just one blow, the candles go flying. Looking at the city, the boy's parents are happy that everything is fine. With a knife, the boy says he would cut the cake. Then the demon asks if they remembered that man on the planet of death. Although he was not a hybrid either, as soon as he woke up, he used a dagger to cut his birthday cake, making a huge scratch on Mars. As a result, all lives on that planet were extinguished and forgotten. Meanwhile, the boy had already cut the cake, handing a piece to his father. Starting to discuss the situation, they mentioned that there was no sign of an awakening, but the first one always starts on the 19th birthday. In this case, they should ask what the boy's wish was because it could be to conquer Earth or even destroy the ecosystem. However, Jay was not that kind of person because it would be more likely to wish for world peace or the extinction of evil. His father, in turn, asks what the boy's wish was, and the boy questions if he really had to say, saying that he had completely understood what was happening, and what he wanted to do was something he had been suppressing until today. Meanwhile, that demon seems to be analyzing some statistics of the protagonist. Continuing to speak, the boy says that part of him wanted to awaken all his abilities to gain total power, and the other wanted something that had been inside him for a long time. Therefore, he should go down a path he had never thought of before. That weak and foolish boy had already come to an end, and from that day on, he would study like never before, getting into a good university and securing a job at Naver. Hearing what the protagonist had said, everyone around seems completely disappointed. At the same moment, the ground begins to tremble. Then his father, along with the angel, seems happy with the boy's choice. Next, that demon shoves the boy's face into the cake, saying that it was just a joke among friends. But his father says that was the first cake he had made, and therefore the demon would have to pay for it. Jayek, in turn, says that the cake was all over his clothes and he would go to the bathroom to clean up. Thinking about the boy's statistics, the demon supposes that he was not yet at the level where he could avoid his attacks, thinking of a way to make him reach an initial awakening. Then the demon seems to have an idea, mentioning that Jayek had not yet manifested demon wings, but the angel says that the boy would awaken with angel wings. Starting to discuss it, they end up making a bet to see which wings the boy would manifest first. That demon asks where that wave of evil had come from, mentioning that an apex hybrid is someone with 2 wings. And it was entirely up to the protagonist which wings he would use, mentioning that an apex hybrid's initial awakening required the power of both good and evil waves. However, the girl says it wouldn't be that way because the boy would awaken with an absolute wave of good. As the two disagree with each other's opinion, they decide to compete to encourage the protagonist to choose their sides. On one side, there was an angel leading him in the right direction, and on the other, there was a demon to envelop the boy in darkness. His mother, in turn, says they had said they only needed to take care of the boy until he turned 19, and his father says they could now return to that place. But both say they couldn't do that. Meanwhile, our boy is still cleaning up in the bathroom, thinking that he had known the truth since the moment he arrived home, affirming that something was sprouting on his back. Sometime later, the boy seems to be getting ready to go to school. Looking to the side, he finds a bag with some money, asking who had put that money there, while the girl seems to be looking for her money, saying that it was the tuition she had saved up, and if she lost it, she would have many problems. Observing the situation, the boy thinks he couldn't help but sympathize when he saw someone in trouble. Handing the bag to the woman, the boy says that it should belong to her. With tears on her face, the girl says that it was indeed her bag, thanking the protagonist. Jadek says it was nothing and he had just done the right thing, and the girl says he was truly an angel. Looking at the bag, she seems to find something strange, asking why there was only 50,000 won, but our boy was already running, thinking he had already received his reward in advance. Arriving at his school, Jake notices that the gate was already closed. Then the protagonist says he had been in such circumstances before, and if he explained to the teachers, they would probably understand his situation. Meanwhile, the other two girls try to convince the teacher to let them in, saying that some problems had occurred while they were on their way to school. Our boy, taking advantage of the situation and the teacher's distraction, ends up jumping over the school wall, passing completely unnoticed by the teacher, thinking he would do whatever it took to avoid losses for himself. However, the teacher notices him, asking what the boy was doing. Then the young man says that there were students eating at the school gate at that exact moment. Irritated, the teacher goes to the school gate, saying they would be punished for that, while the boy slips by unnoticed, wondering if he was a demon. A while later, Jake is already in his classroom and his teacher announces that they have a new transfer student, mentioning that he was a foreigner and didn't know much about Japanese culture, so they should be careful with him. However, the transfer student was none other than Arn. Introducing himself, the man says he had come from the hottest fires of hell and was called the messenger of the demon. As a celebration of coming to that school, he had prepared some gifts, something they could never eat in the human world. So he was delivering a hot fire straight from hell, a completely spicy hamburger. Then the demon says he had also prepared one for the teachers, while the students were already eating that hamburger, mentioning that it was very spicy but very tasty. Looking to the side, he notices the protagonist at the back of the room, saying he would sit next to that boy. Sitting in his seat, the man greets the young man, saying they had met again. In his thoughts, the boy mentions that a lot had happened in the past few days. Then the angel says it wasn't at least sensible to change his real name when he went to that school because he was still using the same name. But the guy says that granting wishes was the nature of a demon. While they were arguing, the protagonist supposes that the reason they found him was to awaken his abilities, questioning if he had no choice but to accept that fate, thinking about his future, how it would be in college. When a girl didn't feel like going to a lecture, she could end up destroying the building for her. Or when he got a decent job, he could set the interview room on fire to surprise the examiners. A while later, the angel, walking with the demon, asks what he had to say to her. Then Arn asks if they couldn't just reveal their cover in front of the humans, and the girl questions what he was talking about. Next, the man asks her to give up on that hybrid, but the angel says she already knew he would say that, saying it wouldn't happen. With a piercing look, the demon, observing the girl, says he expected she wouldn't give up so easily, mentioning that angels were very persistent, saying that she followed him and ended up falling into his trap. Looking down, the girl realizes she had fallen into a magic circle, where chains end up coming out binding the angel. Leaving that place, the demon mentions that she would remain that way for a long time, saying he would help Jake make his decisions more quickly. Meanwhile, an angry man was walking around the school. Looking back, he asks why that demon was calling him that way. Arn in turn says that everyone already knew he was an idiot, and the boy says the demon would die if he called him that again. Then the other hefty guy says he was in the mood to eat sushi. Grabbing the boy's shirt collar, the man asks what he was doing, and the hefty guy says he was just hungry. Meanwhile, two girls were looking out the window, observing a tree. Irritated, the young man asks what they were doing. Laughing at the boy, Arn says even the girls were calling him an idiot, but the man says he was popular with the girls. Shortly after, another girl asks if the boy liked flowers. Showing the demon, he mentions that he was indeed popular with the women. Then the girl says those flowers were very beautiful, and she wanted to give them to him. Falling to the ground, the boy says he was very frustrated and embarrassed, saying he couldn't win even if he attacked again. Then the demon extends his hand to the boy, saying that if he wanted, he could have the power necessary for that. Disbelieving, the boy asks if that was really possible, but the demon says there was a condition, which was to make a small deal with him. Then the boy asks if he wanted him to sell his soul, mentioning that he couldn't do that for such a high price. However, Arn says he wasn't interested in that, saying that after receiving his power, the only thing he had to do was use it to execute his revenge. Convinced, the boy says that was definitely possible. Accepting the offer, the demon then transfers a part of his power to the boy. Happy, the boy says he was already feeling his power, saying that now he was the strongest person in the world. But the demon says he wasn't at that level, but was at least the strongest in a local area. Even so, the man says he is no longer an idiot. Meanwhile, the protagonist is on a rooftop thinking about his destiny, and about his paths to awakening his true power. A path that would have an exciting life along with a cool appearance, igniting his passion. That path probably wasn't the one he really had to follow, so it would be different. So at that moment, he would throw away all the chains that bound him. All that remains now is victory, so he will shake that world, rising to face it. For him, his school scores are more important than useless superpowers, and so he would do whatever he could to have an ordinary life. Rejecting his destiny and sealing his power, that was the path he had chosen. At the same instant, that boy from before with a threatening look observes the protagonist, saying that he had finally found him. Then our boy mentions that he had come to that place to get some fresh air, asking how long the guy had studied to get those red eyes. At the same moment, that man punches the protagonist, saying he was treating him like an idiot again. On the rooftop, the demon says his strategy to awaken the protagonist's wings was by stimulating him adequately. Meanwhile, that angel still trapped in the chains observes that trap from the top of the building. Almost being thrown off the building, the protagonist manages to hold on, asking the boy not to do that again because he didn't want to fight with him. But the man says that if it were in elementary or high school, he would be responsible, but he couldn't do that. Because the young man had humiliated him, he would have his revenge. In a matter of seconds, the man advances toward the boy, landing a punch on him, but easily, Jake dodges. The impact of the punch creates an extremely strong gust of wind. Then the protagonist asks them not to do that, thinking he was feeling that itch on his back, supposing the boy wouldn't like it if he said that. Looking at the situation, Arn thinks he wasn't as good as expected. That bright appearance couldn't be his true nature, supposing it was Hanel who planted good seeds in him, so he should try to remove them. Surprised, the boy says that too much power was entering him and he couldn't handle it, saying he couldn't control his body. Then horns start to come out of the boy's head. In a matter of seconds, he advances toward the protagonist, punching him. The young man in turn says that it hurt a little. Grabbing our boy by the collar of his shirt, the guy punches him again, throwing the boy far away, mentioning that it was really amazing. Shortly after, that angel appears, managing to escape from those chains, mentioning that it was expected because Arn was using dirty tricks. Kicking the demon, she says she would recycle the trash. As a consequence of the kick, that thread breaks. The girl, in turn, asks if he trapped her to do that, and the demon says the girl had escaped faster than expected. Then the girl questions if he thought he would stop her with just that level of seal. But the boy says you could see her panting. At the same moment, he disappears, appearing behind the girl, saying she wasn't the same when she was tired. The angel says he could fool her once, but the second time wouldn't happen, throwing the demon far away, mentioning that a demon's tricks are easily revealed on the second attempt. Quickly, Arn creates another magic circle, hitting that angel again. The girl in turn says the demon really liked tying people up. Then the boy starts advancing toward her. Meanwhile, our protagonist says he didn't need that kind of energy. Shortly after, an explosion occurs, and the boy says he just wanted to have an ordinary life. The demon in turn tells the girl to watch the boy's power being manifested. Then an aura starts to envelop the boy's body. The other man asks if the boy wanted to have an ordinary life even possessing that absurd power, saying that if he didn't want it, he should give his power to him. Quickly lands another punch on the young man, but the boy's body was as hard as stone, falling to the ground because of his hand. And with just a mere punch, the protagonist causes a gigantic explosion, where even the people below were hearing that commotion. Returning to the rooftop, that explosion caused a crack in the ground. The other boy is surprised by the protagonist's power, and the boy asks them to stop because he didn't like using his power that way. Then the demon says his prediction was correct, and as expected, his awakening would increase rapidly as the boy entered battles. Shortly after, the other man says he accepts his defeat. Jagic, in turn, says that school violence is not good. Turning his back on the man, the boy says Jagic is really a novice, asking how he dared to turn his back on an opponent in the middle of a battle, landing an attack on the young man's shoulder. However, that attack has no effect. Then the young man asks if he wishes to continue. Then another girl tries to interfere in the situation. Returning to the protagonist, the boy says he has already told them to stop that. Then Jagic says he should do that for people who reject peace, advancing toward the boy. But that angel asks the boy to stop that. About to punch the man, the protagonist asks him to treat it as a lesson. At the same moment, that angel defends the protagonist's attack, saying that it wasn't the young man's fault. Meanwhile, that demon seems to be counting some sort of percentage, which is at 41%. Rapidly increasing, that percentage causes the angel's shield to start breaking, where at the same moment, it ends up cracking. Then the girl grabs the other man, using her abilities to escape that attack. Jagic, in turn, says his peaceful life from that day on will change. Observing the protagonist, the girl thinks the boy was too strong, where even her shield couldn't block his attacks. Again, the boy advances toward the other man, landing another punch on the angel's shield. Then the girl says that's enough, using another ability to invoke a cross-shaped shield. Excited, the demon says that was a special ability, observing again that percentage is constantly increasing, where that shield ends up breaking apart. With that impact, the other boy goes flying, and the angel uses her abilities to save the boy, saying that Adia was only making his situation worse. Surprised, the boy says she had saved him again. Then the girl asks if he was okay, saying that even her giant shield was broken. If it continued that way, the protagonist's power could end up being completely contaminated by evil. Meanwhile, Jaek thinks he doesn't know what that feeling is. A warm wave rising within his chest that signified an awakening of his power, an ability guided by his destiny, mentioning that he was feeling something on his back. At the same moment, someone with a sword says they were sorry to do that. That was the other girl, stabbing a sword in his back, saying it was a way to avoid something worse. Then Jaek thinks fighting was never his style, saying he wanted to lose. Then it is revealed that it wasn't a sword, but a mere straw, an ability capable of suppressing any confusion. Then the demon calls the girl a coward, but she says she couldn't stand by and watch that. At the same moment, the boy seems to feel something, and the demon also says he couldn't stand by just watching. The protagonist in turn says he is very angry. Arn tells him to tune into the voice of his heart. Then the two begin to argue to try to convince the boy, supposing that the more he thought about it, the more he wanted to defeat everyone, mentioning that he was very confused. The other boy, observing the protagonist, says he was clearly a barrier he could never overcome. Even so, he was still number one. But when he looks at his hand, he realizes he is still very far from that. Meanwhile, various voices invade our boy's head, thinking that it wasn't a matter of right or wrong because that power suddenly came to him, so he might end up getting that power. At the same moment, a tremor begins to happen. The demon mentions that the awakening rate is rapidly decreasing, and the angel asks if one of a hybrid's abilities is to reduce the awakening progress. Meanwhile, the boy thinks he should discard the power he couldn't keep. Then the girl says he learned an ability called Legendary Detachment, capable of renouncing his position. Then the protagonist is in front of that man from before, saying he discarded his unnecessary power but gained a new ability. Extending his hand to the young man, he asked if he was okay, saying that instead of fighting, they should study to get into a great university. With tears in his eyes, the boy is surprised that the protagonist really forgave him, apologizing for being that kind of person, and now they would be friends. Surprised, the angel says she is relieved it didn't end worse. The other demon says he didn't expect the protagonist to give up his power. The girl thinks she didn't expect so much confusion, but it was remarkable that the boy had positive power, mentioning that he really had the characteristics of an angel. Meanwhile, the protagonist is saying goodbye to the other boy on a bus. A while later, the boy returns home, saying that today he was very happy, thanking them for everything they had done for him until now, and that he would strive to live well from now on. His father, in turn, is happy about that, but his mother seems disheartened, saying that it hadn't worked, saying there was no other choice but to act, mentioning that it had been a long time since she had removed that and didn't want to bring it back again. Calling someone, the protagonist's mother seems to pass on some kind of location. An unknown person on the other end of the call listens to everything, accepting the conditions from the boy's mother, saying they would send someone more suitable. In the depths of hell, in the lowest level of the abyss, there was a prisoner in the furthest room of the infinite hell, one who annihilated anything in his sight. His name was Hell's Destroyer. Then a man orders this demon to rise to the surface, as it was something he had always wanted. Returning to the protagonist's father, the man can't believe what's happening. Then the mother mentions that 19 years have passed and that method isn't working. The man asks what will happen to the boy, but the woman asks if he had fallen in love with him, affirming that it was only a way to complete his mission, so he shouldn't approach it with unnecessary sentimentality and humanity. However, the man asks them to stop discussing it because Jaek might overhear everything. At that moment, the protagonist enters the room, questioning what they were talking about. Meanwhile, a creature in the middle of the city seems to rise from the ground, and it was the demon from before, saying it had been a long time since he felt the air of the surface. Observing a group of cars, he mentions that he should crush them, causing much chaos. However, a voice tells him that he has a mission to complete, and that if he fulfills that condition, he can cause as much destruction as he wants. Accepting the offer, the demon says he would start with that boy who would become an apex hybrid. At that moment, a car stands in front of the demon, asking him to move. But at the same moment, that monster grabs his sword, hitting that car squarely, causing a huge explosion in the city. Returning to the protagonist, the boy questions if he is really not their son. Then his mother says he must have misheard because they were discussing a drama they had seen before. Kneeling, his father says he is indeed correct. His mother, observing the situation, remains silent, completely shaken. Jaek asks if he isn't her son either. And again, the woman remains silent. Taking off his glasses, the protagonist, apparently irritated, asks who he really is and how he was actually born. Crossing her arms, a woman begins to tell the story, mentioning that a long time ago, there was a great war between heaven and hell. Originally, angels and demons were groups that could never reconcile. That war had continued for a millennium, eventually losing its purpose and turning into a meaningless fight with countless deaths. With that, angels and demons ended up exhausted from it all and finally developed a solution to end the war, choosing representatives from each side to participate in an individual duel to decide the war's outcome. agreeing to accept the result without any further fighting. The protagonist, in turn, asks if that isn't a lot and if she could summarize that story, questioning what it had to do with his birth. Continuing the story, the woman says that the chosen representatives for the angels were a man named Seraphim and for the demons, a boy named Baal. That was the renewed duel of Valhalla. His father, starting to speak, says that Seraphim was his friend, questioning how she dared mention the archangel's name. But his son tells him not to interrupt the story. Supposedly in the past, a demon questions Seraphim if that was the first time they were facing each other. Then the angel says he would purify that filthy mouth with the power of his light. Thus that battle began, putting the pride of both sides on the line. That war continued persistently, with no one showing signs of being about to be defeated. It simply seemed endless, because they were completely evenly matched. However, at one moment, something unthinkable happened. Something no one had foreseen. Because the emotion of love and passion had arisen, where the two ended up falling in love. Even the angels and demons watching the battle noticed, because simply a demon and an angel were apparently being drawn to each other. Then the emotion of love and passion continued. They even wondered if it was true, because simply a demon and an angel were apparently being drawn to each other. Despite everyone's disapproval, they couldn't stop their intense passion, where they ended up kissing. Observing that situation, the two clans become completely irritated, questioning what it was that they were really seeing in front of them. Returning to the present, his father asks until when he would tell that story, because the protagonist was just a minor, and so they should wait until he was an adult to tell that. Returning to tell the story, an unexpected ending ended up happening, because a baby half demon and half angel ended up being born, and that was the birth of the protagonist. However, his father asked to keep listening because there was still more to that story. Returning to that woman from before, he asks what was happening in that neighborhood, saying that she should be more interested in development than in loans. Looking to the side, that demon was in front of them, ordering the group to get out of his way. However, that woman didn't seem to like it at all, questioning herself, did she think the girl would do that? Then those two fat guys appear, asking the demon to leave, asking if the man didn't know who that woman was, mentioning that he seemed to be new to that place, so he should teach her a good lesson. However, at the same moment, a gust of wind happens between the woman. In a matter of seconds, those two men were massacred. With a threatening look, that demon watched the woman, ordering her not to get in his way. At the same moment, the girl advances on the demon, asking if it was okay to be by his side, and the demon says that it was okay. Then the demon asks how to get to the apartments, and the woman says that she could get there by going around that alley. However, the demon didn't want to know about that, and with just one blow destroys part of the building, saying that if there wasn't a road he would build one because that was the path of the strong. The girl in turn thinks that it was the first time she had seen such great strength. Annoying, the demon says that he had already told her not to get in front of him. But kneeling down, the girl says that she would be her guide, asking if it was okay to be below him. Then the demon says that below is okay. Meanwhile, the protagonist was still arguing with his mother about that story, questioning if that wasn't the end. Then the woman mentions that the boy was important just by being born, and his father says he would explain everything, mentioning that the news about a child born between Seraphim and Baal spread like wildfire in heaven and hell, stirring thoughts about the ultimate legend of Abraxas that was only passed down in ancient prophecies, questioning if the supremely powerful legendary apex hybrid really existed, or if a 19-year-old human would really have an initial awakening. If so, which side would this extremely strong being be on? That legend of the powerful hybrid was only written in ancient texts, where it would not guarantee that he would be everything that was written. In the middle of an argument, a woman says that if the man believed in that legend, he did not have the right to that power. However, the man says that he would certainly be by her side, because the child was born of love and would definitely come to the care of the angels. However, the demon completely disagrees with that, and a fight between the two begins to happen. But the protagonist asks them to stop that and just keep telling the truth. Continuing the story, the demon says that the words of an angel could not be trusted. That is why they should form a contract where a demon and an angel should continue to take care of that child until he turned 19, and any interference from the angels and demons was forbidden unless they were the guardians. Thus, leaving the war behind, a contract was drawn up for the first time in history between the angels and the demons. And the protagonist's mother was on the side of the demons, and his father was the guardian of the angels' side. With that, they had both raised the protagonist for his entire life. Surprised, the boy asks if that was all, mentioning that everything before was a lie. Everything in his life up until that moment was completely a farce. Then his mother says that there was nothing else to do, saying that all of that would end. Meanwhile, that demon along with the other girl continued walking, saying that they would reach their destination after crossing that street. Crossing that place, a truck was about to run over the demon, who with just one punch destroyed that truck, causing a huge explosion. Observing the demon's ability, the girl thinks that he was very powerful. Then the demon asks the little one to continue on his way. Observing everything from above, that angel from before doesn't believe that they really sent Satan. The other demon was also there, saying that they asked for reinforcements without even consulting him. However, it was a good strategy because that couldn't really work. They were launching a psychological attack. The demon was trying to attack the girl, questioning how the angel would protect the protagonist, because the boy was deeply hurt in his heart, and soon his body would be destroyed. The girl thinks the demon is trying to attack the girl, but the demon can't defeat her, because the boy was deeply hurt in his heart, and soon his body would be gravely injured by the evil. Irritated, the protagonist says he has always been treated like an object his entire life. In front of the building, the demon observes that immense aura, saying the boy had done well and that when the mission was over and he gained his freedom, he would surely make him his subordinate. And at that moment, he would wreak havoc on the world, jumping towards the building. However, that angel advances towards him, saying that if he wanted to pass, he would have to go through her first, using that shield from before. But with just one blow, the demon easily shatters it completely, questioning how a mere guardian was trying to stop him, throwing the girl to the ground. Completely defeated, she mentions that she can no longer maintain her shield. At the same moment, that demon stands before the protagonist, mentioning that the boy was even smaller than he thought, saying he would create a legend by taking down that apex hybrid with just one blow. Irritated, our boy questions why he was laughing. Punching the demon, he says they were in the middle of a discussion. That punch was so strong that it even knocked off the man's mask. As a consequence, he ends up falling from the building. Returning to the protagonist, the boy says he made him forget what he wanted to say. Then his father says he couldn't take it anymore and needed to leave that place. However, the protagonist didn't want to let him go, and the man says he had done everything he could because his mission was until his 19th birthday. Binding the two, the man mentions they still had affection for him even if they were artificially created. But the woman says they were just servants and a servant should only take care of him until he turned 19. Then his father asks if he remembers when he used to carry him on his back, and regardless of the hard work, he took care of him as if he were his real son. But the other girl says he was just adding fuel to the fire, but the man asks to let him continue speaking. Surprised, the demon says his colors were really showing. Starting to argue, the two decide to divorce. Then the young man asks them not to fight, throwing them both out of the building, saying they should at least not fight in front of him. The demon, observing that situation, mentions that the awakening had increased again, and that was a basic ability for an apex hybrid. Meanwhile, the people below the building were observing all that commotion, and the angel says they couldn't let the civilians discover their true identities, including the protagonist, so they needed to restore that. However, the demon says he was a destroyer, not a restorer. Kicking the boy, the woman says she would do it alone, saying she didn't know why angels always had to clean up the demon's messes, but even so, she would have to at least try. Even if her body broke, angels should fulfill their duties. Above the buildings, the girl seems to use magic. Meanwhile, the other demon carries the other one, questioning why he should erase the memories of those humans who would eventually die. Shortly after, the demon creates a circle of fire, throwing the other boy to hell, saying to say hello to Lucifer for him. Meanwhile, a giant aura envelops that angel along with the city. The civilians observing that situation question what was happening. An old man on a random bus mentions that he had fallen asleep thinking he had dreamed that the bus was being destroyed, and the other people below that building wonder why they were in that place. Shortly after, that angel starts to faint. Then the other demon grabs the girl by the arms, saying that woman was very tiresome, mentioning that if at that exact moment he threw her into hell, he would have one less rival, saying the girl should have forgotten that he was a demon to dare to faint in front of him, throwing the poor girl into the depths of hell. Meanwhile, above the building, the protagonist is with those two, apparently afraid of the protagonist. Jayek, observing a photo, mentions that he hadn't realized the way he had lived until now, because all those photos were completely fake. All the things he had gone through in his life were completely fabricated, and that story was completely calculated. For the boy, it had never crossed his mind that his parents weren't real. Not only he, but no one else had ever realized it. So that meant the two had raised him very well. Then he takes both of their hands, thanking them for taking good care of the boy. And the fact that they had raised him so well until now without anyone noticing meant it was truly worthwhile. Therefore, they should continue being his mother and father. The two begin to argue, saying that it couldn't be done because they were hired servants and were simply doing their job. Shortly after, the protagonist starts to squeeze their hands, mentioning that from now on the two would stay there, continuing to be his parents as they always were, because he did not want to be separated from his family. Meanwhile, somewhere in the depths of hell, a demon says it is now his turn to go. Thus, he would begin his attack. Meanwhile, still in hell, a man analyzes a compass, saying that when it turns red, his role as an angel will end. A while later, a demon contacts that man, saying there was a group of 5,000 mobs attacking in hell, so he should return. But the man says it is now 10,000 mobs, saying he is different from angels and will only move if there is some profit. And if he falls into disgrace, he should be in good condition because once he becomes a demon, even if he falls, there would be no other place to go lower, saying he would contact him when he falls again. Because as an angel, he still had some duties. While walking through hell, the man thinks that every time he goes there, there is always some problem. Besides, the smell of that place is completely unbearable. Shortly after, a group of demons notices the man, questioning why an angel was in that place. Advancing towards the man, they say they must get rid of him. But with just one kick, that man knocks down the demon, saying he didn't even recognize the one he would have to serve later. and those small creatures didn't even give him any points. Looking ahead, the man notices that demon from before, and at the same moment, that angel begins to fall, advancing towards the other demon. Surprised, the other man asks what they must have done wrong to fall in that place. Observing the girl, he realizes she was the guardian angel of the Apex hybrid, supposing her mission had already failed. Therefore, she would have high chances of being summoned again. Then the flashback of the protagonist's mother's life appears, questioning if that was the waiting room for aspiring actors. Surprised, the two ask if they would have to act differently. Then a voice congratulates them for passing the document review, and now they would have to go to the human world, acting as the parents of that child until he was born. However, the two seem to disagree with that because it was completely ridiculous. But that voice tells them to listen carefully because they would have to act until the boy turned 19. And depending on their acting skills, it would even get additional points, putting them ahead of other demons. Motivated, the two say they would do it. Returning to the present, the two were telling that story to the protagonist, saying it was very pleasant to have a meal together with their family. Standing up, the man asks if the boy wasn't thirsty and says he would get some water. At the same moment, Jaek throws a chair at his father, and the young man says he wasn't thirsty at all, telling his mother that the food was very good, asking her to make it again later. Mentioning that he had cleaned his room before, asking her to scold him, saying that whoever makes a mess should clean it up. Then the woman, not excited at all, says the boy could make a mess as much as he wanted. Staring at his mother, the protagonist is not pleased, saying he wanted to keep a happy family, so they should cooperate. A while later, the protagonist's mother is washing the dishes, saying that the demon's plans had failed and the boy had even managed to defeat Satan with just one blow. However, the man asks her not to worry because he had asked for help directly from heaven. Then the girl questions what kind of help would be better than that demon from before. But at the same moment, the girl seems to know exactly what the man is planning. With an evil look, that angel seems to be planning something. Then the woman questions why he has that expression. Meanwhile, in the sky, an angel descends with someone in their arms. And that was the angel protecting the protagonist, questioning what was happening and why she was in the sky. However, the other man says it is natural for an angel to be in heaven, mentioning that it was incredible she used a significant part of her power on just a mere human. Observing the boy, the girl asks if he is the archangel of the First Order, but the man says he is just his twin brother. But a voice says he is no longer an archangel of the First Order because he is now a fallen angel. However, the man says he hasn't fallen because his aura is still blue. But that voice says it has heard strange rumors about him, that there was information about him being in hell. But the angel says that was just a secret mission, asking if that person called him just to discuss that, mentioning that he had a hunch before but didn't expect that mission to have that kind of end. Then that voice says that from that moment on, the angel should return to heaven, being confined in a special prison. Meanwhile, the protagonist was walking towards school, saying he had protected his family and now just needed to return to having a completely normal life. At the same moment, a light begins to envelop the sky, and the boy says it might be another student being transferred. Among those clouds, that angel from before begins to descend a staircase. A while later, the man is introducing himself in the protagonist's class, saying his name is Aracel, and that they could feel free to call him Asura. Looking at Jaek, he says he will sit next to the boy. Then the protagonist thinks he was right and it was indeed a new transfer student. Then Arn asks who allowed him to sit there, and the man says he doesn't care about a demon who has lost his touch like him, for he is there only because of the protagonist. Jaek, in turn, asks where that angel is, but the demon says he defeated her and sent her to hell. However, the other angel says he saw her in hell and took her back to heaven, where she's probably confined in that special prison. Meanwhile, a girl seems to be relaxing in a pool, saying she's very bored. And that was the angel from before, saying there's nothing to do in that place. Drinking a glass of champagne, the girl wonders what sin someone had committed to be imprisoned in that state for 30 years, and is just grateful she didn't receive such a punishment, questioning how long she would have to stay in that place. Returning to the protagonist's class, the teacher says he will start the lesson, and if a phone rings in the middle of the class, it will certainly be confiscated. Irritated, Arnon says he didn't expect to find that angel so quickly. At the same moment, the demon seems to have a question. Asking how he could go to hell since he was an angel, the man says he goes there occasionally for business purposes. Then Arn questions if by any chance he wasn't a fallen angel, but the angel says he isn't that yet. Though close to that, he is still a real angel. Observing the protagonist, the man asks if he is really an Apex hybrid, because to him the boy seems like just an ordinary human, so the demon says he's a normal human but not as naive as he thought. Then Jaek mentions it is rude to say those kinds of things near him and they are making too much noise. Continuing to speak, Arn says the protagonist is incredibly powerful and can even control his willpower. Curious, the angel says he should test if that is really true. Pulling out a pistol, the man says he will start in a simple way first. Looking to the side, the protagonist asks them to speak a little quieter, and at the same moment, that angel shoots the boy. Catching the bullet with his hand, the boy says they are very noisy, saying they are disturbing his studies. Observing what Jaek had done, the two are surprised. Meanwhile, outside the classroom, the other hefty boy asks why the boy has been acting strange in recent days, but the boy doesn't know what he is talking about. But the hefty boy says he has been acting like the protagonist's friend even after he hurt him. Then the boy asks him to stop with that, saying that Jaek is a good person, mentioning that the hefty boy has always been trash from the beginning. And the hefty boy says he has basically stooped to the level of a nerd falling into disgrace, and now he is acting like an idiot. At the same moment, that angel from before appears, asking why he is talking about demons and starting a fight with the boy. Then the other boy asks if he did something to harm him by being friends with Jaek. Then Arn appears, saying the man couldn't interfere in those kinds of disputes, because those guys had started that school building mutual respect and loyalty. However, the hefty boy says that the other boy tormented others since middle school but now is acting like an idiot. Shortly after, the other angel says that resolving disputes between humans was exactly his specialty, saying that he was an angel who listened to human problems and normally wouldn't get involved, but asks if they would like a forbidden solution, mentioning that maintaining the status of a champion could compromise friendship and that it must have caused many problems. And having been through similar situations, he knew exactly what that was because being the top dog after being removed must have led to many concerns. To find that cause, he thought a lot about it. So far, he had been thinking of ways to balance friendship along with his champion status. Then the demon starts arguing with the angel, saying they shouldn't meddle in human affairs. Then the angel says that normally what he had done would be considered manipulation, so he should send a message of support to his friend, saying that in a one-on-one fight, the boy had no chance but might be just afraid of losing. At that moment, the hefty boy advances toward the other boy, saying that when it came to a real fight, the boy was weak. The boy, in turn, says he dared to challenge his position and therefore should put him in his place. That unexpected epic confrontation finally happens. But to those two, that fight was just child's play, mentioning that weak people would always be weak. Meanwhile, the protagonist was walking down the school corridor, wondering why those two were fighting in the hallway. Then he grabs their shoulders, lifting them. He says that if they continued fighting in that place, it would disturb others. A while later, the protagonist was arguing with the other two, saying he had lost his cell phone because of them. As the boy walks away, that angel thinks Jaek was no different compared to other human children. Then the demon says he tried several times to awaken him, but it was not as easy as it seemed. The angel, in turn, says the critical moment usually happens when there is something precious to protect, wondering what the protagonist thought was most precious. The demon mentions that Jaek recently discovered his parents weren't real, but still decided to accept them as his true family. With a malicious look, the angel says that his weakness was probably that, mentioning that if his parents were directly in danger, the protagonist would certainly help them, and in that process, he would awaken. But the demon questions if that wasn't too much. But the angel questions if he didn't want to awaken the protagonist as soon as possible, mentioning that they weren't even his real parents. Surprised, the other hefty boy thinks that man was a demon. Then the angel asks the demon if he didn't want to see the black wings emerging from the protagonist's body. Surprised, Arn asks who really was, because he was an angel but was using tactics like a demon. But the man says he was right and an angel should never do that, mentioning that his meter could end up turning red, so he would give all the credit to Arn. But the demon asks if he wasn't just trying to hand over all the work to him. Meanwhile, the protagonist was walking towards his house, mentioning that his hard work was being rewarded, thinking that another weird guy had been transferred again, but that wasn't a problem, because now he had a family that cared, so he would do his best to protect them from now on. At that moment, a person asked the boy for help, questioning where the nearest bus stop was. Pointing in the direction, the boy says they just needed to go that way. In a matter of seconds, that unknown person throws a punch at the boy, who easily dodges. With just one punch, he hits the man. Surprised because with just one hit, he ended up exploding. Observing his dead companion, the other man removes his helmet, throwing it towards the young man. Dodging that helmet, the boy questions if that wasn't rude for their first meeting, asking why he was so weak. Then the man's face is revealed, showing that he was just a monster, questioning why the boy was so strong. And the protagonist thinks he was just a typical low-level monster. Afraid, the monster says the boy was much stronger than he thought, so he would make a strategic retreat. Quickly, the protagonist starts running again, heading towards his house. Arriving there, he noticed that his mother and father were not there, noticing that there was a note stuck with a knife on the refrigerator. Looking at the message, the boy is confused, not knowing what was written because it was in a completely different language. At that moment, another one of those monsters charges at the boy. With just one punch, he breaks the helmet of the monster, saying he couldn't concentrate. Looking at his hand, he asks if he had left the window open because it seemed like a mosquito. Then the other man grabs a sword. Noticing the boy behind him, the protagonist asks if he could interpret that message. Then the man mentions that his father and mother had been kidnapped, and if he wanted to find them, he should listen carefully to what he had to say. The boy, in turn, questions if that was a threat. Completely irritated, the boy asks where he had taken his father and mother. But at that moment, that mob simply ends up exploding. But looking back, he realizes there was still another monster. Immobilizing him with his magic, he asks who had kidnapped his parents. But with a malevolent laugh, the monster says they were demons and wouldn't betray their own kind in any way. Showing a window, the protagonist asks which of those demons had sent him, and the man responds that it was number 1. The exalted demon says he's sure of it. That young man rushes quickly toward the creature. He says that, as expected, he thought it was an angelic demon, and asks why it betrayed him while squeezing its neck. Very angry, he asks how it dares touch his family, and says he won't forgive it for that. With a massive explosion, the creature is annihilated. A bit surprised, he says he ended up failing to control this power, but still furious, he asks how Scalpel dared to plan such a thing. Suddenly, he realizes he didn't ask where they took his father and mother. Wiping himself with that outfit, he says there are still some mobs left. A demon watches our hero from hiding as he cleans himself, waiting for the right moment. But suddenly, something approaches faster than he can perceive. Calmly, he asks, "You heard everything right." Wiping his face, the boy says that if he doesn't say where they were taken, there's going to be a bloodbath. Stammering in fear, the monster says they only shared the location and shows his phone so he can check it. He asks if it's that alley near the bakery or the McDonald's, but the monster explains no, it's on the other side. Extremely angry and manifesting his power, he says he knows who he is and what he wants. He adds that he made a huge mistake by touching his family. He yells that he'll find Scalpel and teach him a proper lesson so he won't do this kind of thing again. And then if he cooperates, he'll spare his life, then shouts at the demon to do a full cleanup of that place. Surprised, he realizes the demon is already gone, and that it exploded just from the manifestation of his aura. Sometime later, someone says a ruined place like that is perfect for a kidnapping site. The kidnappers watch the tied-up couple, defenseless in there. One of them asks the big bro why they kidnapped those people, and the other also questions him, saying he's actually a loan shark, not a kidnapper. The guy explains he took a nap and dreamed that someone told him to do it, and it felt like he was being controlled. The woman screams for them to stop wasting time, just kill her already, while the man wonders who would save him in a situation like that. The two seem pretty excited, the woman because she'll finally escape the human world, and the man because he'll go to paradise with his job complete. But in the next moment, the door to the place swings open, and our hero enters, yelling for his father and mother, saying he came to save them, much to the complete disappointment of both parents, while the well-dressed man says everything is going according to plan. Night at the kidnapping warehouse. A man says he's impressed that he predicted the boy would come to rescue them so quickly. Smiling, the other replies that it's human nature and they're programmed to react like that when their desire for revenge is triggered. He says he's surprised the human got involved, but the other says he's a demon and can't be seen receiving direct orders from an angel. He asks if he then handed the contract to a subcontractor. But the man says, to be more precise, it's more like a redistribution of labor. Then the blue-haired man says this subcontractor culture is pretty disgusting. Focusing his power, he says that man is the master of evil deeds. Finally, that human responsible for the kidnapping is influenced once again. Our hero confidently enters that warehouse. As he walks in, a demonic hand bursts through the floor and attacks him. Suddenly, it grabs his ankle, catching the boy's attention. Surprised, he asks, "What is this?" Several demons start emerging from the ground, and one of them says the human cannot pass. Shocked, he realizes there are also a bunch of low-level mobs there. Leaping toward the boy, the demon attacks him while saying, "Progress, obstacle." Quickly, that demon clings to the boy's body while others charge at him. As the creature holds on to him tighter and tighter, he screams, asking what that thing is. And slapping away the creature on his shoulder, he eliminates it, making a huge mess. But without giving him time to think, the other demon is already practically on top of him, getting really close to biting his face. And with a slap as if killing a fly, he eliminates another one, saying its breath stinks. The remaining creature watches tensely, realizing the situation isn't looking good for her. Our hero lifts his leg with that creature still clinging to his foot, and putting in a bit more strength, he throws the creature into the air. As that thing goes flying, he says this is just annoying. The demon starts falling while he, arms open, asks why they keep clinging to him. And as it gets closer, another big bug is eliminated. Covered in demon gunk, he thinks, "This is so annoying." Another bunch emerges from the ground, and our hero says there are still all these others left. Excited, the man says it's mobs versus a hybrid at his peak, and asks if they aren't way too easy. But the other says he's not so sure. He explains that instead of a monster growling in front of you, a swarm of buzzing mosquitoes is much more irritating when you're trying to sleep. He says their composition is beyond imagination, but even so, for a hybrid like that, this swarm will only make him angrier, and that even thinking they're easy opponents facing countless mobs like this should give enough time for his rage to explode while our hero uses his full arsenal of moves in battle. In the middle of those battle remains, he thinks he's done with them now, and the demon is surprised, questioning if he's really finished with all of them already. Nervously, he thinks the boy is truly amazing, and that he himself is destined to be nothing more than one of those mobs. He wonders why he has to listen to these demon whispers, kidnapping and locking up someone who has nothing to do with him. He tells himself to get out of this, that he thinks this isn't his path, and swears to not get involved in foolish things like this anymore. Using his power, the demon says just a bit more of demon puppet as the man's affected again. The demonic energy takes over him once again. Out of nowhere, he starts laughing, saying he'll let all of them get a taste of hell. Our hero's parents remain tied up and screaming. The kidnapper, laughing, says that if things keep going like this, his parents are going to be in real trouble, getting squeezed tighter and tighter. The brothers suggest he not go that far since the boy looks really angry and ask why he insists on continuing to provoke him. And if he's an evil person, imagine a dude laughing and saying they'll steal his car. He adds even more stuff and worsens it with a dude saying they'll kidnap his cat too, creating a scene begging for even harsher punishment. Our hero, in a fury, says he won't forgive him no matter what. His parents scream desperately for him not to come. One of the brothers says he became such a bad villain that beating him to the end won't be enough, while the other says he went too far. The man laughs, saying this is the true proof of a demon, while thinking to himself asking for help because he can't come back to his senses due to the demonic influence. Determined, the boy says he will definitely save his parents. The parents, desperate, say, please don't come, we don't want to be saved, just let us die and block the clock. That demon asks the other if that was his last card, but he replies that the rage will explode and trigger another awakening. He insists it would be more efficient if a monster attacked the parents by strangling them, letting out a little cough. Sarcastically, the guy asks if he's some kind of genius and how he can even suggest that kind of plan. He says he'd make Satan ashamed and asks where he even gets these demonic ideas, and the other man says not to say that. Very enthusiastically, he says that in this last case, he'll summon the ultimate man-eating monster called Tremos, and the other asks if it's another subcontract. Suddenly, from that concrete, a huge worm demon full of teeth emerges. It goes straight toward our hero's parents. The couple gets super excited and says that thing's their bus home. They explain that if they slide into that tunnel-shaped mouth, they'll end up straight in hell. And the father says he'll have the inconvenience of going through hell before finally getting out, while the mother says it's just a bus stop. But suddenly, our furious hero charges at the creature. His parents remain desperate, screaming for him not to come save them. But our hero doesn't seem to hear them and keeps advancing. His parents try to scream, begging him, pleading for him not to go. He makes a huge leap toward the creature, but out of nowhere, he ends up being swallowed by the massive worm, leaving both his father and mother a little surprised. Something strange starts happening with that demon worm. Suddenly, it begins to tremble and swell a bit. Those two demons above are watching, and one of them says, how disgusting. Suddenly, that giant worm lunges at our hero's mother, but it seems like there's something else inside that mouth full of teeth. Holding the demon's mouth from the inside, the boy says the smell of that saliva. Holding the creature with its mouth wide open, our hero says, Dad, Mom, the work shift is over. The two demons controlling the scene are surprised, asking what he just said. Heaven's special paradise prison. A bald waiter approaches serving a special salad, describing the ingredients, but the woman says she didn't order anything. Nervously, she asks if she can stop eating, but the waiter says that's not an option. As the sun reflects off his bald head, blinding the woman, the man insists that she is in a state of intense happiness, so stopping's out of the question. The woman reacts to the glare from his bald head. Wow, that shine. Still shielding herself from the sun, she begins to think that if she stays there, she won't protect Jake and will gain a lot of weight. The girl pulls a strand of her own hair. The bald man is turning to leave and continue his duties when the woman shouts, calling him back. She then alerts him that there's a hair in the food. The man asks, incredulous, what? He gathers with the other shiny bald waiters, questioning the presence of a hair and trying to find out whose it is, and one of them claims that it's impossible. The girl looks at her obstacle to freedom and says, the barrier. She activates a power in her hand, and asking God for forgiveness, transforms it into an energy blade. She then attacks the barrier, managing to create an opening. She then reveals her angelic wings. As she flies away, the woman says she knows escaping is considered a sinful act, but it's necessary for a greater good. Meanwhile, back at the kidnapping warehouse, his mother asks what he means by that, while the father asks if he's hearing it right. Then he explains that it's time for them to stop living that life and return. Our hero says it seems this dangerous situation only came about because of him, and keeping his parents there any longer would be pure selfishness. He thanks them for being there for the past 19 years and says the best way to repay them is by setting them free. Smiling, he says, thank you for being my parents all this time. The two are moved and tear up. Holding the creature, he yells for them to simply disappear from his sight and pleads for them to please go back. The demon says he's a very caring son, and the other one says it's impressive, suggesting a painless end for the parents. Pointing the way, our hero says it's time to go home, to slide down, and they'll reach the afterlife quickly. While holding those ropes, the controlled man thinks about what he did to this peaceful family, and that, if he can escape the demonic whisper, he'll vow to live a life of repentance, while saying they'll never escape. The boy's mother becomes thoughtful, and looking at her husband says she's already made her decision, while the man says he has too. Shouting, the father says Jake is the son of his heart, and that he'll work overtime forever, then corrects himself, saying no, that he'll live with him forever. The mother says that if it's okay to have a mother like her, she also wants to keep being his mom. Our hero is surprised and says it sounds like they're going to remain his parents, and excited, he imagines both his parents well. While the puppet thinks that's also full of love, he says this is just a show, that in the end, they're all just strangers. Turning back to the situation, he says, so now, With a simple movement, he breaks the creature's teeth, saying now is the time for payback. With a jump, he escapes from the creature's mouth. Then, in the next moment, lands on the ground unharmed. Asking how it dares, he gets ready to strike. Landing a direct hit on the creature, he asks how it dares try to turn his family into prey. The massive impact hits the creature, slamming it against the wall, while it thinks he said it was supposed to eat them. Still not satisfied, our hero charges at the creature's strike again. With another powerful strike, he says the creature nearly pushed them to the brink of disaster. As it's being beaten, the creature thinks that he was the one who told his parents to end their shift. Punching the demon non-stop, our hero calls it a sea cucumber piece of crap and a miserable sea anemone. Impressed, one of the demons wonders just how strong this boy is, while the other says he warned it would be tough with just Tremos. The creature takes its final breath and collapses on the ground next to Jayek. Then he says to never again underestimate his family, while his parents say that's right, he should keep it up. But it seems the job wasn't finished and Jayek looks back, seeing that controlled human holding the ropes that tie up his parents. He laughs, asking if he thinks he's scared just because he turned that guy into a punching bag while crying for help and thinking he doesn't want to die. Our hero says the mind behind this kidnapping must face the consequences of these evil deeds. Nervously, the two guys say that in the end, it was the brother who carried out the kidnapping, and that's a clear and unforgivable fact. That man smiles and cries with an evil expression on his face, but suddenly, he manages to say that now he truly regrets it. That poor guy says he'll stop doing bad things from now on. The demon tells him not to be afraid, that he'll transfer a massive power into him, and that he should fight the boy. He adds that with Scalpel's power combined with his own, he'll surely be able to take him on. The man screams that it's too much power, and that he can feel all that enormous energy he can't handle. But suddenly, he realizes something, then says, no wait, I have to stop, my gauge is almost in the red, that was way too close. As our hero charges forward, that demon-controlled man appears in front of him. He looks very different now and energy flows through his arm. His appearance is also quite demonic. Enjoying the moment, he says he's never felt power like this before and asks if that was the power that annoying guy had. He continues, saying so this is what it feels like to be strong, but our hero says the signal is distorted, and he shouts for the man to face the consequences of his sins, staring at him with fear. He launches an attack at him, but the man simply dodges and says, all right, let's go. Still dodging, he says the hero's not a big deal. And as he asks where he thought he was going, he gets hit with a powerful punch in the stomach. Knocked to the ground, he says it's manageable, but it hurts. That demon appears and asks, hello friend, would you like to hear what I have to say? He says he actually found his door open, so he came in, and now he's closing it to prevent any theft. Our hero looks at him and says it's fine, thanking him. Excited, he says doing a good deed has tilted the gauge back toward blue. Then swiftly he heads over to the poor guy lying on the ground. And as he uses his energy, he says that now that he has some wiggle room, he can recharge him. Getting up, the man says he feels twice as strong and that now it might be worth trying. Facing our hero, he says he'll now give him a taste of his own medicine, and throws a powerful punch that even lifts Jackie slightly off the ground. Satisfied with the result, he says he landed it, while our hero seems to have been slightly hurt by the blow. His mother asks when they'll be released because she's hungry, and his father says he's starving. Jackie doesn't understand why he's only seeing after images of his opponent and is also having trouble judging distance. The man says that honestly he's weak, and that no matter if they call him the hybrid at his peak, that title should be removed. Our hero says it seems like he feels no guilt for anything he's done. Filled with rage, he prepares to strike the man while saying, and for those who reject repentance. He adds that historically, this has been the remedy, while the man says if that's the remedy, he can bring it on because he'll be fully drugged. Jackie says this punch is for his mother, but the guy just dodges while saying there was a time you made money by getting hit. Our hero ignores him and says this one's for his father, while the guy keeps taunting that now, even if he wanted to get hit, he couldn't. Now with a kick, he says this hit is for Hana, and mockingly, the man says to leave a little for him. Scalpel asks if the other is seeing this, that the guy is incredible, because he remains unshaken even after taking a hit, and the other demon says it's obvious. He explains that with every failed attack, the surrounding area turns into a vacuum, like a nearby black hole consuming everything, and that if you get within 1 centimeter, your body would be shredded. Besides that, it seems he's ignoring the explosions caused by punches happening behind him, while the guy brags about his great dodging technique. Scalpel asks Azrael what he used, but the demon says it was a minor buff, and that his courage comes only from his ignorance of what's really happening. Our hero wonders why nothing is working while the guy mocks him, saying he's right there and asks where he's aiming. Then he says that for pests historically, pesticides are better than medicine. But unexpectedly, our hero takes a hit head-on. Being thrown far, the man says that this high school boy can't even hit someone standing right in front of him. He adds that he feels a small amount of guilt, about a gram, for having to use his intense power against him. The man thinks it seems like the kid is hiding a stronger power, that this is his chance to run away, since mobs like him usually get crushed. One of the brothers questions if he's possessed, but the other replies that he believes everything he's endured until now was him holding back for this moment. Our hero wonders why he suddenly can't land even a single punch on his opponent, if it's because he became so fast. That man thinks, that's right, I'll leave my weak self behind for a while and be reborn as a super killing machine. And now that he's become a bloodthirsty super killer, the reincarnation of the Relentless has returned. Super excited, he says he's transformed and he's not the old Oshi anymore. The two brothers thank him for still having that unlucky face, saying this is the Ushi they know and that he never loses that vibe. Annoyed, Jackie says he'll never let a guy as unlucky as him get away. And suddenly, saying he saw an opening, he fires an energy beam at his enemy. The man, incredulous, says he can't aim properly even when he's standing still and asks if that isn't kind of pathetic. With a chunk of hair missing, the guy says it feels like something just passed by him. Meanwhile, the couple wonders what's going on and if there's really any chance Jackie is struggling against an amateur like that. The father says something feels off, while the mother asks when they'll be rescued. That guy says that radiating from his strong psyche and incredible courage, he'll show his new move. And preparing to strike, he says this is his new ultimate technique. Charging at our hero, he shouts that he's coming. But in a clumsy move, the man trips over a rock and says, "Oh sir, you stepped on my foot." He adds that he just pretends to say that, then circles around the target, and finally charges in with his supposedly powerful attack, but our boy manages to dodge. So the guy says that after this, he grabs his phone and asks his insurance company if the injury he suffered can be covered. Landing his second hit, he says it won't be covered by insurance since the area isn't monitored by cameras. Guess one lands directly on Jackie, sending him flying into the wall. In a combat stance, the man says that was perfect and that he's switching from the self-harm strategy to the insurance scam move. One of the brothers tells him to go for the finishing blow and end it, saying they support this new chapter of his life, but he has to split the money with them. Pulling himself together, Jackie asks what he did to deserve this. The man wonders what that kid could have actually done wrong and says that this isn't his fault. The guy thinks his conscience is too loud and that thinking back, how long did it take for him to become strong? Struggling, our hero realizes he's lost his glasses and starts looking for them. But suddenly, he notices something different about his eyes. At first, he sees the man all blurry. Then in the next moment, sees him clearly and realizes his vision has suddenly become sharp. He realizes that was it. The reason for the blurry image was that his glasses were wrong, and now that he's without them, he can see perfectly. Scalpel realizes that was why he wasn't hitting. His awakening happened and improved his eyesight, and asked if now his body will surpass human limits. As Russell says that if this continues, a full awakening will only be a matter of time and things are getting tight. The man asks if it was because of the glasses and if he really thinks he can land a hit now, saying those who can't fight always blame their tools. He remembers playing arcade games and blaming the controls for losing, or when he lost to someone playing on a computer, saying if he had brought his own peripherals from home, he wouldn't have died. Annoyed, the guy says those are just excuses and that he's done it plenty of times himself, so he knows. Getting ready, he says he's going to finish the kid off with a special punch from the insurance fraud strike. Impressed, our hero says he can see his opponent now, that he can see everything clearly, and that the enemy's weakness is vitamin deficiency, low intelligence, left-handed, weak heart, weak lower limbs. In other words, the guy's totally busted. The guy yells and charges at our hero, delivering a powerful punch. But this time was different, and our hero easily blocks it with his hand. Without any effort, he stops the poor guy's attack, and without showing any emotion, he tells the man to stop. With his eyes glowing, he says he's going to die. Nervously, the man thinks he hasn't even been hit yet, but he can already feel the winds of hell just by the idea of being struck by this kid. He shouts that now that he's become strong, he can't resist attacking him. It's like gravity, and that now it's a matter of pride and dignity. Returning the attack, Jackie asks the man if he's not even going to ask, if he should stop as he lands a huge slap on the guy's face. As he flies away, the man thinks he was so close, and that he's lucky it was just a slap. The brothers seem excited that the guy finally got hit, saying now they can relax that their brother really needed that. From the impact, the man is launched out of the warehouse, crashing through the roof. The poor guy slams into a building on the street, then starts falling. Crashing onto the pavement, he rolls across to the other side of the road, and finally smashes violently against a wall. Out of nowhere, he starts talking on the phone with his mom, saying he ate well and that he has to hang up because he's in the street and thinks he fought well. He believes he'll be remembered as the human who fought face to face with these monsters and that all it takes to win is spirit. One of the demons says it's quite impressive that he finally achieved an awakening beyond human limits. Our hero notices the demon nearby as the guy raises one hand, and he adds that if he's truly in the process of awakening as a peak hybrid, he asks the boy if he could easily block an attack of that level. Jackie tenses up but stays alert, ready for the attack. And the demon uses his power. With a smug look, he unleashes a move called Judgment of Light. Suddenly, the night sky splits open with a blinding light, and a powerful beam of energy breaks through the heavens toward the warehouse. Our hero looks up and sees that powerful strike coming at him. It hits exactly where he is, leaving little room for defense. Feeling the pressure of the attack, he says his body is being pushed down infinitely. The demon explains that the precious light of the sacred spirit is the purest of all lights, while Jackie screams for it to stop, saying he can't bear the weight. The man explains that he's half demon and anyone with demonic blood cannot withstand the weight of sacred spirits. Suddenly, a second glowing point appears in the sky, and a powerful beam of celestial energy descends from the heavens, landing beside the men in the warehouse. As Russell says, it's too bright. In the midst of all that energy, a woman's shadow appears, her eyes glowing. The angel emerges in her elegant outfit while Azrael, surprised, says, "Hannah, how did you make it here?" Without saying a word, she channels her celestial energy into her arm in the form of a weapon. And with one move, she frees the boy's parents who had been tied up all this time. Shouting, the woman asks what Scalpel is doing, and if all of that was his doing, but he says he subcontracted part of it. She says it's just as expected from a mother's love. Even without physical contact, she can feel it in her heart. And the father says he's been feeling it too since he fell, but in his shin. She asks if Jackie's dark energy is powerful after all, and the satisfied man says he can't endure the divine light. He explains that if good energy had been strong during the awakening, he should have been able to withstand that level of intensity. Getting a little too close to the light, he is struck violently. Hannah calls out to the man while Scalpel asks where he went. Azrael continues to be crushed fiercely by the sacred energy. Being pushed deeper and deeper, he tries a last resort and uses his power to dodge the beam. With force, he manages to reach the subway. There at the station, the train seems to be arriving. Ordinary people wait for the doors to open. All beaten up, Azrael appears stepping out of the subway, saying that was embarrassing. Pulling himself together, he says that if he had taken a little longer, he might have fallen straight into hell. He approaches a regular person, who immediately seems to feel something unpleasant. Feeling a bit better, he says, "That was close." But it seems it's still not over. Looking down at his feet sinking into a blue energy, he asks what that is. Now flustered and searching his pocket, he says, "Don't tell me." The corruption meter. Suddenly, he is violently pulled into the ground, one hand raised holding the meter. As he fully sinks, only that device remains in the subway station, bouncing on the floor as he disappears. Falling on its side, it shows his corruption level was dangerously in the red. People around the subway look on, disturbed. That man tells the others, "See, if you ride for free, you'll end up in hell." Sometime later, back at the warehouse, our hero is still being crushed by the celestial energy. But now it seems he's decided to act. That powerful energy keeps pressing him into the ground. On a seemingly normal street, the pavement begins to crack, and our hero is launched into the air through the asphalt. Confused and suspicious, he wonders if he's outside now and where exactly he is. Looking at the sky, he says it doesn't look like his country, and noticing a massive transmission tower, he asks if this could be Jeju Island. He stops to think and realizes he was buried in the ground, so this place can only be hell. He concludes that he's fallen into the infernal depths and become a wreck covered in filth. Out of nowhere, someone calls his name asking, "Jackie, are you really Jackie?" Saying it's a coincidence, the voice adds that no one could have expected to find him here. The man says he's heard of him, but that he's not very smart. So he explains this place is the exact opposite of Earth, while Jackie asks who he is. He explains that he's been looking for him for a long time, that he's a kind of angel, and his name is Rue. Our hero says his country is in danger and he needs to go back. He asks how he can return home, saying that if the tower is here, he should head west, and Rue asks how he figured that out. Handing over some tickets, he says it's a huge coincidence, but he just so happens to have passage to Korea. Our hero asks who the man is, but he replies that they can talk along the way since they're in a hurry, confirming with the boy. Back at the warehouse, the beam of sacred energy remains strong. People outside admire the miracle, say they recorded it, and wonder if those really were angels. The woman asks where Jackie went and why Israel just left things like this, and who's going to clean up this whole mess. Then she tells him to forget everything he saw using a memory-erasing massage while he says he suddenly feels like deleting the photos. She tells everyone to forget everything that happened there and go live their normal lives. The people walk away saying it was nothing important. Hannah asks where Jackie went, and the man says he doesn't know because it all happened too fast, and even if he did, he wouldn't tell her. The angel says she'll fly toward the source of that pillar of light because she needs to eliminate it first. Then she takes flight toward the sky while Scalpel wonders why everyone keeps leaving him behind. Meanwhile, the woman rises toward the heavens with her angelic wings. She quickly reaches the top, but to her surprise, she can't believe what she's seeing and says, "This can't be, this place. It's the home of the first angelic order." Meanwhile, as Russell falls for a long time, he arrives at a place with a throne surrounded by lava. Surprised, he lands seated on the throne. The demon says it's been a while since he last saw him, and that for a third order archangel, this was quite a disgraceful fall. The angel tells Negojan that the meter turned red due to a malfunction, asking to negotiate, and the demon says he's being pathetic. He says he should have listened when he tried to negotiate peacefully. Now it's too late, especially for someone who lost his angel status and fell into hell. The angel begs, saying please, he's imploring him. If he frees him, he'll reward him for it. But the demon says he doesn't care what he's talking about. He explains that only an angel on the brink of corruption has value. One who's already fallen into hell is useless. He says he can do a good deed and turn the meter blue again, and that if he helps, he'll give him more than 5,000 low-ranking angels. But the demon says he's not interested in that and asks if the angel forgot that he's a demon and has no interest in helping him. Azrael asks, "Oh, really, Negojan?" And the demon tells him to enjoy his own throne now that it's come to this, and that their thrones are no different. He explains that the only difference is that he can move and the angel cannot. Laughing, he tells his Russell to just sit there and watch TV for thousands of years. He'll let him watch as much as he wants. He wonders if this is a corrupted desert and if he's destined to this decay and isolation. Meanwhile, on a commercial airplane, our hero says he doesn't know who the guy is, but that he brought him new clothes the first time they met, so he thanks him, and the man says the French school uniforms look good on him. Jackie says it's his first time on a plane, and that they could have just taken a bus, but the man laughs and says there's no way to get to his house by bus. The man asks if our hero is hungry and orders 2 bowls of ramen for them, giving specific instructions on how he wants them. Jackie is amazed and asks if that's real ramen, thinking to himself, ramen on a plane. Eating, he thinks that if you have something, you also need to know how to enjoy it, because you might not realize the extent of what you possess. Rue tells him not to let satisfaction stop him. He says to want more, to crave more. He says he'll plant the seed of desire in him and make his wishes burn brightly, repeating that his name is Rue. Far away down in hell, Russell says, Jesus, I'm already bored. There's nothing to do around here. He thinks he can't believe he fell into corruption in such a pathetic way, and that if he stays here too long, there'll be no way to raise his meter again. He concludes there's one way. He needs to check the Human World channel. He switches channels and finds Jackie, thinking that if he helps him, he can quickly fill his meter. But he wonders who that person sitting next to him is. He observes the guy for a bit, until finally a man says, Lucifer, and completes it clearly. My name is Lucifer. Our hero is surprised by the revelation. Jackie asks if he's famous like a TikToker. Rue says it's kind of like that, and asks if that's how his name got around. He asks if he doesn't know, saying that Lucifer's magic is undeniable, while the boy says it's okay not to know his name. He explains that he's been waiting for him and finally found him, the one destined to be the hybrid, and all that matters is that they're here together. Looking at him mysteriously, he says he'll grant him a spear and a shield, leaving our hero confused and surprised. Then he asks if Lucifer usually gives gifts, to which he replies that it's more than that. He'll give him everything he has, and asks if, for now, he'd like to eat more chocolate. Jackie asks if he really can, saying he's still not sure why Lucifer is being so nice to him. He explains that he already rejected the destiny of being a hybrid, and besides that, Hannah has been treating him very well. Lucifer asks if by Hannah he means the guardian angel Hanno, and explains that a guardian angel can do nothing more than protect him, that he respects his choices and that whatever he wishes to do is what he should do. It all depends on his decision and Lucifer will help him with it. He says they'll grant him a powerful wish to achieve everything he desires. What to do with that wish, he can decide later. Very excited, Lucifer tells him to crave more and desire more, as that airplane continues its journey. Meanwhile in hell, Azaressa wonders if he saw that right, if that really was Lucifer sitting next to Jackie, trying to influence him at that very moment. He says this is dangerous, that it seems Jackie is already leaning toward giving in to Lucifer's temptations, and that this is really on the edge. Very impressed, the angel says, there it is. Looking at that device, she says it's the source of the light. She observes that powerful beam cannon. Meanwhile, a woman looks through a device inside what appears to be a ship manipulating the beam. Hannah knocks on the window next to her to get her attention. Waving, the girl says she's an angel and wonders how the woman even knew she was there. The angel politely asks her to please turn that thing off, and the woman inside the ship seems surprised, asking if it's still running. Right after that, the woman shuts off the light beam. The girl says she can't believe it, that she got distracted and forgot about it, and that she's amazed a low-rank angel managed to find her. Impressed, Hannah asks if she's the First Order Archangel Micah. Then the woman says it's been a while since anyone called her that, an archangel retired in this secular realm, and tells her to just call her Micah. The angel wonders if perhaps she is also looking for the hybrid, but the woman says to call her Miss Micah. She then asks about the hybrid, if she's talking about the entity from the legends, and says she's more into dragons, though she doesn't care much for fairy tales. Hannah asks why she used the light of judgment, and the archangel says it was a pact. When a high-rank angel asks for help, they offer it unconditionally. Then she asks to make out if she isn't interested in Jackie, and the archangel replies to call her Miss, and that she doesn't even know who that is. She says her only focus is to find a certain person, the embodiment of evil. She must find and obliterate him. The angel asks if she's using that telescope to look for him, and the woman confirms, asking if she wants to take a look. Hannah asks if that's the legendary device that can find anyone, and the woman says yes, and that she has a soft spot for legendary items. Then Hannah asks if she could use it to find her friend Jackie, who disappeared after being hit by the light, while the archangel questions if he's human. Surprised, she asks if being human wouldn't mean he's dead, and that he must have been completely disintegrated like dust. But the angel says it was a strong attack, yet he endured it, so Micah asks what kind of human he is, and adds that if he's that resilient, then she might have some interest in him. A bit worried, Hannah thinks she doesn't really like that idea. Sometime later at the emergency medical center, a few rough-looking men walk through the place. Inside, the man who fought our hero is in critical condition. The doctor says the patient needs rest, while the man says he heard that Kimong was seriously injured. The man looks worried and asks him what the hell happened, he looks completely incapacitated. He asks what condition he was in when he arrived at the ER, if he walked in or came by ambulance, but the doctor says it was by taxi. The doctor says the patient opted for the full package of absolute rest, while the rough-looking man tells him to open his eyes. He explains that it's not to bother him since he needs to rest, and the man asks the doctor if he wants to have a long career. Feeling emotional, he says Hyun was always his mental pillar, but now he's in a vegetative state, though the doctor says he's not a vegetable. The man remembers that he became a nationally ranked gangster thanks to Hyun's influence. While facing a man, Hyun would taunt him, asking if he wanted to get beat up, to be humiliated, calling him pigface. Until the man got angry and hit Hyun, saying he had a disgusting face and that he really made him want to punch him. Then the largest and most violent national organization was arrested. And after dealing with the Double Dragon organization, they finally conquered the nation, and they wouldn't have done it without him. At another moment, all of them bow in gratitude and respect toward Hyun. In a wheelchair, he says it's too much noise, that they should just pay for the cigarettes and leave, because this is way too much. He says that, as expected, they're nothing without their Hyun, that he endured and sacrificed for everyone, and now he can't help him. He says he's a man who lived his whole life with blackmail and self-harm, and that they will find the culprit, because he wouldn't end up like this just from a few punches. And that man named Han says they'll definitely get revenge for their Hyun. The angel asks if she sees that guy all beat up over there, and if he's her friend, she says he's just some random guy. The archangel confirms whether Hannah is Jaeki's guardian, and why she wants to find him if he hasn't even made a request. But she says that if it's not through her, there won't be any other angel. Pointing to another individual, she asks if he is Jae-ki, but the angel says he is just a demon. Manga asks if the angel said the boy was struck by a judgment lightning bolt, and that this lightning can even pierce through the earth, and that if he wasn't eliminated, he must have ended up on the other side of the earth, somewhere like, for example, France. She then suggests they move through the sky and take a look at France. Sometime later, Manga says she believes he might be somewhere around there. But she says she must not let her personal feelings cloud her judgment. Guardian angels sometimes get involved with humans. As Hannah looks at her, the archangel explains that she must remember her duty and that she is a celestial apostle with the purpose of pursuing justice. Finally, Manga says he is on that airplane and that it was hard to find him because the plane is flying over the sea. Smiling, she says the angel is lucky and managed to find her friend quickly. But she questions why the one she was looking for is sitting next to the boy. She then says, "Lucifer, I finally found you." She says she can't believe the one she was looking for is right there, and that in the name of Archangel Michael, she declares here and now. With a massive manifestation of energy, the woman summons her weapons. And flying toward the airplane, she says she's going to execute Lucifer and obliterate his soul. An angel wing and feathers fly through the sky. Azrael's meteor flies through the air with its little wings, landing right in Scalpel's hands, who asks what that is. Through an audio connection, Azrael identifies himself, while the demon says he thought he went diving, but the man says it was a bit too much. In a place where the voices of heaven can't reach, and luckily he left his meter behind, though he doesn't know how this communication is working. He says to pay attention, that he's on a celestial mission to take Jack-K, but he ended up crossing a line and fell in hell. Scalpel says he had planned to send him to hell himself, but that he went on his own and asks how it feels to be in hell. He explains that the problem is Jae-Ki just met Lucifer, while Scalpel says he's his idol and can't believe he met him. Azrael says the next part is important, that he had asked Michael for help, and the demon asks if it's that terrifying person. He continues and says the important part comes now, and that it seems Michael found Lucifer, while the demon asks how that's relevant. A long time ago, he met her. She told him his future was uncertain, and that she saw a bat standing at the boundary between good and evil. She explains that there was an angel who did the same thing he did. That fallen angel has been hiding from her ever since, because on the day she lays eyes on him, he will cease to exist. And in a terrifying tone, she says not to forget that she'll be watching his corruption meter too. He says he's never been so scared in his life, and that the person Michael has been searching for is none other than Lucifer. He says the Archangel has always been looking for Lucifer and wonders what will happen when the moment she finds him arrives. That will mark the beginning of an inevitable war as Michael charges forward like a furious rocket toward Lucifer. But suddenly the fallen angel notices something, and stretching out his hand, he causes the airplane to shift direction slightly, just enough for the Archangel to fly past him without hitting him. The woman realizes Lucifer noticed and calls him a bastard. The fallen angel continues his manipulation. Meanwhile, outside, the Archangel strikes at the plane again, which escapes unharmed. Inside the aircraft, an apology is issued for the unexpected turbulence, which is said to be caused by changes in air currents. Lucifer laments and says he ended up exposing himself for too long. Outside, Michael uses her sword to focus a large amount of celestial energy, but something seems to stop her from firing at the last moment. Hannah says she should consider the passengers on that plane and whether protecting innocent people isn't an angel's duty. But the Archangel doesn't seem to care. She explains that minor casualties can occur during the implementation of justice, and that if they eliminate evil, they can help more innocent people. Hannah becomes tense and says, but Michael says the angel is being far too soft with humans, and that it's an angel's duty to never be influenced by personal feelings. And this is her personal revenge, so she shouldn't try to stop her. On the audio call, the demon asks what's wrong with them fighting, and Azrael says Michael's spear is far too powerful. And the moment it touches the ground, there will be a massive explosion. It could be called a mini Armageddon. This will result in the horrible destruction of 35% of all life on Earth. Azrael explains that when the dinosaurs went extinct thousands of years ago, it was because Lucifer dodged Michael's spear. Scalpel says that although human extinction isn't good for him, it might be a great opportunity to kill two birds with one spear. The man says that because of the increase in his demonic nature, he ended up forgetting the other guy was also a demon. The demon asks why it's called a mini Armageddon, and the other replies that it only affects 35% of people, so the first asks if there's a way to make it hit 100%. He thinks that if he can recruit all those souls to hell, including the hybrid, he'll earn a first-class promotion. Azrael says that as a former archangel, he's going to leak a bit of celestial information. If Scalpel helps, he'll reveal the exact moment the Armageddon will happen. He explains that when Michael's spear touches the ground, there will be an explosion, and that the corruption meter can show the likelihood of this happening. He tells him to check it and intervene in their fight. He must stop the spear from hitting the ground at all costs. Scalpel says he'll do it for the info, and that he'll sacrifice the mini Armageddon for a real one. Determined, Michael holds her spear, crackling with energy, and without a second thought, she hurls it toward the airplane. But once again, the aircraft shifts and dodges the powerful attack from the Archangel. The spear misses the target and continues its path toward the ground. Lucifer tells the boy to wait a bit because he has a visitor, while our hero laments not having any more raiment. Outside the plane, Michael searches for her prey, and using her power, she summons a beautiful celestial sword. The Archangel opens the plane door as people tell her she can't enter the cockpit without permission and that it's cold out there. Ignoring everything around her, she yells, calling for Lucifer. Meanwhile, the man, smiling, says it's been a long time since they've seen each other, but she looks healthy and well. Suddenly, something slices the boy, and with a precise strike, the Archangel says they should skip the pleasantries. They're a waste of time. Dodging the attack, Lucifer says that's not happening, because this time he even prepared a farewell. He asks if she doesn't know he can exist anywhere as dust. Furious, Michael says he should also know that the moment she found him, it became his last moment. With an agile move, Lucifer jumps out of the plane and watches it from above. He says he thought he was living just fine without getting caught. Meanwhile, Scalpel flies at high speed toward the battle site. Suddenly, he notices the danger level has spiked to 79% and wonders if he pressed something wrong. Nearby, Michael's spear descends toward the ground at incredible speed. Scalpel keeps watching and sees it rise to 85%, then shouts, "It can't be." That spear continues toward the ground while Hannah dives at high speed after it. Determined, she flies at top speed. Bit by bit, she gets closer to the spear as feathers from her wings fill the sky. Suddenly, she reaches it and manages to intercept the projectile. Meanwhile, Scalpel observes the danger level dropping to 50% now. Micah screams for Lucifer while a flight attendant says the passenger can't leave the plane. And jumping from it, she flies infuriated toward the fallen angel. Inside, our hero asks for his ramen, but the woman says that due to the issues, meal service has been suspended. That leaves our guy a little upset. In the skies, the Archangel clashes with Lucifer in battle. Smiling, he asks if they couldn't just get along in peace, but furious, Micah tells him to shut up. He wonders if he must have done something truly awful. Suddenly, Jackie appears beside them and tells them to stop, leaving the two of them shocked. Annoyed, he says that because of their fight, his ramen won't be delivered. The Archangel questions how a human can stand still in midair without wings. Our hero says they should sit down and fasten their seatbelts because of the turbulence, and asks how adults like them can behave this way. Micah says he has too many abilities for a human, and Lucifer says it's because he's the hybrid. She adds that only archangels can fly like that. Jackie says they're talking nonsense, and that he feels strange at the moment, wondering if it's just him, but he can't feel the floor. Looking down, he realizes there really is no floor beneath his feet. Realizing this, he gets a little scared. Manga asks if he said that was the hybrid, but thinks he hasn't matured yet, while the boy falls like a rock. Back to the battle, Lucifer asks her to wait a moment so he can save his friend, and she asks if he's saying he has a friend. Lucifer says they're going to become best friends and that the boy admires him, but the Archangel says, "Never. No one will ever admire you." Excited, the fallen angel asks if they can make a bet, but the woman, impatient, tells him to shut up because she's going to pierce that deceitful tongue. Meanwhile, our boy keeps falling helplessly. An angel seems to have quickly come to his rescue, and Hannah catches him, telling him to regain his senses. Gradually, he recovers and says with difficulty, "Hannah." Then she flies with him to a safe place. Up in the sky, Micah spins her sword, ready to strike. Suddenly, she charges at Lucifer, but once again, the fallen angel manages to dodge the powerful attack. Even though he avoided it, that weapon gets very close to his face, and too late he realizes the Archangel was planning something. A massive explosion of celestial energy erupts. As the Archangel realizes something is wrong, she turns, searching for her opponent. Then he says that keeping his distance from her is truly the wisest choice, and that he still doesn't want his tongue pierced. Hana arrives and tells Lady Micah that her carelessness in throwing her spear could have seriously hurt many innocents. She orders the boy to compose himself and stay in place, and he asks if they're back on the ground again and says that, as expected, she really is an angel. Everyone continues watching each other on the battlefield. The angel says there's her spear back, although she pleads for them to stop this reckless fight. Micah says, "Now that I hold justice in my hands, she'll make sure to stab him with it more than once." Lucifer says that considering their past, he wants her to go easy on him, and asks if she forgot they were once allies. She tells him to stop, and that before she pierces his tongue, she says she's doing this exactly because she remembers that. Our hero, surprised, asks what these two were once close. But originally, all enmity begins with friendship, and at another time, Micah uses her final attack on a massive creature. Lucifer says it was an impressive strike, and even her blade couldn't pierce a titan's hide. He explains that it's his first time hunting and there's a lot he doesn't understand, although he wants to one day annihilate all the monsters. Taking flight, he says he's not sure when that day will come. Going to the titan's back, he removes the spear stuck there, and after that, he flies away from the giant creature. He says he'll try hard to learn from her as a mentor, and that she wears her uniform with dignity, being someone worth following. Embarrassed, he says one day he wants to become an archangel just like her, and that he really admires that woman. Micah says he's the most ambitious angel she's ever met, and that the path to becoming an archangel is simple: just do more justice than the others. The boy asks how she delivers justice, and she replies that it's about judging the most evil among the evil, and that there's no fast path to rise in rank, and that everything is a matter of achievements, and Lucifer asks if something like honor points isn't required. She continues and says the secret is to constantly defeat the most powerful and great evil beings, and that she'll be there to help him. She says that's because she has great respect for his passion for justice. When they were together, they used to fight monsters, and they maintained a good relationship for a long time. Micah would point and say that one over there was the monster she always wanted to hunt, while Lucifer thought that hunting the blue dragon might earn him a promotion. He thanks her for everything and says he won't forget her kindness in helping him. She replies that she had fun too and will make sure to remember it. The archangel attacks from above while Lucifer goes under the massive dragon, as they both think about their memories. Landing a final blow together, suddenly someone asks them to wait a moment. Our hero, surprised, asks if they were closer in the past than he thought, but she replies they weren't close. She says he is nothing more than a vile deception, and Lucifer questions deception. He explains that he might have acted as if he were on a higher level, but that wasn't a trick. In disbelief, the archangel asks, acted, and continues, asking if he remembers when they took down the blue dragon. At the time, she asked what it felt like if he could feel his rank rising. Very excited, he said he could feel it. Exploding with joy, he said he felt a deep sense of release inside him. Micah, a bit skeptical, asks what kind of release that was, because it was very different from what she expected. A red sphere forms with Lucifer inside, and as he points his finger to break it, he says, bound by celestial seals, I can feel my true release happening. He thanks Michael, explaining that the seal placed on him by the blue dragon has finally been broken, and he didn't think he could defeat it alone. The woman watches in disbelief. Thanking her again, he says now he can pursue final freedom, something far beyond being an angel or a demon. He asks that when she returns, tell them he chose the path of a freelancer. Annoyed, the archangel tells him to stop talking, while the boy says she's getting a little too close. Back in the present, he says that talking while fighting makes him hesitate to strike, and says he knows the story, but wanted to hear it again. With irony, Lucifer says that one was a close call. The demon asks if someone is saying his lines and why the meter suddenly spiked again. He adds that if it keeps rising, it'll trigger a small Armageddon. Scalpel speeds up on his way. In a dark corner, Micah thinks it was a disappointment and a humiliation directed at her. She says her self-esteem fell to the deepest point of hell, and her mind was left in ruins. Until, after a period without purpose, she made a decision. That she would find Lucifer, she would find him and then kill him, no matter what it cost her. Our hero asks if they're fighting like this just because her ego was hurt. The angel tells him not to be so reckless. It's not worth it. The archangel says there are things a human can't understand, like pride, honor. That's virtually everything to an archangel. Jackie says he wouldn't have thought an archangel would go so far over something like that, while Hannah keeps saying it's dangerous to go any further, with Elite planting his feet in the air. He says he won't tolerate this, while his guardian angel tells him he must not give in to anger. As he dashes forward at high speed, he thinks, not anymore. The battle between the two angels continues fiercely. The light shines in the skies like a celestial bolt. Micah says so he really wants to fight, and Lucifer says she has a talent for provoking battles. Hannah wonders if he wants to stop the fight or make them fight even more. Suddenly, our hero shoots out of Earth's atmosphere, thinking he can't control his strength or speed. Scared, he realizes he's going just a bit too fast, and it looks like he's finally entering Earth's orbit. Meanwhile, that powerful spear of Michael keeps moving relentlessly toward the ground, until finally, Scalpel reaches it and manages to stop it, shouting aloud no. Breathing with relief, he says that mini Armageddon came way too close to happening, and with a powerful burst, he takes flight, carrying the Archangel's spear in his arms. But then, to his surprise, he wonders if the person he sees is really who he thinks it is. Stammering, he says, "Lucifer." He says that even just seeing him from behind with just a quick glance, he can tell who that guy is. Looking at his phone, he says it's his favorite idol, staring at a provocative photo of him. He thinks that this is the one who's always been the target of his obsession. And at that moment, he keeps looking at photos of his idol. One day, he swore he would become a demon like Lucifer, and he made that promise again and again. Melting over the man, he says that now Lucifer is right in front of him and says, "Please take me in, Lucifer." Surprised, the fallen angel asks what he's even talking about. Scalpel is caught off guard, feeling embarrassed. Quickly correcting himself, he says that actually what he meant is that he brought that thing for him, handing over the archangel's spear. He says he never imagined meeting him like this, that he's a fan and even went to his concert, which makes Lucifer happy. He says he has nothing to give but brought this spear and asks if he could get an autograph. Lucifer says it's the best gift he's ever received. Then he asks the demon what his name is. Excited and blushing, he says his name is Scalpel, while thinking that Lucifer asked for his name. Out there, beyond our planet, our hero floats in zero gravity. Trying to do something, he starts moving again, and it seems he finally manages to stabilize himself. He thinks that in the vacuum of space, sound can't travel. In the next moment, he concentrates his power. With a powerful thrust, he descends at high speed back toward our planet. He keeps falling like a meteor. Micah asks the fallen angel how he dares to wield justice. Then he says that if she stops the attacks now, he won't retaliate in any way. Growing more furious, she asks, "Do you believe you're worthy of wielding justice?" Lucifer says that true justice lies in the actions of the one who wields it, whether it's in his hands or someone else's. Smiling excitedly, he delivers a powerful attack at the archangel, who dodges the spear. She watches her former companion with determination, as the two launch into a never-ending aerial dance of battle. Positioning herself, Micah prepares to go on the offensive again. She strikes a powerful blow with her sword, which is blocked effortlessly by Lucifer. The woman says that if he can't handle it properly, it would be better if he dropped it. But he explains that he can improve his proficiency quickly if necessary. Meanwhile, Micah continues her relentless attacks, and with a powerful spin, she strikes Lucifer again, only to see him rematerialize in another spot, saying that if she prefers, she can drop the weapon instead. Out of patience, Micah says that before anything else, he needs to die. At that moment, our hero begins to approach at meteor-like speed. Very excited, he says he has mastered the art of levitating. He arrives shouting for them to stop fighting, while Lucifer smiles and says he will return justice to her, but in his own way, and asks what it feels like to be defeated by her own spear. Micah, exalted, says that justice is not something for people like him to shout about so recklessly. Without reply, that powerful spear flies toward the archangel. The woman dodges the attack with no difficulty. However, caught by surprise, our hero is hit directly by the weapon as he was shouting for them to stop fighting. The light in Jackie's eyes begins to fade gradually. As he's thrown toward the ground, he hears Hannah calling his name from afar. He keeps falling unconscious toward the ground at high speed, but his guardian angel dives after him to save him. Hannah sees from afar a dark shadow quickly approaching him too, and Scalpel appears, saying that the spear can't hit the ground under any circumstance and that he needs to stop it somehow. Surprised, Hannah wonders why he's doing this. Straining hard, the demon is almost able to reach Jacky's arm, and with one final effort, what he grabs is the archangel's spear. Smiling with satisfaction, he says he doesn't want a mini Armageddon, then suddenly realizes he needs to bring it back to Lucifer. Scalpel seems confused and wonders why the tip of the spear has disappeared. At an unbelievable speed, the angel passes by him, saying that it doesn't make sense, even if he helped Jackie proactively. Out of nowhere, up above, the archangel feels something different. Turning around, she says she can no longer feel her justice. Hannah keeps flying with determination, giving it her all, saying that she's the only one who can save Jack Kai. At full speed, she says this is the most important mission entrusted to her, to protect Jack Kai and ensure he isn't harmed, and because if she can't protect him, that will mean she's not a reliable guardian, and that's why he must never be hurt, that she will save him no matter what happens. Finally, she manages to reach our hero and catches him in her arms. Looking at his stomach, she says it seems to be the spot where the spear hit him, but she realizes that the wound has been healed and the spear's tip is nowhere to be seen. From above, Micah says she understands, and that her justice was absorbed into that boy's body, from somewhere else much farther away and extremely hot. As Russell shouts for Scalpel, asking if he can hear him and why he's not responding. He thinks that if this Armageddon-level catastrophe happens because of his negligence, he'll be thrown into the deepest abyss as punishment. But suddenly something catches his attention as he asks, "What is that?" A mass of dark energy surrounding him seems to shatter. Fallen to the ground, he says his restraints have been undone unexpectedly, questioning why this is happening. He thinks the power of judgment has awakened. Suddenly, a huge column of energy erupts beside him, and a fiery demon asks if he doesn't feel it, and explains that the chains of hell are being undone. Michael's power, the one that condemned them, is weakening, and even though he never gave in through all the suffering, he never expected to be freed so suddenly. Excited, that massive demon says that vengeance breeds vengeance, and continues, saying his revenge on those who judge him will be grand, while Azrael struggles to dodge that giant foot. With a shout, the demon calls on all who were judged to rise and prove they were never wrong. A hand appears, trying to return to Hell's platform, and calling that guy rude, it says this is what we call a close call. A bunch of bizarre demons begin rising from the depths while Azrael feels uneasy. The demon goes on, saying that for those who wielded the sword of judgment recklessly and without evidence, they should now release their deep vengeance. Ignoring everything else, the archangel says they should continue their fight, but Lucifer tells her wait now, that the time limit is up. Striking anyway, ignoring what he said, she insists there's no such thing as a time limit in the middle of judgment. He tries to argue that that's not what he meant. Looking to the side, the fallen angel tells her to look behind her, because it might change her mind. Suspicious, the archangel looks back, and stammering, she asks, Titan, why is that giant here? The massive creature calls out Michael and Lucifer by name, saying they are his arch-enemies and bastards. The boy seriously begins to speak. On this day, humanity remembered the fear of being ruled by them. Not understanding anything, Micah asks what he's suddenly talking about, and he explains he can't resist doing a monologue when he sees a giant. Very angry, the Titan calls them damned and gets ready to attack. Dodging, Lucifer says the Titan's mouth has gotten much filthier since the last time they met. He goes on and tells the Titan to wait, and that even if they're not exactly on the same side now, he asks if it's not true that they'd still have allies on the side of the same evil faction. While being hit by a blast of fire, he says that no mercy is being shown. He wonders if the blue dragon has also been released and asks what the hell is going on. Micah explains it looks like they've revolted, taking advantage of the weakened state of justice. Lucifer asks if everyone judged by justice has been freed, and the archangel says it seems only the two of them judged together. A massive demon appears, saying those old shackles made them appreciate even the simplest freedom, and yet this cannot be seen as a blessing. Shouting, he demands they receive compensation for the years they were condemned as absolute evil, and now it's their turn to judge. Taking advantage of that tunnel it opened, Azrael also manages to escape hell. He says, Old Gomo once sought to begin Armageddon, but was sealed away by conspiracy for exposing the prophecies. Scalpel asks how come someone tried to start Armageddon and adds that it's his duty, while from the other side of the meter, someone talks to him. Meanwhile, Lucifer focuses on dodging attacks from the massive creature. The demon tells his idol that the one in front of him is Old Golmo, the one who brought all the condemned souls from hell to the surface. Then Lucifer asks the archangel if they judge Old Golmo too. She says no, but that he's taking advantage of the situation to do all of this. The boy says, damn Titan, there's really no need for you to be showing off your shaved armpit. Ignoring what he's saying, the Titan lands another powerful blow on the fallen angel. But once again, it seems he only hit smoke. So in a fury, he strikes the ground. Lucifer says that even if she wants to judge him later, they should form an alliance now, because if they combine their forces like before, they can defeat them. She says that she will then take a pause in his judgment, but that she will never form an alliance with evil. She continues, saying that even though she is without justice at the moment, she will carry out this judgment with her own determination. And determined, she charges toward the massive creature. Surrounded by celestial energy, she flies while dodging the Titan's attacks. Circling its head, she makes a cut on its neck. The Titan, crying, asks why she targeted that spot, and the archangel says it was instinct. And the Titan says that whenever they see a giant, that attack becomes instinct. Meanwhile, Lucifer says, if Michael went to face the Titan, that means he has to deal with the blue dragon alone, and this one is difficult. Down on ground level, Hannah holds her hero while seeing a horde of demons running toward them. She wonders why the hell's hordes have risen to the surface. She starts yelling for Jackay to wake up, but all our hero does is let out a groan. In almost complete darkness, he asks, what is this? And someone from afar says, my baby. He asks who it is and says he's not a baby, maybe something less, but he's at least old enough to have a motorcycle license. The voice keeps saying that by a twist of fate, she finally had the chance to meet him. Our hero asks if it couldn't be, and stammering in surprise, he says it can't be that she's his actual. Jackie asks if it could be that she's his mother. But suddenly someone says no spicy pork, and our hero seems confused. The voice continues saying spicy pork with rice. And back in reality, Jackie mumbles, spicy pork with rice. Out of nowhere, he jumps up shouting, that's it, spicy pork with rice. Hannah says he woke up and thanks the heavens, saying that the magic word worked. He asks if she knows who he saw in his dream. Then the woman says yes, she knows, but now is not the right time for that, because there's this group of troublemakers coming their way. The great demon says for them to clear any obstacles in their path, that nothing will stand in the way of his mission of vengeance. Jackie asks what these terrible deformed creatures are and if they should take them down, but the angel tells him not to judge by appearances. She says there's no reason to fight these beings because all of them were victims of justice, as everyone knows. As she says the word justice, our hero's chest begins to shine brightly with celestial energy. The boy says he can feel a burning desire inside him to judge them all. The Titan curses the archangel and asks what he did wrong, while Michael replies that she holds no personal grudge against him, and adds that an absolute evil will always be an absolute evil. That massive creature says his resentment is overflowing and tells her to let him catch her so he can rip her in half. With a powerful attack, the angel strikes the monster's arm and he groans, saying he's the one being ripped apart. Micah says that if she must be torn to pieces, she will accept her fate willingly. The dragon says to see how long he can keep dodging, calling him a slippery bastard, and says he'll make him pay for what he did. Lucifer says there's no need to single him out of resentment and that Michael is there too, so why aim only at him? The creature takes a deep breath, preparing his flaming breath, and spitting fire and fury, says it was Lucifer who landed the final blow. Lucifer explains that's how you earn experience points and tells the dragon not to get the wrong idea, but he really needed the XP, and asks if he can't talk while breathing fire. Meanwhile, on the ground, that large demon advances, telling everyone to take their full revenge. He goes on saying not until all the anger built up from false accusations is properly released. The demon coughs a little and says it's hard to keep up, wondering if he rested too much during the time he was imprisoned. He adds that he's been feeling it for a while now, that there's a rat following him, and out of nowhere, Azrael appears. The man launches an attack, but the creature is not hit. Then the angel wonders if the demon noticed. Kicking the angel away, the creature asks if he thought that kind of trick would work on him. He asks how long he's been following him, and says they have no mutual interest in one another. Composing himself, Azrael says that, as one can see, he can't exactly be your everyday angel, but even so, he continues that he's still an angel, and that he still has duties as such, and that seeing such a rampant criminal might have brought back his sense of duty and responsibility. Aiming at the demon, he fires his weapon at him. The creature says he sees no reason for them to fight and no reason to be labeled as a criminal. He says it's the sin of having escaped from hell, and as an angel who witnessed it, Azrael can't just ignore it, even if it has nothing to do with him. Then he asks if he followed him all this time just because he escaped from there, and says he won't accept being called a criminal just for being a demon and not an angel. Reloading his weapon, Azrael asks if that isn't inevitable. He explains that there's a fundamental difference between angels and demons. The good deeds of angels are praised, while the wrongdoings of demons are punished. That's the natural order of things. Enraged and being dragged into the ground, the demon screams that he refuses to go back to prison. Sometime later, closer by, our hero now charges forward full of power, and with a powerful attack, he takes down one of the demons, then advances again, taking care of another. From a distance, Hannah watches the boy hurling demons into the air. Our hero seems much stronger and easily eliminates the demons. The angel asks him to stop and says this is happening because of the shard of the spear embedded in him. Jackie says he wasn't sure of that anymore, and that if he doesn't hit those with evil appearances, he feels an unbearable itch all over his body. Hannah says, "Oh God, that's Michael's curse. Michael's plague has struck you." While our hero, in a trance, says you must eliminate all evil forces. Looking at that fragment, he says he feels a bit better now, while the angel asks if he can endure it, but our hero says he can't. He explains he heard a voice like an earpiece from inside him saying he must deliver justice. She says that's exactly where justice was embedded, inside him, and that she'll see what she can do to extract that cursed fragment. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Lucifer is running from the huge blue dragon. Dodging, he tells the dragon to stop, that they should resolve this with a conversation, and asks if, for a celestial-class beast to attack a simple demon like him, isn't it overdoing it a bit with the power levels? He says he's disappointed, considering the dragon's level and the scale of the attacks, asks if it's not excessive to use breath attacks on a target like him. The dragon says his name, Lucifer, isn't that of a loser, and that he's hiding his power, that he's not someone who dodges without striking back. Lucifer replies that it's a long story, but he hasn't fully recovered his former strength. The creature then says it'll skip the story because it's time to end his life. Suddenly, the dragon notices someone approaching and sees our hero, surrounded by celestial energy, arriving fast, and he lands a massive punch right to the dragon's face. Our hero tells the monster that oppressing the weak isn't fair, and as someone who has embodied justice, he can't just stand by and watch injustice. The dragon asks if an ambush is now considered an act of justice. Jackie says helping a kind friend can also be considered justice, and then Lucifer thanks him for not forgetting him. Suddenly, with furious eyes, he says, "But you're wrong. You are absolute evil." He says judging absolute evil is the same as honoring true justice, while Lucifer asks what's going on and if the kids had some kind of mental breakdown. Without thinking, Jackie concentrates power into his fist and gets ready to strike. He punches Lucifer several times, but the fallen angel merely vanishes, dodging. The fallen angel says they're friends, and attacking a friend like this taints every moment they shared. Fully determined, Jackie prepares another blow and says that the only rightful path for evil is one of solitude. In disbelief, Lucifer says this is a serious case of Michael contamination and wonders what he should do. Out of nowhere, Jackie attacks again without saying another word, while Lucifer thinks that even a scratch from this could be fatal. Suddenly, Scalpel appears, saying he's saving his greatest idol in this moment of crisis. and that this could only be called loyalty. The dragon pulls himself together and says that for him to turn his back like that, it would only be an invitation for a surprise attack. Micah says that when the number of warnings adds up, kindness is no longer an option. Flying toward the massive titan, she adds that only immediate judgment awaits him. Then she charges and strikes the creature. After that, she flies down to its feet and attacks again with force. She explains that the reason she didn't cut off his arms before wasn't due to lack of skill, but rather a small favor she granted for being caught twice. Ironically, the Titan says she's merciful as always and asks if she thinks cutting off his arms will stop him. Micah says she knows the arm will eventually grow back. From the severed part of the arm, we can see something emerging. Getting closer, it's clear the tiny little hand is regenerating. Then the angel says she also knows how long it will take to regenerate. She delivers a powerful top-down strike on the creature, hitting it squarely on the head with great force. The ground shatters beneath its feet, and screaming, it begins to fall back into its prison. Micah wonders, now that I've dealt with the Titan, how is the blue dragon doing? Nearby, the dragon, ready to attack, watches our hero. Jackie says that it doesn't matter if the Bluetooth in his chest tries to talk to him, it would be irresponsible to just follow whatever the voice says, and that the judgment of good and evil is his to make, not something for others to decide. He wonders what kind of judgment he should make. Hannah shouts desperately for the boy, who didn't even seem to realize what was happening. Micah asks why she's so worried, and if that isn't the hybrid. She realizes that this guy can increase his awakening level instantly, and says that even for a guardian angel, that's too much. She needs to maintain proper balance in her escort duties. Our hero thinks that this is the moment to rediscover himself. The dragon says that even though not a single hair of his was burned, awakening in the middle of his flames hurts his pride. Focused Jackie says that such actions are inconsistent with who he is. Preparing a powerful attack against the creature, he adds that he won't allow it anymore. Telling the dragon to take this single strike, he lands a powerful punch on the blue dragon. The creature is thrown to the ground, defeated. While Jackie says he doesn't need that justice with him. He says it's better that those things that were never his return to their rightful owner. Afterward, the archangel says that the power of justice could have changed him, and even so, he chose to remove it despite knowing its great power. While she looks at her weapon, she says he's truly worthy of being called the apex of the hybrid. Michael says that dream memories are being transmitted to her through Bluetooth, and our hero says, see, it is Bluetooth. Surprised, the woman says he's the son of a seraph and that she met a seraph once. It seems that when justice entered his body and the demons left hell, his mother was released at that exact moment. In the past, Michael was dismissed from the archangel ranks by the council and was asked if she already knew that justice condemns all equally. Jackie's seraph mother says that once you're marked against justice, no circumstance is taken into account. She had to endure many trials being accused of carrying the seed of the devil, and that she should be ashamed. She said that no matter what they said, she would have that child, and that she never regretted having that baby. And Michael asks where Belle went because it seems like he was avoiding responsibility, even though he was the father. Then the seraph says she deeply regrets letting that bastard disappear, and asks if Michael wasn't recruited to find and punish him. She adds that even if it means going to the depths of hell, they need to find him. She orders her to find him and cut off any protrusion from his body. Micah says that for some reason, the High Council didn't terminate the pregnancy, and that's how he was born. But after that, the treatment of the seraph changed. Hannah asks if it was the High Council that decided everything, and Micah says this was a very significant event, leading to the birth of a hybrid. And when they took the baby, a council decided to imprison the seraph in hell, placing the punishment of creating life from an improper relationship upon her. Micah thought the seraph's punishment was unfair, but as an archangel, she couldn't express her feelings like that. She had to judge relentlessly. Our hero says he knows that he could feel it clearly when justice was inside him and that he could sense her duty as an archangel. He asks if they can call it a study trip because it felt like he was visiting the place, and the woman thanks him for understanding. And after that, sentencing the seraph, it seems the council decided to abandon the child and she was sent to grow up in the human world. Jackie says he never thought of himself as abandoned, especially since he had good parents who raised him well. He says he's never seen his biological parents, but they don't seem to hold much importance in his life, and that the most important thing in his life is his life itself. Suddenly, he asks what time it is now, since there's a time difference there, so he needs to go back quickly, and the archangel asks why. Desperate, he says he needs to go to school. Micah asks why he needs to go to school, and Hannah says that in the human world, if you don't go to school, you're not treated like a real person, and Jackie runs off in a panic. The woman asks him to wait because Lucifer will definitely come looking for him again, and in that case, his habitat becomes the best place for her to keep watch. Surprised, our hero asks what she means by that. Sometime later at school, the teacher tells the class there's a new transfer student, and she introduces herself as Micah. Jackie says his guess wasn't wrong. Now there's another weird transfer student. Pointing to where our hero is sitting, she says she'll sit there. Asking if the seat is taken, she says she prefers to sit in a corner, and Jackie says it's Scalp Pill's spot. But she asks if he shouldn't be away for a while, chasing after Lucifer. Something flies by quickly, and someone says it looks like they're out of range. Lucifer says he appreciates the altitude, but asks why he was taken somewhere so cold. Scalpel says that mountain is the border between heaven and hell, hard to detect. Then he says it's an honor to save his favorite idol. Shivering, he says it's cold. Scalpel says Lucifer has been his idol since he was a kid. But he admits he has some doubts and says he'd like to know if he's really the same Lucifer he admired. He says that during a fight he seemed very cautious, or maybe he lost his strength. In that case, he wouldn't be the same Lucifer he once was. In disbelief, Lucifer asks if he really looks weak enough for someone to doubt him. He makes a quick hand gesture, and a huge explosion happens where they are. He asks what he thinks. Isn't it a bit warm? And says he brought a bit of hell's fire for the fan who doesn't trust his favorite. Scalpel says it's really hot, and Lucifer explains that his power is sealed elsewhere, so he can only show that much. He says his power is locked under a condition to exchange it with another power of equal value, so he's been thinking about that. Lucifer says, if I take a power far greater than my own when I go to reclaim it, will I receive power of the same proportion? And that's why he needs the hybrid. So he asks the demon to help him, and Scalpel says he really is the trustworthy demon he admires. Lucifer says the demon felt disappointed, but he replies that he's taken it back, saying Lucifer has always been his favorite and always will be. So they'll lure the hybrid to the place where they'll obtain the equivalent power, and Lucifer says the one sealing his power is Baal. A teacher greets the students, says yes, he is the teacher, and that he won't take attendance today because he trusts all of them. Manga asks why he trusts people so easily and says it's unfair, and Jackie explains that's what being a teacher is. The old man goes on and says Scalpel seems to be missing and asks if maybe he's just late. Suddenly, Scalpel answers, saying he's here, and the teacher says if he keeps pretending to be absent, he'll get marked with a tardy. He says he changed seats because he wanted to be friends with the others too, and the teacher asks if everyone's seated now. Scalpel remembers Lucifer passing him the ability to turn into dust, so he can use it to help bring Jackie. All thrilled, he asks if he's receiving this secret technique personally, and says he's one lucky fan, and Lucifer says it's nothing special. He explains that he can't get close to Jackie because of Michael and tells Scalpel to settle like dust and become his substitute. Then the demon says he's a man of opportunities and tells him not to worry because he's definitely going to seize this chance. Now in his place, something catches the man's attention. He sees our hero and tells himself that now he's part of a new mission, so he can devote himself to worshipping his idol. Then the teacher continues and asks why Azrael isn't there yet, wondering if he left the classroom. To everyone's surprise, the boy enters saying, yes, I'm coming. Smiling awkwardly, he apologizes for being a bit late, but says that Azrael has now arrived. He explains that he got the address mixed up, and the teacher says that was a close one for him. So the boy asks if that's his seat, and Michael asks, don't tell me you're. Hannah thinks it's strange that if he were Azrael, he definitely would have said something like that. Woo, that was close. The boy asks if those are his friends and greets everyone, and the girl thinks that the way he talks is also off. Scalpel says the meter is still red, so he's still in hell. Then who exactly is this person here? Meanwhile, the boy waves and asks if that's Scalpel. The demon asks Azrael who deserves more to be in hell, while the boy asks if he's trying to drag him down with him. He asks if the one who was caught and condemned for his crimes should remain, or if the one who sins repeatedly should stay instead. Azrael says that in the absence of a judge, each one must judge for themselves. And with a precise shot at the creature, the boy finally gets rid of him. The condemned demon keeps falling toward hell, but determined, he throws some tentacles toward the boy and says he refuses to fall into hell alone. While Azrael dodges the attacks, the monster keeps saying that both of them are sinners, and asks why only he will receive punishment, while the boy says that sin and judgment are two different things. The angel explains that the wickedness of evil must be met with great retribution, and that this is the principle upheld by those who follow the path of justice. He adds that by following this principle, he has the right to judge him. While vanishing into that sea of fire, the demon says it's not fair. Looking on indifferently, Azrael says the world hasn't been fair since its creation. At another time, in the heavens, someone says Azrael has failed. They say even a guardian angel sent with the upper hand is becoming influenced by human emotions, that he's his brother and he should be capable of handling him. But another person responds that this is becoming dangerous. They ask why everyone is acting like this and if they really need to be worried about remote access. This is Ariel, archangel, and brother of Azrael. And another person continues, saying someone needs to take responsibility for the entire plan, and ideally, it should be the one who started it. They say that if everything were going according to plan, this hearing wouldn't be necessary. Ariel says that's a premature judgment, and that he hasn't even shown enough awakening progress to be called a hybrid, so the plan is still in its early stages. But someone says that deceptive behavior is unacceptable for an archangel of the Legion. If the hybrid awakens and joins hell, it will be a disaster. That Ariel asks if that's the responsibility they want him to take on, and the voice commands him to bring him to heaven and to do so at any cost. The archangel asks if simply bringing him would be enough. Then someone says that if he can get him to heaven, the Archangel Legion will take care of the rest. Smiling, he says he'll make sure the mission is completed, but adds that he doubts no one will notice who he is. And back in the classroom, we now know who was pretending to be Israel, while Hana continues thinking the guy is strange. I suppose Israel approaches the girl and asks if something's wrong, and gently adds that it's him, Israel. But the angel is uneasy and suspicious about that. The teacher continues and says that starting tomorrow, he'll conduct an evaluation of the group project, and that it will count toward their academic record becoming the most crucial factor for their college admission. Our hero is surprised to hear that, and tells the girl that a 50% evaluation is a miracle, and she says it's a great opportunity for someone who doesn't study like him. Meanwhile, Israel asks what this performance evaluation is, but Micah says she doesn't know, though it seems to be some kind of test. The teacher says he'll be choosing the groups, and pointing at that group, he says one will be made up of people with weird appearances. Azrael asks if it's a battle group, and the girl says it seems like it is, and that they should switch to combat mode, and that the opponents are probably demons. That he says there's a group that seems to be missing members, and that he's going to form a group with Scalpel as the leader. Excited, Scalpel asks if he's being assigned to form a separate group and not join the others. The teacher answers seriously that yes, he will be the leader. Azrael says that, as expected, they're going up against demons, and the girl says they'll be facing very low-level demons, which is kind of lame for archangels. The demon says he should be on that other team, and the annoyed boy asks the teacher who the others are because he has a name. Then the teacher says, well, Scalpel, Youngta, and Yuji. That girl seems thoughtful about this choice. Then the teacher says that the topic for the performance evaluation will be. Meanwhile, far away down in hell, a demon calls out for Negojun and asks who's there who came all the way there, but realizes that voice sounds familiar. A well-dressed person approaches, carrying a huge demon skull. Looking quite annoyed, he says he came to negotiate and demands his absolution. Azrael says he captured and brought back Olgomo, and asks, I believe that's certainly enough for my pardon, right? The demon watches him closely, while Azrael blares back, clearly irritated. Then the demon says he'll run some numbers on the calculator, and then they'll see, while the boy asks if people still use those. The creature says, by God, and that he even has a spare one, while checking the calculator. Breathing a sigh of relief, he says that was a close one, and then Olgomo says it's frustrating, but he'll have to let him go, granting him permission. Azrael says he's leaving immediately, but the demon protests, saying the indulgence hasn't been officially issued yet, so Azrael says to send it by email. He says this should be a certificate of penalty exemption, since he's not being pardoned, just exempt from punishment. The demon takes a closer look and says he's right, and that he'll need to revise that. Rising at high speed, Azrael wonders how he could ever forget the scent of paradise. He thinks he needs to revise and review first, as he arrives at a temple in paradise. Then a voice asks why he returns so quickly, and adds that he's also come back empty-handed. Confused, Azrael asks what the hell is going on there. Back in the human world at school, the teacher says that the topic for the students' performance evaluation will be conquering heaven and hell. The two archangels are surprised and ask if these weak humans are planning things like conquering heaven and hell. Then Hanan explains that it's not literal, and Azrael asks why he said that, and the girl says it's a metaphor. It means you're your own master. She goes on explaining the essence of good and evil, and what defines that good and evil, and how it affects humans. The teacher says that based on their personal impressions, he expects a presentation, and that they should use their spirit to reach the true meaning of it. Micah thinks this is a test right when she just joined them, and that she hates this kind of thing. And Hannah says even if she doesn't need a pass, they still have to give it their best, and that in the end she's Jackie's guardian, and it's her duty to help him achieve his dreams. The Archangel says it seems she's getting too involved in this, and being a little excessive. She says she knows all about her unauthorized escape from the prison in paradise, and that she did it just so she could protect Jav Kai. She asks why she's so desperate and demands an explanation, because it's not like she herself is being driven by personal reasons. Surprised, she says, don't tell me this is love. She insists, asking if she's right, that this is love, and says that at some point, feelings of love began to grow in her heart. Catching her off guard, our hero turns and asks if she's there, and she wonders if she might actually like a human. Excited, he asks if she heard that because besides the college entrance exam, this performance evaluation is a golden opportunity. He says it's because Hadana is his greatest strength, so they're going to achieve this together. Confused, the girl wonders why her face is getting so warm. Excited, he says that only she can make his dreams come true. Not understanding, she questions what kind of fluttery feeling this is. Getting very close to her, he asks her to listen to his sincere words, and she wonders why her heart is beating so fast, then says that she will help him. After all, she is his guardian angel. Blushing deeply, she thinks this emotion is something she hopes she can manage. While that suspicious girl in the background just watches, someone shouts for everyone to gather, and then Scalpel says that this is something very important, and that it's not just about doing well in the evaluation. He says that since they're in the same group, he expects total cooperation, and that he'll keep monitoring Jackie's team since they think alike. The boy asks who that bastard is to give him orders and says he's not interested in this test, that he just wants to graduate. While the girl says if only that son of a mother wasn't there, as the boy protests. and she adds that she'll help him, that she's good at monitoring others, and that she can also perform some sabotage. She especially wants to make sure Jaeki's team doesn't succeed, and Scalpel says that sounds great to him. She asks if there's a real demon on their team and says then they'll do everything like a shadow Hanno. Suddenly, something catches her attention, and she looks at the girl named Hanno, lost in love, and thinks that if only she could at least get rid of her. Azrael says that this is essentially a mission assigned to humans, and asks why, by God, archangels like them should be involved in missions made for mere humans. She explains that things in the human world often proceed under rigid procedures, because they don't trust each other, and adds that for that reason, their beliefs still seem to apply to the human world, of not trusting anyone, throwing her spear at the boy. Desperate, he shouts, asking what she's doing, attacking the commander of the archangels. Her spear suddenly stops midair. Surprised, Micah says she was right, and that he really is the archangel commander Ariel. She says the fact that justice doesn't prevail there makes it clear, and the man asks if she really threw that at him just to confirm it. Micah says it seems a lot is going on in heaven, especially if the commander himself intervened, and he asks why she's there. She explains that she's undercover to capture Lucifer. The commander says Lucifer is not the problem right now and asks her to help him carry out the High Council's orders. Micah says, the High Council. Commander Ariel, of course. She explains that the mastermind behind the development of the hybrid plan in the human world. This all originally came from Ariel. A little later, back in heaven, a voice says, Archangel Commander Ariel. He continues saying they need to arrange support before he returns to the human world. Faking it just a bit, Azrael says yes, that it's him, while the voice of the council says, Ariel. They explain that they don't think it's a good plan for him to go alone to bring the hybrid back, and besides, the High Council has decided to provide him with a powerful army. He looks back and thinks that is the true throne, the throne of the Archangel Commander, and that sitting on it is so simple, even though he's never experienced it before, that they say they will send Heaven's army, and they'll start by defeating Azrael on Earth. The throne of the Archangel Commander, a position that seems like being the king of paradise. But in truth, he always wanted that position, and even though they're twins, his brother inherited the direct bloodline and rose to the position of Archangel with no problem. However, there's only one throne, and he did his best to live as if he didn't care about it. Azrael asks for another match, saying it's fine not to return to heaven right now. He thinks a free life is better than one tied to the throne. But ever since his brother took the throne, he's been tightening the leash on him. He remembers being summoned. And Ariel says that if he's his brother, committing to corruption can't be tolerated by heaven, and asks if he knows that this degrades angels. Azrael says that since he has no throne to protect, he also has no reason to uphold that kind of dignity. The commander then says he'll have to demote him to a third-degree fallen angel and impose stricter restrictions on him. A bunch of missions follow: capture more demons, conquer the third region of hell, bring the remote control, and scrub his back. Someone says he is ordered to descend to the human world and assist the hybrid, then bring him to paradise. He thinks that even though he was ordered to support the hybrid's awakening, now that throne belongs entirely to him. And now he gives the orders. This is the perfect opportunity to seize Ariel's power, and he commands the celestial armies to be sent to seal Ariel, or rather, Azrael. But the council says that he's the one who needs to stop fooling around and hurry up, that he should catch his breath and return to Earth to retrieve the hybrid. The young man asks if he's Ariel, and the council says yes, so to send and go get the hybrid, while the guy asks if that wasn't supposed to be Azrael's job. Meanwhile, back on Earth, someone uses their celestial energy to fly. Our hero speeds across the sky at high velocity. He sees a balcony with a glass window approaching, and with an agile move, he shields himself and crashes through the window, shattering it into pieces. Striking a heroic pose like in a story about angels and demons, he says, "I've arrived." His mother asks why he didn't use the front door, and his father says a perfectly good window just got broken. Our hero says he still can't control it very well. Sitting down, he tells his parents that he has something important to talk about. His parents look a bit curious about it. Then Jackie begins to speak. He says he beat his academic record, so now he wants to set all that aside, and that he gave everything he had on the performance test. His dad asks if he called them in for such a pointless story. He says they didn't have a coupon but still bought premium fried chicken. The woman asks how he can call that pointless because right now that's what matters most to Jack Kai. The father asks why he doesn't just accept his fate as a hybrid and go to heaven instead of all this, and tells him to think about it while eating, over the mother's protest. She says what matters is his opinion and tells him not to listen to his father. He should do what makes him happy. This time it's the father who protests. Our hero keeps eating dinner while his parents argue in the kitchen. What he really wanted to say is that even if he goes to meet his real mother, those two will still be his parents. But elsewhere, someone says convincing him is proving harder than expected, and another asks if what's missing isn't persuasion. And on the phone, someone tells Azrael no, that they even used the premium chicken dinner idea, and the angel says it was a good idea. Then he asks if he can take him out now, like he's going to have a talk with his dad. And the man asks if it really has to be right now. He seems a bit nervous at the moment. Meanwhile, the mother is in the bedroom talking to someone. She says it's the daily report from the demonic agent on Earth, and the father watches, hiding behind the cracked door. He says she's pretending to be on Jackie's side very convincingly, and suspects she's pretending to be a good mom but is really focused on her mission from hell. And in that case, she should carry out her mission, and on the phone she says she'll seize an opportunity and do it, that she can't fall behind compared to a demon. Smiling, the father asks if their son is studying, walking into the room with a little snack. Jackie says he's researching for the performance test, and his father thinks he doesn't seem to know what the performance test even is. The father says he's been studying all day and asks if he'd like to go to karaoke with him and take a break. But the boy says he's only been studying for less than an hour. Awkwardly, the man says, "Oh, just that. Sorry then." Jackie says starting the presentation project is half the battle, and since half the work is done, he thinks he can take a break. In the other room, someone asks the mother what the observation subject is, and if the hybrid doesn't have enough potential yet. She concludes that he doesn't, that for now he's just like an ordinary human, focusing on his studies exactly like any human his age. It seems the legends about this hybrid might be a bit exaggerated, and on the other end, someone says that in that case, communication will cease now. Our hero's mother hangs up and stays there, lost in thought. Meanwhile, in an ordinary phone booth in hell, a demon hangs up the phone while another asks what she said. He explains that one shouldn't believe demons like that, and it seems that this demoness playing the role of a mother is contaminated by human emotions. That mysterious being says this is more commonly known as maternal instinct, and that love is certainly the vilest of emotions. It seems she's fooling herself into thinking she's a real mother, and in that case, new agents are necessary. The other one asks where to find them. The guy says his most powerful agent is just waiting to be dispatched to the human world. Meanwhile, back in the world of men, the father says to hurry because if it gets late, the price for the songs will go up, and our hero asks if they can get a refund if they only sing one song. Havana, who was there, says she feels like something is wrong, so she follows them, disappearing right after school ends. The boy asks his father what he wants to sing, and the man says he likes rock and that he's going to blow up the whole building with his voice. Moved, our hero thanks God for being able to make new memories with his dad. Ariel says they're already arriving as he looks down the hallway, and tells Michael to hurry. Surprised, the girl asks if she's going too. The commander explains that once they begin the mission to capture the hybrid, she would need to assist him. Odin says that because tomorrow's a new day, she's the queen of the world, until someone tells them to cut. She finishes by saying the shoot is over, telling everyone they did a great job while clapping. A little later, she asks how long it's been since they last spoke and says she became a lead actress. But suddenly she says a new mission. Looking at herself in the mirror, she says this seems interesting, and that if all she has to do is convince one person. The commander says for Michael to place the marker in the room she's currently in. Suddenly, a celestial sword pierces the concrete. Leaving it hanging there, he asks if that's good enough. Ariel says if that is justice, then it must be a very solid foundation. Now the Archangel Commander's seal will be added to it, becoming a perfect beacon, and at the right time they'll make a request to absorb all the light. Meanwhile, our hero's father asks what he's going to sing, and the boy says he'll sing an old song. Suddenly the boy seems surprised by something. Smiling, Ariel says, "Hello, it's been a while. What I want to know if you're happy to see me. Since everyone is gathered here, it was easy to find them." His father asks if he's a classmate, saying he looks very mature and wonders if he's a repeating student. He says the reason he doesn't recognize him is because he's a mere servant, so he must have never seen his face before, and the father asks if his son's friends already work. Jackie apologizes and says he doesn't have much time right now as he's about to sing with his dad. Surprised, the boy asks if Mecha came along too, and she says yes, stammering a bit. She says she never knew karaoke was so popular, and asks if he's using that room, but he says she can use it. Then the dad says the mic was changed. The Archangel says that since he'll be taken to heaven soon, he can let him have time to sing with his dad, and confused asks if she wouldn't be. Micah says, "My God, I had the impression of seeing two of you in the same place." With a shout, the Archangel screams his brother's name, launching a powerful attack that hits the man head-on. The powerful strike sends him flying through the wall. He bounces off the surrounding rooftops, and with a loud groan, he crashes into a sturdier pillar. Azrael comes flying out of the building looking for his target. Meanwhile, inside, our hero says that this looks like Mecha's stuff and that she must have left it there. But in the next moment, he sees the light effects it creates and thinks it's really cool. Jake thinks she's a great friend for leaving him this kind of thing. Running nearby, Micah wonders what she should do now and that she can't interfere in matters between brothers. But still, as an Archangel, just standing by and watching wouldn't be proper for Justice, and Justice is calling. Up above, Justice is charged with celestial energy. And inside the room, father and son have fun singing, while our hero thinks that light gives off a vibration effect. Ariel tells him to stop and asks what he is doing to his own family. The young man replies that he is doing this precisely because it's his family who made his life so miserable. Ariel gives him a stern look. While firing his weapons, the young man says it's his turn now. The commander says he knows that kind of attack can't hurt him, while calmly defending against all of them. Azrael says he knows that, but he has something more. Those energy projectiles are being aimed at a spot above the Archangel. Then he concludes that it's enough for a hit, as the commander sees a pile of objects falling on him. A car seems to hit him directly, but Ariel appears beside the vehicle, now looking very serious, and asks his brother if he desires his position. Wielding his weapons, Azrael says there's a chance he could win while his brother is restricted to the human realm, and maybe it could change their lives completely. Meanwhile, inside the building, Hannah enters the room. Mecca asks how she got there, and the girl replies that she was just worried about Jack Kai. The Archangel says that's not something she should be concerned about. This is a decision made by the Supreme Council and she should just follow it. She adds that Jackie will be summoned to the heavens by the absorption of light, and it's natural for lower-ranking angels to follow this greater good. Hannah becomes thoughtful about this and observes the room where father and son sing happily. She says she's Jackie's guardian angel, and it's her duty to protect him. Michael says it's as expected, as she has fallen in love with the boy, says that this feeling is excessive, that she has no control over her emotions. But the girl says there's nothing wrong with her emotions, that she feels something deep, something much purer and simpler. But the Archangel says that's how the emotion of love influences her, and that it seems she has lost her purpose as an angel. Hannah remains there, listening to the music and thinking. From inside the room comes a fragment of the song saying, "When you wish," and blushing more, the song continues, "Upon a star." She thinks about that melody, about that sound. Meanwhile, elsewhere, another car is thrown at the Archangel commander. Azrael asks if he can take a break while he's trapped there, and adds that what he means is that he could take a long vacation somewhere that's neither heaven nor hell. But right in front, it seems his brother opens a hole in the car. Coming out from inside, he asks who he thinks he is. Says he is the Archangel commander and he has his own army to protect him, snapping his fingers right after. A light appears in the sky as he explains that when an Archangel commander is in danger, his army is ready to offer support wherever it is, and from the sky something descends like a meteor. Azrael is surprised and says, "Meteor." In the sky, a man asks if now all the trainees have been brought there, and asks if everyone knows that this exam is the most important of them all. This test will influence their entire performance evaluation. He calls out for the trainee Hanel, as she responds, "Yes, sir," and he asks her to listen to the sound of prayers the same way she practiced, and taking a deep breath, she focuses. Then she brushes her hair away from her ears and starts hearing, hoping that coin makes him rich, hoping she accepts his confession, and several other requests made in prayer. She remains there listening to many prayers and paying attention to the content of the requests. Hanan is surprised to find wishes of all kinds, and the man says humans are bound to be selfish, and that's why they need their inner angels. And she remembers hearing, "When you wish upon a star, anything your heart desires will come to you." Down on Earth, Jackie's mother calls out to him as a child, saying they need to leave before it gets too dark, and the little boy replies that he's coming. He says that today in English class he learned that song, and that if angels really exist, he wants them to hear his song and grant his wish. From above, Hannah looks at the boy, moved, and says she has decided to help that boy, and the man says they'll put that into practice right now, and the time limit is 5 minutes. Suddenly, the angel appears before the boy saying, "Look, little boy, what's your wish?" The boy asks if she's really an angel and not just a drawing, and Hannah says he has a lot of questions for such a little boy. Then he says he only wishes for one thing, explaining that ever since they cut his hair like a bowl, he just wants to live happily with his parents, and that he also wants them to stop fighting all the time. Hannah says he's a kind boy and that many kids his age usually wish for things like toys or games. Jackie says his parents raised him well, so he doesn't need to wish for those things, and that because of his haircut, he became #1 at school. Then he says he wishes for his mom and dad to be even happier than he is, as a man comments that the boy is talking to himself. Hannah looks at him kindly and says he's right, that she will send the blessing of happiness to his family and that they'll surely live happily. Then one day, if she becomes a guardian angel, she hopes to be the guardian of someone with a kind heart like his. Surprised, the boy says he can really feel happiness and asks her to be his guardian angel when the time comes. But she says she can't promise that, but she hopes that's how it turns out, and the boy asks if angels can make wishes too. And the angel confirms that they can, but only when they truly wish for something, it becomes reality. While father and son have fun singing that song from Jackie's childhood, the angel realizes that the boy from years ago was him, and smiling happily, she concludes that his wish had come true. Meanwhile, outside, a huge meteor is heading toward Azrael. As he shoots, he says that trying to stop it with pistols is like throwing eggs at a rock, or like shooting a meteor with a gun. The meteor is getting closer and closer, and Azrael says that in that case, he'll face it head-on because he needs to be strong enough to at least do that. Then the man charges at the meteor with determination, and launching an attack while holding his weapon, he splits the massive stone into pieces. Having succeeded, he says, "Ha, that was close." Down below from that pile of old cars, Uriel says he wasn't just pretending to be him, and how dare he face him. He asks if he's sure he can handle judgment. The skies seem normal for a moment, and in the next, a massive beam of energy strikes Azrael directly. He's thrown back to the ground, crashing into a wall. Then the commander approaches and says that his position in the heavens is now nothing more than that of a mere servant. He adds that it's time to cut emotional ties with his family, and that they are two separate individuals destined for different paths. Uriel asks Michael if she's finished the preparations. Then the woman replies yes, that she's perfectly locked onto the target, while Hana asks what's going to happen now. And Ariel, snapping his fingers, says he can complete this mission earlier than he thought. The celestial energy above the building starts to gather in. Meanwhile, inside, our hero and his father are singing happily, and his dad says it's a good song, asking if it's from a cartoon. When suddenly, the place is filled with celestial energy and the father starts floating in the room. The two of them begin rising through the air while the boy says this is a powerful absorption force. Meanwhile, in the convenience store on the first floor, the girl asks for some cigarettes, while the man says she has no ID, and she changes her request. But out of nowhere, celestial energy fills the place too, lifting her into the air as the clerk says he knew it, that she's a delinquent. Also in the underground parking lot, the man wonders how he can get his revenge on Ushi, and he too starts floating into the air due to the sacred absorption power, while fearfully asking what's happening. All those people begin ascending through the sacred tunnel toward the heavens, screaming in fear. Hana quickly opens the door, shouting for Jackie, while Michael tells her not to be so reckless, and out of nowhere, she jumps into the celestial energy. Determined, she flies toward the boy, saying she'll protect him. As people spin inside the tunnel, the angel gets closer, calling out to the boy. The girl from school asks, Jackie, why is he here? While that furious man thinks that bastard is the one named Jackie. All those people keep rising chaotically through the energy tunnel, while Hana remains determined, chasing after the one she protects. Ignoring everyone else, she moves straight toward Jackie. Then the girl from class realizes it's her again and gets a little annoyed. And she looks at the girl with anger. She remembers the day that was supposed to be the big moment when she would finally approach Jackie thanks to fate. He was a new student who showed up in her class, and he was exactly her type. She watched him secretly and noticed that he was coming, checking his watch. Determined, she thought that would be the day she would ask if they could be friends and also hang out together. But out of nowhere, he turned into a nearby alley and started running, leaving her surprised. And since he took a shortcut through the alley, she decided to go to the exit on the other side. But she arrived a little too late just to see him running fast out of the alley. Hearing Hana say she would first become his classmate, and wondering what the hell that girl is who suddenly appeared out of nowhere and started following him around. At school, very excited, the girl introduces herself to everyone. She comes close to our hero, saying hello and greets her back. And ever since then, the two have been quite busy with each other, and the girl waited several months to try approaching him again. But that girl who suddenly showed up took the spot next to Jackie for herself, so she started to feel a bit jealous of the situation. Back to the present, the determined girl says she won't let Hana monopolize Jackie anymore. And with effort, she jumps toward the boy too. Finally, the angel reaches her protected one. Hugging him from behind, she says they must leave that place and that she will help him. The boy says he thinks it's impossible and that the power of that light is too strong, so Hana says that's exactly why she's going to help him. Straightening herself, the angel tries to pull him as he yells and says he doesn't think this is working. Suddenly, someone grabs our hero by the foot, saying, move to the side. And grabbing his other foot, adds that she will be the one to help him. The person who will help Jackie. But in the next moment, she is pulled with force along with him, while the boy screams that he told them it wasn't possible. Screaming, he says not to pull him from top to bottom, and the girl doesn't let go of his feet, saying she will help him, and the angel replies that she will be the one to help. Ariel says it's been a while since he had a field mission, but he thinks he actually did a decent job, and that if it weren't for that brat, you would have done it more carefully. Suddenly, something catches his attention from the side, and it's his brother, full of rage, running toward him. He yells that if he fails, then his brother will fail too, hitting him with an impact toward that tunnel, holy light. Ariel yells, no. He says that if they enter that thing like this, they'll both die. Then a massive explosion happens, launching everyone upward. Sometime later, they wake up in a large room that looks like a temple. Everyone looks around, not understanding anything. Our hero looks at his father and asks what happened. When, out of nowhere, a big man grabs him by the head, calling his name. And he asks if he is Jackie and if it was him who crippled Hyung. But our hero defends himself, saying he never did that. The man says the guy was like an angel, and ever since he did that, the man hasn't been able to control himself anymore, and Hana questions whether he's ever put an angel at risk. A voice asks if they are the humans who were caught, saying there are many of them, but it was supposed to be only one. That guy says this is really scary and wonders if he died and went to paradise, though he's not sure he's the kind of person who'd go to paradise. Out of nowhere, a second explosion happens and everyone protects themselves the best they can. That voice says that Ariel acted on his own and that they would really like him to explain this situation right now. And everyone is shocked, saying there are two Ariels. Smiling, one of them says he's the real Ariel, which makes the actual one call him a bastard. Hana asks if those statues are the Supreme Council and why they seem like even bigger bastards than she expected. Ariel yells saying that Guy is not the real one, that he is the true commander of the archangels, Ariel, while Azrael says he is the real one, with his great, sacred, and noble archangel blood, the leader of the celestial army, Ariel. The voice behind the statues goes silent, thinking or doing whatever it is statues do. Finally, they respond that they have absolutely no idea because the two look exactly the same. He adds that it doesn't matter because that's not important to them, and asks if among the humans he brought there, any of them is the so-called hybrid. Hannah tells the Supreme Council that there is no hybrid among them, and the two brothers question that, asking what the hell she's talking about. She continues and says that all those people here are just ordinary humans trying to live their lives the best they can. The voice behind the statue asks who she is. Meanwhile, the schoolgirl says she's pretending again and that she really doesn't like her, while Hannah says she's a low-ranking angel. That voice says that if she's a low-ranking angel, she has no reason to be there. She thinks that angels should never lie, but just this once she will do it for Jai-Ki, and adds that she's on a special mission. They ask if she can prove her words and risk her position as an angel, and she explains that her investigations since infiltrating the human world show that the hybrid hasn't fully awakened yet and that possibly it's only a myth and these people are mere humans. The voice says it can't sense the presence of a hybrid among those brought there and only feels the spirit of regular humans. The brothers shout, "No way, I'm sure he's here. This boy is the hybrid." Then the council says that if the two who claim to be the commander witnessed it, it's probably true. And the two brothers celebrate together. But it's also true that there's no sign of awakening in this boy, or rather, there was a sign of awakening in him. It questions whether that guy might not be the real hybrid, and that he must be in the top 0.1% among humans. Ariel says that this is the real hybrid, and Hannah says that this boy is just a regular human. Determined, she says he has no power, that he's a human without even a spark inside him, and Jackie says this is starting to sound too real. She can stop now. The voice questions if they should run a test, and they'll see who is right, who they chose, or who the commander of the Archangel says he is. And suddenly another explosion happens in the place. It concludes that it will be in the arena, where no one will be able to escape. An arena suddenly appears in the place with the two men inside. Everyone watches from within it, while they remain at the center. Azazel asks if that's the Wailing Wall, and that it suddenly became a seat. This will be the first great battle since Baal versus the Seraphim. The voice says that if what Ariel said is true, one of the two must be the hybrid, and adds that the last one standing in this inescapable arena will be considered by them as the hybrid. Smiling, the man says there's no reason for him to try and run. He was looking for this guy anyway and thanks them for it. Hannah tells the boy that this is a trap, and that he should escape from there. But Azrael says he'll never be able to escape until the fight is over, and that there's no way to help Jackie now since this is a duel carried out by the Supreme Council, and the angel asks if those stones are the council. Azrael explains that they may look pathetic, but they have enough power to destroy the earth on their own, and that this is a sacred ceremony that no one will interfere with. The statues look normal and even a bit pathetic, but that's what Azrael said. Smiling, Ariel says they can just sit there and watch Jackie awaken as the hybrid, and that it's obvious who's going to win. The angel asks once they know he's the hybrid, if they'll definitely take him with them. Azrael says of course they will, and Ariel explains that this has been his fate since the day he was born. But it seems something catches the brothers' attention. One thinks about how disgustingly compatible they are, while the other thinks getting along this well is kind of annoying. Hannah is very worried, while the other girl comments with disdain that her expression makes it look like she's about to save the whole world on her own, and that she's pretending to be kind with no self-awareness, while Hannah thinks please let Jackie hide his powers and not let them notice. Meanwhile, the school friend says, "What the hell? You can totally do this. Jackie, give it your all." Our hero seems very focused at the moment. He thinks that if he reveals his power, the statues will definitely notice and surely his ordinary life will come to an end. Very annoyed, that huge man says that this is what a real punch feels like, and before Jackie realizes it, he'll be turned into fish stew. Screaming, he says he'll make him lie next to Ushi, while our hero shows no reaction at all. But in an instant, he vanishes from in front of the man and reappears right behind him, leaving him confused and wondering how he did that. The guy keeps charging at our hero, who easily dodges his attacks. And the man says that he's sure he landed a hit, right? The girl from the school says she can't see him, and Hannah is surprised by this too, since she also can't see him. The council says it's strange, he instantly amplifies his power the moment he uses it, but even so, they can't sense any awakening. Ariel says that the boy must be using his power and then dispersing it, and that he's a smart guy, while her brother says he expected that. Our hero asks the man if he didn't hear him when he asked him to stop, but all the guy says is to stand still and stop dodging. Jackie says he'll try to match his pace, since naturally the guy will wear himself out attacking like that, while the man protests, yelling for him to stop. But he realizes that if he keeps increasing his ability, they'll end up noticing, and that he should use it more efficiently. That if he moves slowly like that, as Russell says he'll move insanely fast first, then much slower afterward, so the statues won't notice. Smiling, Ariel says he's got some good cheating skills. The man says he really moves fast and believes that only Ushi could match him, and his respect for Ushi grows even more. Suddenly, he says the boy left him no choice. he'll have to show his secret technique, one he hasn't used in a long time. He says people might confuse his name for a foreigner's, but his name is Hanma, and he can easily reach him with his fist. Our hero looks a bit surprised at the strike. Han says it was a disgrace and that he was sure he felt the boy's hairbrush against his fist. Hana explains that Hanma was a unit of measurement equal to an outstretched arm, used by their ancestors, and the girl says her father still uses it. Back to the fight, the man says that with special training he can reach 2 Hanma. Our hero, surprised, dodges once again. Excited, the man says he can now feel his clothes. The man gets pumped, attacking and telling him to take these blows, giving them special names. The council says the movements are above human level, but they still can't detect any awakening in him, even with their camera resolution. Asura asks his brother if he can see that, and he replies yes, while our hero wonders if he's getting tired of this. To an average person, it might look like Jackie is dodging quickly, but to a sharp eye, it's clear he's just casually strolling around. The statue says that at this rate, they won't be able to determine a winner today, and in the end, the winner will definitely be the hybrid. As the fight continues, something happens nearby, and the council says that to speed up the duel, they've reduced the size of the arena, and they begin to shrink the space where they're fighting. The huge man shields himself, yelling that it's a bombing attack, wondering if it could be political, and says he's never hit anyone. Uriel says it's a match with obstacles, that they really learned something from Baal's fight, and the awakened father realizes the voice he heard was familiar. Excusing himself, he asks if that was the person he spoke to earlier. And as Russell says yes, that's Commander Iriel and Bose apologizing for not recognizing him, but the real Iriel protests, saying he's the real one. The council says that now that the opponent is cornered, it's time to prove himself, and the man says the distance is now only 1 Hanma. And now with this area, he'll be able to pull off a surprise attack. With a shout, he quickly strikes our hero, who dodges once again. But unexpectedly, he's grabbed by the shoulder. Then he's pulled into a sort of bear hug. The guy throws himself to the ground with Jackie, trying to immobilize him. Our hero stays there in his arms, looking surprised. Han wraps his legs around him too, and says the next step is to execute total domination. Excited, the guy says he's going to snap his spine in half. That guy says no one has ever escaped his secret technique, and explains that if he adds just a little more force, the boy's spine won't hold. But he's surprised to see the boy is calm, not moving at all. In fact, he looks pretty comfortable. And he shouts the name of the attack as Pillar Breaker, telling him to taste a bit of his deadly move, which will send him straight somewhere else. He wonders if they're really in a fight and why all he can feel is his warmth. The boy says he won't be able to keep playing with him any longer, and the man, confused, asks if he's been playing with him. Then our hero suddenly stands up with ease, and with a powerful leap, he takes off from the ground, leaving shattered concrete behind. As our hero flies through the air, the man clinging to him screams in fear. He rises up to the height of those statues, stopping right in front of them. He finally begins to speak, saying that he truly is. While the statues remain expressionless after all, they are statues, aren't they? He finishes by declaring that he is indeed the hybrid, and that if they want, he can show them his awakening, and with a massive release of energy, he throws the man backward. Screaming as he falls, the man tries to grab onto our hero's legs. Looking down, he sees he's quite far from the ground. The council seems quite surprised by this. One of the voices asks what the reading was just now, saying it went way beyond the range of their sensors. Hana wonders why he's exposing himself like this. Our hero asks if they're satisfied now, and if they can send him back to his companions from where he was abducted. And that regarding the issue for which he was brought there, his answer is no. Excited, Hana says he's doing really well. The voice says he is an asset, one that was invested in and managed by heaven, and that it's only natural for him to return to them. Jackie says he won't respond to such a one-sided absurdity, and that the only thing he wants is to return to his normal life. Uriel is surprised and asks if the council accepted that kind of opposition, while Azrael says this is really exciting. A powerful light shines from one of the statue's eyes. The voice says that one who refuses their destiny written by heaven becomes a traitor, and that they have zero tolerance for that, releasing a lightning bolt at the boy. Jackie asks if he's a traitor just for not following them, saying that makes no sense, and the voice replies that if he rejects their values is nothing but evil, and that their supreme mission is to eliminate all evil, once again attacking the boy with those blasts. The boy says that if that's the case, then that's all the more reason not to follow them, and that he refuses to go down such a path of fate. The man gets scared, thinking if he falls there, it's over for him, and that he needs to hold on tight. But the council doesn't seem to give up and keeps attacking our hero. The voice explains that an individual talent who refuses to be tamed is evil and must act as an investment made by heaven. But our hero continues to defend himself from the powerful rays launched by the Supreme Council. In the middle of all that chaos, the man can no longer hold on to the boy, and he starts yelling for help because he slipped. Hana takes flight, shouting for him to please stop. But our hero tells the angel not to go over there. Still, the girl ignores him and approaches using her Omega shield, while Jackie says that won't stop them. Out of nowhere, a huge explosion happens in front of them. The angel is thrown violently against the wall, while our hero and the gangster are also slammed into the wall. Jackie asks if the girl is okay, while the man behind him seems to be in pretty bad shape. Then he notices that the wall behind him is cracking, and his father is up there. Then that whole section breaks apart, and he begins falling from above without understanding what's going on. Screaming, he falls helplessly. The schoolgirl shouts that she shouldn't act like she can do everything, and Hannah throws herself toward the man, saying, "Don't worry, I'll save you, Dad." Jackie says he plans to control his own life and live according to his own values, and he asks that they please not judge anyone based on their excessive rules. Ariel says he doesn't know how the boy can speak so well. The council says that, as expected of the hybrid, he can make the stone statues tremble with his words, and they must confirm whether he'll hold to those words. A rift of light opens in those statues, and a cloud appears covering the area. They explain that it is the cloud of atonement. Someone without sin will feel as light as a feather, while the sinner will feel the weight of their sins. For the one who is worthy, that cloud may be their salvation, but for the unworthy, the sinful soul will be buried for eternity in hell. Jackie holds onto the cloud as if it were solid, and looking at the statues, he asks if there's any problem there. Meanwhile, Ariel smiles and says that he truly is the hybrid, a perfect being. Desperate, the man climbs up our hero, begging to be saved as well. Finally, when he grabs the cloud, something strange happens. He says the weight suddenly started to increase. Then the man grabs our hero and presses him against the cloud above. A voice says that even he doesn't seem able to handle this, and that it's probably out of control. He needs to go to the oracle. Jackie tries to speak, saying it's not his fault, while the angel yells his name, and the father says it feels like his arms are going to fall off. Our hero seems to be in a tight spot, while the man cries and apologizes, saying it's because he's a man full of sins. The girl thinks she has to do something for Jackie, or that flirty girl will get all the credit for it. And she wonders what she could do, while the voice questions whether he will be able to endure or succumb to the sins of others, unable to find forgiveness. Straining himself, he says he can bear those sins on his own and that he can keep standing strong. The man says he's a real man, a true noble, and that he never thought he was that kind of person. Someone down below decides to act. And the girl says that because she's innocent, she can surely reduce that weight, and that the only thing she'd be ashamed of is truly liking him. Desperate, our hero yells that's not how it works, telling her not to jump. But without listening, the girl simply goes. And it seems things have really taken a turn for the worse now. While the father keeps falling, Hannah does everything she can to help him. She says the burden in her hand is far too heavy, and that she can't help him, while the father asks how she can call him a burden. Asura says the table was set, but instead of enjoying the meal themselves, they serve it to the enemy, and Ariel gets irritated, asking what they're doing. The council says an unfavorable situation has occurred, and they've handed the pawn they had acquired with ease over in hell. As everyone falls at an absurd speed, the girl screams her hero's name, saying she's going to help him. She clings to the cloud in fear. Jackie is being bizarrely shoved downward, thinking, how ugly. When he finally manages, the end of his trip comes, and with a powerful impact, they hit the ground. The girl is flung far away by the impact. The sinful man goes bouncing off in another direction. Then the god of death appears, saying they're trying to toss him in here again so he can take him. How annoying. Annoying Death says the guys from heaven are always so careless, always talking about punishment. The ones who really punish are them. But either way, he welcomes them to hell, though it looks like he's blowing his nose without using his hands. He welcomes the new members. That you can enter hell just by falling like he did. But to become a member, there's a whole ceremony and such, so J.K. says he doesn't want that. Surprised, Death asks, "What, you're not one of those heaven throws down here?" And the boy says no, he's not. The big man apologizes and says he believes this place isn't where he belongs, but Death says he doesn't want him and he can go. She says that place is completely different from heaven, that if you have any condition heaven won't accept, then consider that place to be its complete opposite. Our hero asks if she also wants to stay with him, but Death says instead she wants him to make his own choice. And she adds that this way, heaven will suffer more, that he should speak and she will make his revenge possible. She'll give him the strength needed to punish those who cause suffering in heaven. But manifesting his power, our hero says he doesn't want revenge, that it's not necessary, and if he did want it, he would do it with his own hands. Death is surprised, wondering if that's the energy of the hybrid, and no wonder she wanted to stay with him. Out of nowhere, the man says not to be like that, and that they should stay together. Guys as bad as them, who hit people, should stay there anyway. And he says that in that place he feels more at ease, that somehow when he was up there it was like he didn't belong. Now truly irritated, he elbows the man, throwing him far away, and says they are not the same because he doesn't want to stay there. He thinks he doesn't fit into society, so why bother going back? And nearby, the girl remains unconscious. Waking up, she wonders where she is. She asks herself if it's a cave, and where she might have ended up. Then a man says she's a little lost pup, that she looks cute, and that she has a beautiful and valuable human soul. A bit tense, the girl dares to look up, and wonders who this guy might be. She asks herself why her heart started beating like crazy. Descending from above, the man says it looks like he found something interesting while running before lunch to avoid a blood sugar spike. He tells her that her soul is very tempting, and then he wants to have it for himself. The girl wonders what this is and why he's so handsome, and the man thinks maybe she's the type who falls in love easily. Then she thinks she can't be that type, that Jackie is the only one for her. But if anyone heard that, they might think he's her boyfriend. While he's thinking about taking her soul and using it as decoration for his room, he realizes he can hear her thoughts and she can hear his too. Slapping his hand away, she says he's planning to do exactly what she's thinking anyway, and he says he is Baal, Lord of Hell. He says he is the great demon Baal, and that everything he thinks becomes reality, and that his power comes from evil. But the girl thinks she doesn't actually dislike him. Baal asks so she understands that he can also hear her thoughts while holding her head and doing something bizarre. Surprised, he asks if she's not in her body yet and how she even got there. He thinks he doesn't need her vessel, and she questions what he means by vessel, saying she has no idea how she even ended up there. Holding her by the arm, he says that actually he doesn't care about that, and that for now he's taking her to Des. She asks if he means she can go back up, but he says he's going to ask Des to separate her soul from her body. That way it's easier for him. Smiling, he says it'll be quick, that she'll stop living, and that humans are doomed to that anyway. But he'll ask that it be painless, since Des is the best. Surprised, the girl wonders how he can say that so lightly. With a shout, Death strikes and tells him to stay right there. She says she'll separate the body from the soul first, and then they'll continue with the interview. Our hero says this was an ambush, and adds that it was really evil. Death is left speechless for a moment and admits he's right, that she is indeed quite evil. Ironically, Death thanks him for helping her realize that while advancing on our hero. She slashes at him with her scythe, but he manages to dodge the attack. Jackie says his body feels heavier than when he was in heaven and wonders if it's because gravity is stronger here. Then he grabs onto a stalactite and hangs from it, but it starts to crack and breaks apart. So he drops down holding his new weapon, while Death tells him not to worry. And preparing to continue the fight, she says she'll give him a painless death. She makes a slash in the air before her, sending a wave of energy toward our hero. Jackie defends himself as best he can with a piece of ceiling, but even so he's pushed back by the force of the blow. He wonders if she wasn't trying to recruit him just a while ago. How did it end up like this with her trying to kill him? Noticing that he's catching fire, he comments that the flames aren't as hot as those on the surface. Death, sarcastic, asks him, "Are you wondering why I, Des, want to kill you? Don't worry. The fire of hell will burn you in an instant." Suddenly, someone says they've arrived, and pointing, Bull says that's the expert who will give her a painless death. But something catches his attention in that moment. He wonders who that human is and thinks he can say that even though he's never seen him before, he can instinctively confirm that this is his precious flesh and blood, and the girl says she can hear him. She realizes that means the handsome guy is Jackie's father. And directly she asks the demon if he is Jackie's father, to which he replies that he believes so. He says it's the first time he's ever seen this boy, but still, seeing his son all grown up and engaged in a battle of this scale, he can tell. The girl says like father, like son, and that she thinks she knows why she likes Jack Kai. Turning his attention back to the girl, he says that's enough, let's deal with her death first. But she questions what about the boy, and he says that if he's his son, he'll know how to handle himself. Bale then calls for Des and asks her to pause the fight for a moment and kill the girl first. But she says she's in the middle of a battle right now, and as soon as she can, she'll respond to him, so he'll have to wait a bit. Ball realizes it's an auto-reply ability to dodge requests she doesn't like, and that her voice sounds so formal. Death keeps attacking, and our hero continues to block each blow, while asking why she keeps trying to kill him. She explains that his talent is locked inside a human body, and that she doesn't want to kill him. She wants to release the power inside him, and that for convenience, she will provide a more suitable body. They've already prepared a vessel for him, and a demon confirms that's right. He says they've been preparing the welcome for a long time, and once they heard the hybrid was coming, they rushed to get the body ready. Gomer says he sent one of the agents to find him earlier, but never imagined he would come there on his own. He continues saying this is the best vessel they've ever prepared, the one with the best physique in all of hell, a soulless body of mercurochrome. Our hero is surprised and says he thinks he's seen it somewhere before. Then they ask what he thinks. Aren't you excited? Just toss out your bad body and take one with better stats. But our hero says that this body. The demon says they polished it and secured it with great care. Strangely, the body starts to turn a little red. The girl from school says it can't be. They're really trying to put Jackai into that monster. That's a downgrade from Class A to Class F. She pleads for Bull to do something and asks if he's not his son. And the demon says yes, he definitely is his son. But that doesn't mean he has to help him, and he explains that's a human emotion, and so. She yells that Jackie is her boyfriend and begs him to please help. Ball seems intrigued by what she said, but says even if she is his son's girlfriend, that doesn't mean he can't steal her from him, and she says he really is a demon. Our hero says he likes the way he looks now. Death explains that the body is just a shell, and that if he uses a powerful body, he could become immortal. But how could he become a master with a body like that? Then suddenly, she strikes hard again, barely missing him. In the midst of all the dust, we can still see Jackie's silhouette holding his weapon. Determined and now angry, he says, Death cuts him off, saying he's about to say something pointless, like how he likes his current body, or that he thinks his human body is better. She rushes past him with a powerful strike, while he defends as best he can. Already on the other side, she asks so, and finishes, asking, "What are you going to do?" As Jackie sees the stalactite breaking in his hands, He looks at his hands and sees all the shattered pieces, saying that actually, there's no need to say anything else. He finishes by dropping the pieces and unleashing his power. Death says she thinks she was right then, and that it's better this way, saying nothing than giving her an unsatisfying answer, and now she'll show her best attack. Then she launches her most powerful strike, but this time it seems our hero isn't going to dodge. He just watches as Death's scythe approaches him with its blade. But suddenly, he notices something. Lucifer is there and wonders why Lucifer is even here. While the man gives a little wave, someone says, "Oh, Lucifer." Jackie says, "That's it. Lucifer's secret technique, and that he's seen it before, and he wonders, what if I tried to replicate it just a bit? Oh, I already did." Death is stunned and doesn't understand a thing. Now from Death's point of view, this is what happens when you're at the perfect distance. She says he's about to see her best attack. And saying take this, she delivers her powerful attack. But something was off and she wonders if she missed. Embarrassed, she says that wasn't her real powerful move and that she was just practicing a few techniques there. But confused, she questions what happened, saying she was sure he was within range, then notices her bones are sweating. Lucifer says he really took the initiative, stole her ability for himself, and that it was honestly impressive. In the next moment, the man simply turns around and starts walking away. While Jackie thinks about the fact that he was even there, Death says she'll make sure she doesn't miss this time. He thinks that if Michael finds out about this, they'll fight again, but he can't get out of there. He feels heavy and wonders what he could do to make the big skeleton give him a break. He concludes he can't stay still and that he's going to take down everything he can, one by one. He says he's sorry and asks her to forgive him. He explains that he's come to the conclusion that if he wants to reach what he needs, he's going to have to use a little violence and hopes she'll understand. Delivering a tremendous punch to Death, he sends her flying into the wall. All beat up, she says that really hurts, that it feels like she's going to die, and that she can feel the pain of broken bones even though she's just a skeleton. Boyle says it's a technique exclusive to Lucifer, and no one can use it without permission, just as expected from his son. The girl then says she's now calling him son. The man yells that he's amazing and really cool, and then notices he has an audience. It's Yoonji, and realizes he needs to bring her too. He says Death is all broken now, so he's going to kill her, and explains that he doesn't want to stain his hands with blood. The demon says she can take care of it herself, and then Gomora asks if, as an assistant, he needs to step in. Suddenly, a chain flies through the air, and it wraps around our hero's neck, catching him by surprise. Annoyed, he realizes what's happening, and begins to use his new ability to get out of it. Bell says he just detached his own neck, while Yoonji says the boy is actually terrifying. But out of nowhere, more chains lash onto his head, and pull it back, locking it directly into his body. The demon says no one can escape from his restraint ability, not even a hybrid like him. Our hero grips the chains, looking like he's in serious trouble. The creature explains that once he's got that dog collar on, he'll never get rid of the restraint. He also says not even Lucifer could break free from it. The gangster appears, ready to fight, grabbing the demon from behind and saying ambushing someone is a dirty move. As he strikes, the man angrily says that since it wasn't fair, he'll ambush him back. The creature asks who he is, and the guy answers that the fight between the skeleton and the hero was intense, so he didn't show up before, but now he's here with Jack Kai. Still furious, the big guy yells that if the demon is really a man, he should fight properly and not do such low moves. Even as an enemy of the prisoner, the newcomer hates that kind of fight because he considers himself a real man. Grabbing the chains, he promises that they'll fight the right time, that now he'll release him so they can fight the same enemy together. However, even using all of his strength, the chains don't even crack. The hero confirms that not even he can break the chains with his power, and the strong guy says that using that kind of tool disqualifies him as a man. The demon replies, "Why do you assume I'm a man?" The two guys start sweating cold. The creature says that they, the kings of hell, have no gender, so now they're wondering what that bald figure even is. He explains that they're hermaphrodites and that they reproduce among themselves. Horrified, the two cover their ears, begging him not to explain. Annoyed, the demon says, "How dare you interrupt me while I'm talking?" and continues while throwing the big guy far, "Since you ambush me like a mosquito, I'll treat you like one." The man hits the wall so hard it sends up a cloud of dust. Sunk into the wall, he's restrained by chains. The guy says, "Coward, you're not a man." The demon insists he already said he's not a man, and our hero asks who's the man and who's the coward here. He adds that now he welcomes him to the world of evil, and that if he captures him, he'll always be remembered as the one who captured the hybrid. He shouts for him to hang on. He's going to separate his soul from his body, and then he'll be free. Jack Kai screams, saying this is dangerous. But after landing that punch on the boy, it seems something went wrong. Jack tells the demon that he warned him it was dangerous. While the demon groans in pain, his arm completely wrecked. The imprisoned man says he's a coward, that he ruined his own arm hitting a man who's chained up, and that his attack had no form. It was weird. Annoyed, the demon says he doesn't need advice from a mosquito stuck to a wall. But the man continues, saying that as someone who's hit others before, he needs to focus more on his lower stance and improve his punch. He actually hit the chain. Then he yells that with his left arm, he should use all of his energy and finish him with a single blow, and Jackie asks whose side he's even on. Looking at his hand, the demon says, "I get it, my left arm. He says he'll definitely put everything into this hit, no holding back, and there's no way he'll miss this time. He just needs to unleash his most powerful final attack, while someone off-screen screams, "Ah, no." The monster lands a powerful punch on our hero, shouting finishing blow. And when a core collides with a massive surge of energy, a huge explosion happens. That demon says he'll show him his. But in the very next second, a massive fiery explosion erupts. Our hero is thrown off the cliff by the force of it. Meanwhile, Bull and the girl watch the ceiling crack and collapse. Giving her a not-so-gentle push, he tells the girl it's dangerous here and to find shelter inside the cave. Now inside and theoretically safe, she watches everything crumble outside. The gangster also drags himself into a cave for cover and thinks the explosion must have happened because the guy's a hermaphrodite. From where he is, Jack Key looks up at the ceiling and sees a mountain of debris falling toward him. On the platform near the lava river, piles of rubble form. That creature, the one meant to be our hero's new body, is buried underneath. And suddenly, from beneath a pile of rocks, something begins to move. Ball emerges, climbing out from under the heap of debris. He turns around looking for something, then walks calmly toward the spot. Extending his arm, he uses a power to begin moving the stones that were piled up, pulling our hero out from underneath. Then he explains that the boy's strength alone is enough to break free from that and adds that he's underestimating his own power. Jackie places his hand on that thing around his neck and starts using strength to try and rip it off. A moment later, he crushes the whole thing with his bare hand, saying, "You," and tells him he's his biological father. Bell says he's disappointed that he only realized it now, and that he knew the moment he first saw him. He continues, saying not to misunderstand, he's not trying to pressure him or anything like that. That even if they share the same blood from the moment they began existing as individuals, they've been completely different. And he asks if he's coming off too cold, but our hero says no, that he agrees with that. Jackie says that in his eyes, Bull is just another demon from hell, and that he feels nothing for him. The two, father and biological son, fall silent. Bao stays quiet for a moment, until our hero says he figured they'd meet eventually, but didn't expect it to happen this soon, and Bull says it's good to see him growing. He adds that everyone talks about true evil or their own freedom, but it's all just to pressure him to choose his side, and you shouldn't listen to them. He says he wants him to have the kind of freedom worthy of a hybrid and live a good life. He explains that being the son of the great demon Bull shouldn't define his life, although as his father, he wonders if he shouldn't at least grant his son one wish. Jackie says he thought Bull was a cold-blooded demon. That was a bit unexpected. And Bale explains he just wants to act like a father one time. Then the boy asks if it's really a wish and if anything would be possible. Ball says that if it's within his power, he'll do it, whatever it is. Our hero says that then his wish is. Jackie says that please he wants him to do a job interview with him, leaving Ball a bit confused and surprised. The boy says that after this they may never see each other again, so if he really wants to act like a father, then please help with his future. Suddenly, angelic wings appear and someone calls out to the boy. Hannah shows up asking if everyone's okay, and if she arrived too late, but Jackie says she got there just in time, asking if she has a phone with her. Then our hero asks her to record this, and pointing at his father, he leaves him a bit incredulous. On the other side, slightly above, Hannah also looks a little tense. Finally, the three of them prepare for an interview right there in hell. Bell says that good isn't always as good as people think, that they represent something extremist and strict with rules, only wanting to punish others. Feeling a bit awkward, he asks if he's really allowed to say that. Jackie says there's no need to include the slander part, just saying something about evil is enough, and his father agrees. Then he says that while good tries to coerce everyone into obedience and break their freedom, evil is the complete opposite. Evil will respect any freedom and courage it finds in its path so it can explore one's truths, and they respect that. While good seeks to control and suppress everyone in order to achieve peace, however, Ball starts to look really irritated, and he exclaims that this peace is simply a lie, mere hypocrisy, but our hero tells him to stop. He explains that he shouldn't deliberately criticize good, he just wants his opinion about evil, and scratching his head, the demon says he understands. Then clearing his throat, he says that evil will lead to chaos and conflict, but that will lead to self-development. Evil provides the necessary path for one's growth while guiding them towards self-knowledge, and Jackie says, cut. Looking at the phone, he says it was a great job, while Bull says he's not sure if it really came out well, and the angel says the video was well recorded. He asks if the boy is truly satisfied with that, saying he could actually grant him a great wish, like eliminating an enemy or destroying something. But Jackie says he's satisfied with that. The demon looks a bit confused. Ball is surprised that the hybrid blessed with so much power is simply seeking that kind of happiness, and if he doesn't need that power, then you should give it to him. The demon asks if there's really nothing else he can do for him. Our hero looks seriously at his father. He gets up from where he was looking very serious. He explains that he grew up full of happiness unrelated to Ball's existence, and so he just wants him to live the way he does. The Lord of Hell falls silent, thoughtful, and smiling, he says he'll give him a gift from God as a bonus. Suddenly, they start floating, and with a sweep of his arm, Bale says he will send him and his friends back to the human world. Shocked, our hero thinks he can actually do that easily, even with all the gravity of hell, and he understands That's the power of hell. He asks if that power wouldn't be enough for him to escape hell. Ball explains that he's there because he likes the place, not because he can't leave. And smiling, our hero says he lives that way because he likes it too. Then his father, returning the sentiment, says he understands that very well. Finally, with a wave of his hand, he says, "Goodbye, my son." He says that over there is his son's guardian angel, and that if it were the old him, he would have killed her the moment he saw her. But since she seems close to his son, he'll send her along with him and hopes she'll always be by his side and protect him. The angel says she certainly is Jakey's guardian, looking a little shy, but she thinks she's by his side because she likes him. And in the next moment, she simply vanishes while Bull stays there questioning what she just said. Quite annoyed, Yoonji says that shameless girl just confessed right there that she likes Jackie, and Bull says he liked her, but he'll send her back because she's a friend of his son. And with a wave of his hand, he makes the girl disappear too. Turning to the gangster, he says he really liked his physique and that he would look perfect decorating his chambers. The man starts crying and begs to be spared, saying he's been to heaven and hell in a single day and now understands he'll be good for the rest of his life. Then he sends him back too, hoping he'll stay close to his son, and that if he ever meets a child who deserves it, he'll send their soul there. Sighing, he wonders if his life might be getting a little boring. A bunch of demons arrive, asking the commander what happened there, saying they saw the mess and sent troops, but Bell says it was nothing. He explains that Des and Gamora fought and broke their vessels, and that they do that from time to time anyway. There on a small pile of stones near the lava river are also the remains of the vessel that was meant to be used for Jack Kai. Suddenly, his eye glows and the demon says he's lying to protect his son. Then from that dangerous place, he shouts for Des, asking where she went. Finally, she answers, saying she's there, but she was in a rush and could only restore one hand. Then he suggests that for now they fuse together and at least until they recover their vessels, they can stay that way. Des says she really hopes they won't stay like that for too long, and the demon asks if she wouldn't like to stay like that, and Des says no. Back in the human world, everyone is back safe and sound, while our hero tells Hannah that he needs her help again because he needs to return to paradise. The angel says that if it's for him, she'll do anything. And suddenly, the two start flying upward at high speed. Excited, she says it seems like his levitation skill has improved a lot, and the guy says he learned it in hell, but still needs more practice. Hannah gazes at him, amazed. Finally arriving in heaven, he says, "Here it is." He asks for forgiveness and wonders if they could give him an interview, and the statues realize it's the hybrid who came back, asking what he wants to talk about so suddenly. Jackie says that to make up for what they did, he wants to hear from them what they think about their own beliefs, but they say that's nonsense and tell him to just submit. Then he asks if it's okay for him to hit them, and she explains that the real bodies are elsewhere. These are just Bluetooth devices. Getting closer, he then apologizes for breaking that statue. He asks if it's made of tofu, and the other one, offended, says it's made of the strongest stone in paradise, the first rock that ever existed. Then he asks if the other statue will be a bit more cooperative then. That statue seems to get a little nervous and tense. A remnant of the council screams, calling him an insolent bastard. How dare he, a mere human, question and threaten the Supreme Council. Then it shouts, calling forth celestial light, and finishes the name by attacking with a beam called Ultra Gamma Ray. It says to show him the suffering of extreme heat. Using a massive and powerful beam of energy, the council says he will burn to ashes with this light. That huge blast of energy comes at our hero, who sarcastically says he forgot to put on sunscreen today. Then Hannah says she has some sunscreen with her and asks if he wants some, and Jackie says yes. The ray hits our hero straight in the face, but he doesn't seem affected, and the council asks what he's doing and why he's not burning. While the girl applies sunscreen on him, he asks if he can punch that thing, and she says yes, he can do whatever he wants. She watches him from there, thinking what is this, and that she's feeling like some kind of Pokemon trainer. Completely ignoring that thing's attack, our hero flies straight at it, and the council statue gets more and more tense. He prepares a powerful punch. The council statue cries in despair. As our hero smashes the structure that was attacking him with the beam, the statue begs for forgiveness and says it's just soft tofu. He says he just wanted to punch it, and the council screams to spare him, saying it won't fool him, so Jakey asks if he's serious. The boy keeps singing, ignoring the protests, and asks if it doesn't sound like a big hit for the demons, and the boy thinks he must be the demon. Annoyed, Yoonji asks if they're best friends now, saying that ever since they ended up in the same group and got good grades, they've gotten too close. Azazel says it was a close call, and that it's a relief they got a good grade, and Micah asks if he's finally arrived. He explains that Jackie humiliated the Supreme Council, and unexpectedly, they even summoned the Wailing Wall, but there was an intense battle. Micah says that with that humiliation, the council won't leave him alone, and heaven is probably a mess right now. Hannah says she didn't expect to see him there and asks if he is Israel or Ariel. The boy says she dropped the formalities, and she replies that they're friends now. He says he's always liked an exciting life, and the girl says she gets it, he's Israel, and that he and his brother had a temporary ceasefire. Micah asks our hero if he saw Lucifer around, but he stutters a bit and doesn't answer directly. Summoning her weapon and eager to fight, the archangel says that from the way he's acting, she knows he met him. She says the fact he saw Lucifer in hell is a bad sign because if he's there, he must be planning something. Suddenly, the teacher calls the two of them. He congratulates them for getting a perfect score, saying it's great and all, but if they cause any more conflict, he says he'll cancel their perfect grade, that Micah drew her weapon during class and that's forbidden, so she should store it in her locker. Meanwhile in hell, Baal is sitting, gazing at that sea of lava. He seems contemplative, deep in thought. There shouldn't be anything worth fishing for in a lava valley, right? Then Baal says that sometimes there are things like him that are worth catching, and Lucifer says that's because he took the bait. He asks what Lucifer could possibly want, escaping hell and then coming back on his own, and Lucifer asks if he isn't the one who holds his power. The Lord asks if he hasn't already told him that it was a fair trade, and that if he returns an equal power to him, then he'll return his power. Then the young man asks how that meeting with his son went. Baal says he already told him not to mess with his family, so why is he talking about his son? But Lucifer says it's not out of nowhere, that he must have seen the hybrid's power for himself, and it was he who brought that power to him, and they don't yet know how big that power will become. The Lord suddenly seems a bit irritated with Lucifer. He then grabs a weapon. Angrily, he strikes for the fallen angel and says, using my son as a hostage and trying to use him. Throwing that weapon at Lucifer, he finishes, using him to threaten me. Smiling, he says this isn't a threat because he'll have his son and then he himself will have his power back. Concluding the thought, he says it's a very reasonable deal. Baal says he sent his son back to the surface with his own hands and asks if he's suggesting he dirty his hands and bring him back here again. Excited, Lucifer says he'll be the one to get his hands dirty, but it seems the Lord is determined and charges again at him with that weapon. Then things start going badly for the fallen angel, and Baal watches him fall again into the lava lake after his attack. He watches him with a look of indifference and superiority. But suddenly Lucifer appears behind him, saying he'll set up the plan and bring him back, and he can sit there gracefully fishing while he waits. And he adds, asking if he wouldn't like to have his son back at his side. He suggests trading the hybrid's power for his, and he can enjoy a happy life with his family for eternity. But suddenly the ground begins to rise and wraps around the fallen angel. Baal was using one of his powers while asking if there isn't any way for him to do this without payment, right? But Lucifer explains that as he can see, all he can use is this evasive ability. To bring his son in the awakened state, he'll need a bit more power. He then asks him to give him 50% of the power he was supposed to receive later. Excited, he says it's like an advance payment. Meanwhile, on Earth at the emergency care center, that gangster runs into Hyung's room saying he's finally back, and asks if he's still unconscious while leaning over the man's bed. A nurse informs the doctor that the guy who causes trouble in the patient's room is there and is trying to wake up the man who took the tranquilizer. He starts explaining that just a moment ago, he experienced something incredible. He dreamed that he visited heaven and hell, and after that, he finally understood that it's better to work in a world that shines than in a dark one, and that once he recovers from this, it would be great to seek enlightenment. For now, they should just live an honest life, let go of the dirty work they used to do, and he'll start right now. Picking up the phone, he calls someone and says he wants to donate his assets. And while the man remains unconscious, he finishes by saying the donor is Hushi Jim. And at that moment, that man wakes up from his sleep. The man keeps talking. Yes, I want to donate my assets. That's right, it's Ushi Jim. Surprised, he asks the person on the phone to hold on a second. Excited, he says Hyung finally woke up, and the guy says yes. But, smiling, he asks since when he's been donating in his name. He says it's all his assets, worth 1,200,000, and that he's doing a good deed for him. Suddenly, something starts going wrong with Hyung, and the gangster calls his name. And as he starts to feel unwell, Hem asks why. He just woke up, so why would he be going back to sleep already? At that emergency center, Hem screams out his friend's name. Back at school in the human world, our hero looks at the sky through the window, until Hana asks what he's thinking about, and he replies that it's been a while since he had a peaceful day like this. And that's why he's just thinking, how long will this peaceful time last? The girl tells him not to worry because he has a guardian angel by his side, and she'll do anything to make his wish come true. And that she, Hana, will always be by his side, both in happy and sad moments. Someone shows up and asks if it's really in both sad and happy moments, and whether she's confessing to him right now. If that's the case, would she mind stepping aside? The angel tries to explain that she thinks she's misunderstanding, that they're just. But Yeonji interrupts her saying, yeah. Then she asks Jackie if he believes she's a real angel, and whether she herself should just tell him the truth. She says she's a fox who's been flirting with him for a while, that she can act like an angel, but is actually trying to seduce him. Our hero says Hana would never do that, and that she's just trying to be her best to help him, though she doesn't help much, and the angel says he's way too honest. The girl stands there all shy, and in another moment she asks for a Marlboro, please, but the convenience store clerk says he doesn't sell cigarettes to students. Meanwhile, at the convenience store, Hana opens her little mouth for something and keeps drinking water, but it seems she drank a bit too much. Frustrated, she thinks this is really upsetting and that maybe she should just give up. Then, Unable to take it, she starts crying. She thinks that honestly, the two of them seem good together. But it's also true that she needs to break them apart. While thinking about this, she cries, becoming a little shy, thinking she was the one who met Jackie first, and that the other girl just came and stole him from her. Suddenly, something says it can feel human sadness coming from somewhere, and Scalpel appears saying it was just her. She asks the guy if her sadness seems amusing to him. He says of course, because after all, he's a demon in fluctuations of negative emotions like jealousy or anger. He says he likes downcast people, and that she's reeking of negative energy right now. She asks if he's really a demon, and he says yes. She says if that's the case, she wants to sell a few grams of her soul, and asks if in exchange he could grant her a wish. Excited, Scalpel says that as expected, humans are interesting. But that souls aren't fun for him. He prefers more twisted collections, and asks if she has any pictures of dead animals. Thunji says she probably has a few, so he asks why she has that kind of image, and she explains she's always liked unique things. He says that if she had been born a few years earlier, she would certainly have had talent to be a witch, but she says the only thing she's interested in is Jackie's love. Scalpel says then the contract is sealed, and he can make her show Hannah the full extent of her hatred. But before that, he's going to merge a small portion of his power with her. The girl begins receiving the power and says it's terrible. As the power spreads through her body, she continues to suffer. The demon says that this is his pride, and it will also be her weapon as a beautiful demonic sword appears. At last, she seems a little excited by the object. Meanwhile, back at the school in the human world, our hero and the angel are walking around while Yunji, jealous, tells them to stop acting like a couple. Our hero notices the girl nearby. Then she says she can't just sit and endure this anymore, faster than anyone, and different from most people. She strikes our hero with a piercing and instant attack to the heart. Hannah doesn't seem to react. Then the girl says that to start, he only has two options. He must say yes or no to going on a date with her. But either way, regardless of his choice, the outcome will remain the same. Out of nowhere, a hand appears grabbing the girl by the face and throws her far away like she's nothing. She asks Eunji since when did she have the confidence to make such a confession, and how dare she try to pierce his heart right beside her. Then she asks Jackie if he's okay, apologizing for not being able to protect him, but he says it's fine, it didn't hurt at all. But it's as if a strange feeling begins to rise in his heart. Hannah can't believe it and says don't tell her that this is, but the other girl interrupts and says there's something that can't be protected by her. She explains that this sword can weaken any man, but for a woman, it acts like a poison. And now that the poison is flowing through her veins, protecting Jackie would become impossible, and Hannah asks if she's saying to give up on him. She adds that besides that, if it continues like this, sooner or later he'll fall in love with her, and then she'll die from the poisoning. Worried, the angel tells her to stay away from Jackie. Smiling, the girl says she can only choose one. Pointing the sword at the angel, she says it's to accept the fight against her. While Hannah watches the situation with concern, Yoonji says, or give up on him and save yourself. The situation is complicated for her, and she's still suffering from the poison. That battle continues while our hero holds his chest. Hannah looks at him worried, while Jackie says he feels really strange, like he's soft and irritated at the same time, and it's very hard to describe with words. The angel says it's alarming that he can still suffer a heart attack, and asks if that's because he's still human. Then the girl says she's already claimed him now, and that it would be pointless to continue as his guardian angel. But Hannah says, you say claimed, but it's not like you really took him from me. It's only a matter of time before I take him back. In the next moment, she feels the effects of the poison. Hanji says it seems to her that the girl needs a little more time for herself. Though they don't have much patience to wait, Scalpel speaks through the weapon, and quickly charging at the girl, Yoonji strikes again. But suddenly Micah appears, blocking the attack with justice, saying she only came to check because she sensed injustice, but didn't expect anything like this. Shocked, she says she would never allow something like this to happen, not under her watch. The girl says the archangel is always so uninvolved, and that this is a matter between the two of them, and she has no right to interfere. Then Micah says she had a little help getting started and mentions Scalpel, and that she knows he pushed this girl to start all of this. Then he asks, why not? Isn't it interesting? And even if I didn't interfere, she wouldn't give up on him. So this fight would happen either way. With his hand on his chest, our boy realizes something is wrong with his heartbeat. Clutching his chest, he says it's speeding up. Micah asks if it was really necessary to put Jackie in this state, and that this isn't something they should do, especially with him being the hybrid. Right. But the demon says that regardless of his identity, the girl's desire to have him is very strong, even if it was just a brief moment of emotion. Donji says that the boy is also attracted to her, and that it's like iron being drawn to magnetism, and it's strong like that. Micah continues that it's not fair to have this fight because of it, unless the angel accepts her disadvantage, and Hannah immediately says she accepts. That she doesn't care about fairness because protecting Jackie has always been her duty, and the archangel says that's how it should be. Striking justice on the ground, she says, very well. If both sides accept the conditions, she will allow it to happen, and whoever loses this duel will unconditionally give up on Jackie. Then she asks Eunji if she accepts this condition, and the girl eagerly says of course, and that they can start. Then she asks Hana if she accepts the condition, and she just takes a deep, irritated breath, but then says that she accepts that she'll take on this challenge, as the archangel says that's the spirit. Enjoying the situation, Yoonji asks if they can now end this way, already charging at her opponent. Hana, on the other hand, prepares herself using her celestial energy, and with a precise move, she dodges the demon girl's attack. Eunji is surprised she used celestial energy, says she thought she was unarmed, but it turns out she has a weapon. Hana questions the girl if she really thought she'd go into a war without a weapon, and that would be a bit illogical. But in the next moment, she seems to feel something troubling, and looking at the cut on her arm, she says the poison is spreading even more. She thinks that if she's like this, then Jae-ki must be too, and he's starting to grow an unconditional favoritism for her. Our hero says that the cute feeling he had before is now starting to turn pink, and he's never felt that before. Hana thinks, he can't be, he shouldn't be. The longer this lasts, the more dangerous it will become. But suddenly, Eunji appears saying not to worry because she doesn't intend to waste time. While the angel defends herself, the demon girl says she'll win no matter what, even if Hana does nothing, and just lets time pass. Hana says firmly that she will protect Jae-ki at any cost. Eunji says that hearing things like that makes her want to win even more. She adds that she'll win this fight and get rid of her, and she starts landing a series of attacks against the guardian angel, who keeps defending herself. Mika says that during the duel, it should avoid using any excessive provocation. Hana says the girl is being controlled by Scalpel, and that he's taking advantage of her uncontrolled emotions. But the girl corrects her, saying she's doing this by her own will, while the demon says that's right, he's just giving her a little push. Eunji tells her to stay away from Jae-ki, and then she can stop attacking her, but the guardian says that's not going to happen. She says that protecting him means making sure no one takes him from her. The other girl says, well then, the only option is to settle this through the duel. Mika orders them to stop the provoking chit-chat and focus on the duel itself. Meanwhile, our hero is suffering on the ground with his heart. Suddenly, a shadow appears on the floor asking, so this is it. Lucifer appears and asks if his weakness is an unexpected heart attack. Our hero says he'd rather have a fistfight instead, and that he doesn't know what to do with this strange feeling. The fallen angel says that the longer it lasts, the more intense it will get, and that he'd be curious how severe the condition could become. He stands there watching the duel from afar. Suddenly, he raises his hands and asks what they would think if he adjusted time a little bit. Then he uses his power to tweak some things, and out of nowhere, it becomes night. But right after, the day breaks again. Mika wonders if it really is morning again, and if they spent the whole night fighting. When a woman approaches asking if this is the school, she says she finally found it, looking quite satisfied. She's a very beautiful woman with dark hair, and our hero, now standing, clutches his chest again. He seems to be struggling deeply with what he's feeling. Excited, Lucifer notices that he's reacting, then says he's clearly reacting. Then suddenly, both girls look back asking, what? Meanwhile, in the human world, back at the school, a girl introduces herself as Ban, saying she's the newest transfer student, currently the most famous celebrity. Then she asks if there's any member of her fan club named Succubus around. A bunch of people start screaming Succubus and begging her to take their soul. The girl says she's so happy just thinking that there are so many Succubus members there. Everyone around starts cheering, calling her Hani, and saying they love her. Right behind them, the teacher also seems very excited, waving his glow stick and calling her Hane too. But right after that, he says he got a little carried away. Pulling himself together, the teacher asks everyone to calm down, since they're in the middle of a lesson. As she walks through the classroom, someone calls out for the succubus, and our hero shows up all dressed up as a fan, asking her to take him. Hana says she wants to believe that's not Jae-ki, and Yoonji says that in the end, he's still a man. Azrael says it shouldn't be this way. For a succubus to have so much success in the human world, she'd have to be exceptional. Micah says he looks like Uriel today, and the man says today is his brother's turn to be the archangel, and that he came because of the new student. The archangel asks if the rumors have already reached the heavens, and that for now Jae-ki is just like that. Then someone slams the desk hard. She says that if that's the case, all her efforts to give Jae-ki a heart attack were completely wasted, and Hana says she got poisoned because of her too. Hyunji yells for Scalpel, demanding he cancel the heart attack effect on Jae-ki right now. The demon says that this was the first successful attack on the hybrid and canceling it would be a waste, but that he understands. And in the next moment, a demonic energy leaves our hero, who feels a little confused. But suddenly, right after, he shouts that the succubus is the best. Yoonji asks why he still likes her even after the power was removed, and Hana says he looks even more energetic than before. Meanwhile, in a classroom, the teacher takes a photo with the so-called succubus. A bit shy, he thanks her for coming to their school, and the girl replies it was nothing. But then he turns to everyone else and says they can only ask for a photo after class, making our hero irritated. The girl asks if that's Jae-ki, and blushing, our hero asks how she knows his name, and she says it's because it's always Jae-ki. She adds that she's happy to be in the same class as him, while the boy says it should be him, saying that other students are surprised too. She explains that she still doesn't know much about the school and asks if he could show her around. She adds that it would be just the two of them. And our hero says, of course, that he'll show everything in the school, even the underground prison. Surprised, the girl asks if there's a prison there, but he replies it was a joke, and the girl, embarrassed, says she thought he was serious. The girls think that if they let that happen, the fight they had would be meaningless. Drawing her weapon, she summons her power to detox the angel. Hamina looks confused and asks why, while Yoonji calls out to Micah, explaining that it requires a temporary ceasefire in her fight with Hana, because since her goal is to get Jackie, she never intended to hurt Hana. Micah, smiling, seems pleased. Meanwhile, in another part of the school, our boy says that's the gym for the regular students, and that it's a room full of sweat, and the girl says she gets it. Then she says she thinks she's sweating now, and that it's a little hot in there. Our hero says he can turn on the air conditioning if it is, but she says there's no need, he should sweat if it's hot, and asks if he doesn't feel it too. But our hero stammers, trying to reply. The girl asks if he can teach her a sport using that ball, and Jackie asks if she meant to say that while practicing sports. Lucifer thinks that defeating the hybrid using only physical strength wouldn't be easy, but if he uses a method to influence his heart, it will spread smoothly. From now on, he can just wait until he becomes less powerful, and then take him to hell. The fallen angel notices 3 people approaching and knows it's trouble. Micah looks up, thinking she saw something. She thinks it's strange because ever since that day, she keeps smelling his scent. Suddenly, someone yells from inside the gym, saying she shouldn't be careless. She adds that she ended up falling, leaving our hero red-faced. The girls open the door to the place and are shocked. Hannah screams, calling her a tramp, while Yoonji says she understands that Hananet is truly losing it, but even if she runs, there's nothing she can do now. And she says she can hear the sound of his heartbeat from there, but Hannah says she can't hear anything like that. So how the hell can she? The girl asks if she really can't feel the vibration that's being transmitted through the ground and says she thinks that. Jackie really likes this girl, while Hannah questions, what seriously? As they both look at the two lying on the ground, the angel says, so you're saying, and asks, Jackie sincerely likes this girl. Stammering a bit, our hero asks if the girl could move a little, and she says that being this close to him, she can feel his breath, and continues saying, you know, if we stay this close, at some point you can start to hear the sound of your own breathing. She adds that it means she can intensify the pace of his heartbeat. The boy actually seems to feel it. Van looks surprised and says it seems like his heart might explode and that he doesn't need to worry because she won't take her hands off him. He thinks he can't escape and that he doesn't know what this is, but it feels like his soul is being drained from him. Suddenly, something catches the girl's attention from above. Gunji asks if she can see it, the red heart in the middle of all the energy coming from Jackie's emotions. And Hannah comments that it's really big and says this isn't possible, that Jackie wouldn't fall for someone's seduction that easily. There from the center of the court, the woman tells the boy that he's crazy about her, that he's in love and that he can't escape, she's got him. Our hero lies there on the ground, defeated. Meanwhile, from a discreet window, someone watches. And excited, Lucifer says that the succubus is doing a good job, that he only needs to wait a few more seconds and the hybrid will be incapacitated. Out of nowhere, someone shouts Lucifer's name, and then Micah throws the justice staff fiercely at the fallen angel. The guy ends up being caught off guard and barely dodges the attack, saying, Michael, you again. That floating heart remains there, and the two girls watch it thoughtfully. Suddenly, they look at each other as if they had the same idea, and both leap toward that huge heart of energy. Fiercely, the two stretch out their hands to grab the heart, saying the ceasefire ends now. As the two girls jump closer to the heart, the succubus notices their move, and with a burst of speed, she also launches herself into the air. She places herself in front of the heart and says she can't let that happen. Angrily, Hannah tells her to move aside, preparing a punch charged with celestial energy. The succubus is caught off guard and just stares. Then Hannah's hand lands right on her face, probably smashing the woman. She drops to the ground while the succubus is thrown far off into a cloud of dust. Hannah says she shouldn't use too much violence being an angel and wonders if she's become selfish. Meanwhile, happy up in the air, Yoonji touches the boy's heart, saying she's got Jackie's heart, but something suddenly flies through the air toward her. It pierces the heart like an arrow, leaving the girl surprised. It's Ban who pulls the heart with her tail, letting the girl fall away. She asks what the hell is wrong with those girls, that they shouldn't rush in like that. She says everything they try will be useless, and in the end, all they'll have is a bitter defeat, and that will happen because the hybrid's heart belongs to her. From within the dust cloud, Yoonji asks how she dares to suddenly appear and claim his heart for herself. Furious, she runs out of the smoke saying that this heart can only be hers. Hannah shouts from the other side that Jackie's heart isn't an object, and that she will protect it no matter what. The succubus watches from the middle as the two women charge at her, while our hero seems to be waking up. He asks what they're arguing about and that he's right here. Meanwhile, Micah seems surprised in the background. She walks toward him, calling his name. She says that there are many there who desire him, but only one of them truly loves him. Our hero grows anxious. Meanwhile, back at the school in the human world, Michael leaps through a window, smashing it, while the fallen angel says it's been a while since he saw her. He says he's noticing that she's still chasing him and asks what exactly caused this obsession she has with him. Micah says he's getting even more shameless, showing himself like that in front of her, and asks if he won't try to run away from her anymore. Lucifer only smiles slightly without saying anything. Eventually, he says that she'll keep chasing him to the end anyway, so there's no point in running, and asks if it wouldn't be better to end this game. She asks if that means he wants to settle this right now. Then he says it's because he needs to protect his own justice, and as she can see, he took his payment in advance and got a little of her power. The woman suddenly looks to the side. The spear starts emitting a strange and powerful energy. Manga asks how he dares to speak of justice in front of its very embodiment. She prepares to strike, saying that Lucifer could never handle any form of justice. He's surprised by her attitude. The woman punches the man hard in the face. However, effortlessly, the guy manages to catch the punch, and Manga asks why he didn't turn to dust. With a delirious smile, Lucifer says it's because he wants to show her the true justice of evil. Pulling her in and punching her in the stomach, the man says the difference between each person's perception of justice should be the strength of the argument. He hits her again, this time much harder, sending her flying. Our hero says, "Wait a minute, so that's my heart." And if she's saying that all that affection for him was just a trick, and if she did all that without his consent too. He thinks it seems like Mika and Lucifer have finally met outside, and as he feared, they're fighting right now. He reflects on which side he should prioritize more, because even though he needs to get his heart back, he also needs to make them stop fighting. Very unsure, he questions what he should do. Reaching toward the heart, the succubus says she already told him that it belongs to her, and asks if she can tell him something. She says that's not his real heart, it's just a metaphor representing his preference. She asks if that wasn't what they were aiming for, hoping that he'd like them more if they took that heart. She concludes that if that's what they want, they can have the heart because she's already achieved her goal. He likes her now. The two girls run off, competing against each other, while the succubus sarcastically says, "Wow, look at this." She asks if it's really such a precious item to make an angel and a demoness run after it, and says that now they're making her want it too. Suddenly, she stabs her tail back into the heart. Dodging the girls, she lifts the heart and apologizes, saying she changed her mind and will keep it for herself. Furious, the two girls ask if the succubus is messing with them. The demoness summons her sword again and attacks the succubus, who skillfully defends herself with her tail, saying she understands she borrowed power from Scalpel, but it won't work. But Yeonji adds that she has her own too. And leaping forward with a kick to the girl's face, she says she has her own power. She yells for Hana's help. The angel says she feels it's wrong to hit someone directly, but if it's to protect Jackie, then she uses her celestial power and summons a heavy shield. The succubus looks at the shield that appeared above her, and suddenly it falls hard onto her as she tries to hold its weight. Using her tail again, she begins to crack the angel's shield, and right after that, she shatters it into pieces. The girl says it was a flashy attack, but in the end, it wasn't as heavy as she thought it would be, so as she planned, the heart is hers. She begins pressing that heart against her own chest, but suddenly, someone yells for her to stop, and our hero seems to have regained control of his own heart. With a furious look, he says not to mess with something that belongs to him. Surprised, the succubus thinks she didn't notice him getting close, and that it must be because he's the hybrid, while our hero walks forward with his heart under his arm. Yeonji watches, amazed and surprised as he passes. She keeps her eyes on that heart he's carrying, and saying that now is not the time to back down, she lunges at our hero and grabs his heart, saying someone had to take it. Frustrated, he says that was supposed to be his heart. Clinging to him, Yeonji says he'll be hers from now on, and if she can't have him, then she'll steal him away. Jack-Hai still tries to argue, asking her to wait just a second, but it seems the girl is already gone. A bit upset, he wonders if he can't even control his own heart, and that it's not fair. In the human world in the school gym, Hana approaches our desolate hero. She seems to feel his pain, while he remains silent and thoughtful. But his expression changes and he thinks, nothing, absolutely nothing is going the way he wanted it to. He thinks that since the moment he discovered the truth, having flashes from the past, of tense battles involving his family, and even giant hellworms, the angel Azrael sending him straight to hell, and Death's death making a proposal before fighting fiercely. Not to mention now the two girls fighting over his heart. He thinks that none of these things reflect his own wishes or feelings. He realizes how disturbing that is. But in the end, that's life. Nothing happens the way you expect, and the sooner you realize that, the less you'll suffer. But our hero wonders whose voice that is. And looking back, he thinks it's Lucifer, while Hana awkwardly assumes Jae-Ki seems like he's getting angry again. She asks if he's getting mad and explains that she was trying to get his heart back for him. But he thinks that even in the middle of a fight, Lucifer can still project his voice to him. Outside, Micah strikes her weapon on the ground and looks angrily at Lucifer while he says he thinks Archangel Micah is nothing without her justice. She replies that for someone who scatters his focus during battle, she declares that she'll pass judgment on him in the name of justice, but Lucifer says he was just giving his friend some advice because he needed it. The fallen angel says, but then the very manifestation of justice was there waiting to ambush him. Looking at the woman, the man says, what a shame, and right after he uses an absurdly powerful ability on her. Back at the school, Eunju walks away carrying his heart. She seems pretty satisfied with her theft, but the succubus appears and tells her to give it back, and that it doesn't make sense to keep it if the heart is already that worn out. But determined, she screams that no, The heart is hers, and since it's with her now, she'll keep it and do whatever she wants with it. The day seemed really beautiful, and raising it toward the sky, she adds that she won't let anyone take it from her. Nearby, there's a large cloud of dust and smoke, but suddenly a strong celestial light appears in the middle of the mess. And Micah appears, launching her justice spear at the fallen angel, catching Lucifer slightly off guard, but even so, he raises his finger and uses his power, not seeming too concerned. With just that finger, he redirects the path of the archangel's spear. Close by, Yeonji, a little flushed, still holds her beloved's heart, but she realizes something strange is happening. Suddenly, the spear that Lucifer deflected hits squarely the heart she was holding so carefully. Falling to the ground, sitting in confusion, she asks what just happened, and Hannah says that now that this has happened, there's no way to repair it. Lucifer points his hand toward Micah's spear in the distant sky and pulls Justice to himself, saying he'll show her something interesting. Then he grips Micah's sacred weapon with both hands. As Micah watches tensely, he says the power is. Very pleased with what he just did, he splits the weapon in half, saying, "Justice." Then he throws the pieces on the ground and says now he's going to teach her what despair is. Smiling, he says that one day this might become a great motivation for her. As Lucifer begins to disappear, the archangel remains on the ground, mourning her broken weapon. Then he walks over to the window above and thinks, "Jackie, my friend. Power is justice, and only true power will allow him to do what he truly desires, and that he will plant the seed of that thought in him." Suddenly, that thought reaches our hero's mind, while Lucifer adds that he'll plant it deep into his head. Hannah calls out to him and says this is the devil's final temptation, and not to let himself be taken. The angel steps in front and says she doesn't care how strong he is. She will protect him, but the fallen angel asks her not to misunderstand. He says it will take time for that exemption to grow and flourish, and that in the meantime, why doesn't she look after that angel over there? Because his heart seems to have been deeply wounded just now. Meanwhile, Micah remains on the ground, devastated and in disbelief. Unable to believe it, she says that justice was broken into two parts. Disappearing again, Lucifer says that when the thought reaches that point, they will meet again. Still worried, Hannah asks if Jackie is okay, and he only murmurs, "My own free will." Also upset, Yeonji says, "Look at what you've done. This has become a real mess." And that this was her chance to make him hers, but Scalpel says that if she truly wants that heart, she should speak directly to him. He says that even if it would just be a psychological victory, then she asks why things went back to normal, and he says possession has a time limit. The woman says that even though she failed to take his heart, he shouldn't forget that she still conquered his body, and that she honestly doesn't care much about the heart, that it's not important to her. That's because she knows very well that Jackie's body is attracted to her. Determined, Hannah says that if she dares come near him again, she will never forgive the girl. But the succubus tells her to stop being overprotective and asks if she doesn't want to find out for herself what Jackie is feeling. She says she won't use any kind of magic, so they should see who the boy is truly drawn to. The angel looks at our hero a bit worried, while he just remains silent. He keeps thinking for a few seconds, then turns around and finally says, "So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel."